26. Preliminaries. It's been an interesting first day, huh? Anko asked. You could say that, her assistant chuckled. We've already got 3 squads in and 2 of them broke the old record. Yeah, not to mention the little fact that 2 of them are rookie squads from here. She smirked. It kind of makes you wonder what they're putting in the water at the academy. Whatever it is, I want some. Get in line. She looked considering. The squad from Suna made it here in just 97 minutes, busting the old record by over 4 hours. The rookie squad with the Yondaime Sun and the Hyuga Eris got in just 40 minutes later. Then about 4 hours after that we got in the squad with the Uchiha and Aburame heirs. She shook her head. And it's still just the first day. Makes you wonder how many squads we'll get through. Yeah, by the time the Hokage arrives it might be really interesting. XXXXXXXXXX. The tower in the middle of the forest was large and had plenty of rooms. Enough rooms that each participant was given a room of their very own. There was a cafeteria, a dojo, a courtyard, medical facilities, and even a pool. After opening their scrolls and having Iruka-sensei impart his message and good wishes, Team 7 had been given a quick tour, a hot meal, and assigned rooms. They were welcome to use the facilities and spend the next 4.5 days as they pleased. There were only 2 rules. No leaving the tower grounds and no fighting with the other teams. They saw Gaara's unit and exchanged very frosty, very formal greetings. Naruto and Gaara had a slight staring contest but nothing came of it. They were outside doing some light training in the courtyard when Team 8 arrived. They seemed a bit beaten up, especially Sasuke. Naruto and his team had actually tried to talk to them but Sasuke had gotten Team 8 moving with few words exchanged. Well, some things never change. Naruto muttered. Perhaps they are just tired, Naruto-kun. Hinata offered. Perhaps Sasuke is still as much of a jerk as ever. Naruto sighed. Come on team, it's late, let's get some sleep. XXXXXXXXXX. Late the following afternoon, to no one's surprise, Lee's team arrived. They were more social and agreed to sit down and have dinner with Team 7. Team 8 and the team from Suna remained aloof. You saved Sakura and Sasuke from some sound ninjas. Naruto was impressed. Yes, Naruto-san. Kami was merciful and put me at the right place at right time to save my beloved Sakura-chan. She thanked me and even rewarded me with a kiss on the cheek. Just a kiss on the cheek. Lee, you saved the girl's life. You should go knock on her door tonight and ask for a proper reward. Kiba hinted. Kiba. Hinata sounded scandalized and Tenten sent him an annoyed look. Kiba-san, I would never do such a thing. Lee stood up and sounded righteous. Please do not suggest such vile acts about my Sakura-chan. Easy, Lee, easy. Naruto motioned for him to relax. Kiba is just having a little fun with you, that's all. Lee sat back down and they continued to eat. XXXXXXXXXX. The next morning, to the shock of everyone from Konoha, Team 10 arrived. Shikamaru, Choji, Ino, how did you guys make it here? Naruto asked, truly surprised to see them. Ino quickly did what she could to fix her hair. She also made a point to ignore Hinata's angry looks. Naruto-kun, I told you we were a great fighting squad. Under my leadership we used our superior stealth and took advantage of fortuitous events to successfully navigate the way here. Huh? Kiba asked, not even pretending to understand. Shikamaru translated. We spent most of our time hiding from everyone. Then we stumbled on the bodies of some leaf nins. He shook his head. Whoever killed them didn't even bother to take their heaven scroll. Then we got here as fast and carefully as we could. So basically you succeeded by sheer luck without really trying. Naruto said with a straight face. Pretty much. Shikamaru nodded. Shut up. Ino began beating Shika to a pulp. XXXXXXXXXX. Late on the 4th day the sound team made it in. It was easy to see there were still some hard feelings between them, Team 8 and Lee. XXXXXXXXXX. On the morning of the 5th day the senseis all arrived. Yo. Naruto smiled. See Nisan, I told you we were ready. Yeah, we totally kicked ass. Kiba confirmed. You've all done a great job to get this far and I am truly proud of you, but you're not quite through these woods yet. Naruto sent him a flat look. What does that mean? Oh, maybe something but maybe nothing. Kakashi said happily. You know what's coming up next, don't you, Nisan? Naruto accused. I have a strong suspicion. Kakashi confirmed. Tell us then. No, I don't think I will. What? Why not? Kiba shouted. Because I think it's good that you're nervous and paranoid and ready for anything. Kakashi said cheerfully, and from stance he could not be begged or threatened. XXXXXXXXXX. Why are we here exactly? Sasuke complained. Looking around, all the members of the 4 leaf teams had come to the meeting Naruto has called in his room. I called this meeting because I want to share information with all of you. Naruto spoke seriously. We're all competitors fighting for the same prize. But we are still all leaf nins and I don't want any of you to be hurt or killed unnecessarily. I want to tell you what we saw the red-haired kid, Gaara, on the sand team do. He then related the events in gruesome detail. If any of you face him, don't try to fight him. You should either run away or try to surrender. I know all of your abilities and none of you would be able to defeat him. That is insulting, Neji snapped. Neji, Tenten spoke. Naruto is just trying to help. Perhaps you find the idea of being told you have no hope against an enemy acceptable. I do not. He faced Naruto angrily. Do you really expect me to run and hide just on your say-so? The very idea is disgraceful. Hey jerk, Naruto is trying to save your life. Kiba shouted. I am sorry, Naruto-san. Lee spoke up, but I must agree with Neji. I will not run away. I certainly won't run, Sasuke said, but I assume you will. No, Naruto said quietly. I think that of all of us here I'm the only one who can defeat him. Is that a fact? Sasuke said darkly. And why exactly are you the only one who can fight him? Let's just say I have something inside me that you don't. Naruto and Sasuke locked gazes. Enough of this, was there anything else? Neji asked. Not from me. Naruto smiled at Sasuke. Care to share what you know about the sound ninjas? No, Sasuke said flatly. But Sasuke-kun, Naruto just shared what he knew. Why shouldn't we help our friends? Sakura said. Until this competition is over, Sakura, we have no friends, only competitors. Sakura looked troubled by this, but Neji nodded agreement. Naruto did what he did for his own reasons. We don't owe him anything. I disagree, said Shino. I will share information with the rest of you. Sasuke glared at him. As team leader, I say we keep everything locked up. Shino gave him a look. It is clear you can order Sakura about like a puppet. Sakura flinched hearing that in front of everyone. But you have no authority over me, you are not Kurenai-sensei. Logic suggests that your selfish actions will damage the goodwill we enjoy among our fellow Leaf Nins. Not to mention the fact that we remain Leaf Nins even now, and doing what is best for the village should remain our priority even now. Therefore, logic suggests that we are best served by sharing information. Sasuke glared at the boy, but Shino failed to notice and began telling everyone what he had learned both directly and from teammates. XXXXXXXXXX. No other teams arrived prior to the deadline. We have a total of 6 teams and 18 competitors. Anko announced. So as per the rules, we shall have some preliminaries to cut the numbers down to something more manageable. I see, Tsunade said. It's amazing that half the teams are rookie squads. Konoha should have some truly amazing ninja in its future. And one very great Hokage. XXXXXXXXXX. They were all gathered together in a large underground arena. Look, Naruto, the Hokage is here and all our senseis as well. Hinata pointed out. He noticed the way Kakashi and the others were looking at them. Hinata-chan, I have a very bad feeling about this. His godmother spoke for a bit about the meaning of the exams and on the friendship they fostered between the villages. But before she could begin to explain what the third phase of the exams would involve, a sickly-looking ninja stepped forward and asked to be allowed to take over the proceedings. In short order, he was addressing them. My name is Hayate and I am the proctor for the third and final phase of the exams. He coughed for a bit before continuing. Now I am afraid that before we do anything else we will have to have some preliminaries. What do you mean preliminaries? Ino demanded. Well, not to say the first 2 phases weren't difficult. But I am afraid the fact is there are simply too many of you still standing. The finals will be held before a number of important guests and we must keep the event fast moving. Therefore, before any of you will be permitted to advance to the finals, we will have some preliminaries to cut your numbers down by half. That got a loud reaction from them. That's not fair, Sakura shouted. If you are a ninja, then you should already know that unfair situations are common. He coughed again. Now before we begin, does anyone wish to withdraw voluntarily? From here on out you are competing as individuals, so you can make your choices without concern for your teammates. Would anyone like to withdraw? 18 silent glares were his only answer. Well, I'm not surprised. Well then, the preliminaries will consist of a series of individual battles. The winners will move on to the finals. We don't want to have a bloodbath here, so if I see anyone in a hopeless situation I will stop the fight. But you shouldn't count on my intervention. To avoid death or serious injury you should yield the moment you feel yourself to be outmatched. He coughed. There was a loud noise as a massive screen was brought out. From this point on your fate will be in the hands of that screen. The names of 2 contestants will appear. Those 2 will then fight until there is a winner. As there are 18 of you we will have 9 matches. Now then, let's begin. All eyes looked up to the screen, all the names flashed through until just 2 appeared. Sabaku Tamari vs Uchiha Sasuke. Right off the bat, huh? Sasuke smiled. All right, everyone but the competitors, please clear the arena floor. The competitors began heading for stairs that led to a walkway from which they could safely watch. Good luck, Sasuke-kun, Sakura encouraged. Thanks, Sakura-chan. Once she had left, he looked over the blonde sand kunoichi he was going to fight. He grinned. I'll try not to hurt you. Tamari gave him a very thin smile. Afraid I can't say the same. Sasuke had no doubts at all that he would win. The girl didn't even have a real weapon out. She was actually trying to fight him with a fan. Hayate shouted for him to begin. Temari leapt back to get some room but Sasuke remained where he was. Temari glared at him. Didn't you hear the proctor? The match has begun. Sasuke shrugged. I heard. I'm just trying to decide the easiest way to beat you without hurting you. Kankuro chuckled. Oh, he did not just say that. Temari's going to hurt him. Temari sent him a dangerous look. Oh, you think I'm no match for you, huh? Sasuke smirked. I'm an elite Uchiha no Kunoichi is a match for me. Naruto turned to Hinata. Okay, does he not remember you kicking his ass all those times at the academy? Hinata shrugged. I think his pride is getting the better of him. Temari opened her fan completely revealing 3 moons. Alright tough guy, I was going to stretch this thing out but since you just insulted my entire gender I'll make this quick and painful. She swung her fan. Great cyclone technique. A gigantic cyclone was instantly created and sped toward Sasuke. He leapt away but was too close and was pulled into it. Helpless he was viciously spun about. The winds cut into him and he cried out in pain. Temari smiled as the cyclone then threw him down onto the hard stone floor. One for me, she said happily. Looking up to the walkway she spotted Naruto and sent him a little wave. Hinata glared. Does every blonde girl you meet have to flirt with you? Naruto held up his hands. I didn't do anything. XXXXXXXXXX. A team of medic nins were soon carrying Sasuke away on a stretcher. Sakura turned to leave. Sakura, what are you doing? Kurenai questioned sharply. I need to stay by his side. Sasuke-kun needs me. Sakura, he is unconscious and won't even know you're there. In any case, he is in good hands, your place is here. You can go be with him once the preliminaries are complete. Kurenai stated. But. Sakura, your duty is to stay here. Kurenai said sharply. Sakura bit her lip but nodded. XXXXXXXXXX. The overhead screen began to scroll through names again. Hyuga Hinata vs Sabaku Kankuro. Naruto leaned in and gave her a quick kiss. For luck, he smiled at her. Kick his ass, Hinata-chan. Yeah, go get him. Kiba shouted. I will. Hinata smiled confidently and headed down the stairs. She and her opponent were soon opposing one another. You know it's too bad. I would have liked to have faced your boyfriend. Kankuro said. No you wouldn't have, she said with certainty. Byakugan. She only needed an instant and sent him a smile. I know your secret. Hayate signaled them to begin. Hinata immediately ran towards him. As they closed over the top of him. As she landed behind him she quickly tapped the large bandaged shape that was carried on his back half a dozen times. The results were instantaneous. Kankuro collapsed to the ground. There was a howl not of pain but of disbelief. The bandages began to come loose and Kankuro stood up. What did you do? She smiled and dropped into a proper Juken fighting stance. I shut down the chakra point that I saw you were using to control your puppet. I'm a member of the Hyuga clan and my Byakugan gives me the ability to see chakra and my gentle fist fighting style lets me close chakra points. Now do you want to give up or should I continue? Kankuro's reply was a yell and a leap towards her. He made the same basic assumption most people did on first meeting Hinata. They saw a small quiet girl and assumed she could not be much of a close-in fighter. Hinata very quickly showed him how wrong he was. In short order Kankuro was down on the floor next to his disguised puppet. As Hayate declared her the winner there was a loud clear cry. That's my girlfriend, Naruto shouted. Hinata covered her mouth and giggled as she headed for the stairs. XXXXXXXXXXX. TENTENBS Akamichi CHOUJI. Choji took on his human boulder form and promptly tried to run Tenten down. This tactic was doomed to failure though. Tenten quite simply leapt onto the wall and stayed there. Choji could not climb walls in his boulder form and so was left with no way to reach her. For Tenten the challenge was not winning but in doing it in a non-lethal way. So she waited patiently for him to finally end his jutsu. The moment he did she threw down a perfect circle of kunai around him. Please surrender Choji. Tenten called down. I don't want to hurt you but I will if you don't give up. You might want to consider it. Hayate said. Choji eyed the kunai buried into the stone and nodded. All right I give. Yada. Lee and Guy shouted together. Neji shook his head in embarrassment. XXXXXXXXXX. Namikaze Naruto vs Abumi Zaku. Hinata leaned over and kissed him. For luck, she said. You remember what Shino said about his abilities? Naruto nodded. Yeah, he's strictly a long-range type. You know his abilities? Kakashi asked. Naruto nodded. What are they? Naruto smiled at him. You know Nisan I could tell you, but I don't think I will. Hinata giggled and Kiba laughed out loud as Naruto leapt off the walkway. Kick his ass Naruto, Kiba shouted. Go get him Naruto-kun. The two of them faced off. I'm going to hurt you kid. Zaku tried to sound mean. Naruto smiled. Oh please, you couldn't even deal with Shino. Begin, Hayate called. Naruto leapt back and worked his favorite jutsu. Zaku lined him up and fired off a blast from both arms but Naruto was moving too fast for him get a beat on. And then there were literally 100 of him all around the arena floor. The original stood back and watched. Zaku took out a few clones before they could reach him, but once they did it was all over. And as Naruto headed back up the stairs he laughed as he heard a loud cry. That's my boyfriend. XXXXXXXXXX. Rock Lee vs Aburame Shino. For Shino, Lee was about the worst opponent he could have drawn. His attack was using his Kikai bugs to drain an opponent of chakra and thus leave him without the ability to use jutsus. Unfortunately, this tactic was worthless against an opponent unable to even mold chakra. Rock Lee took the fight straight to Shino. Shino's taijutsu was good but not anywhere near Lee's. Lee was able to win quickly and without revealing any of his secrets. XXXXXXXXXX. INUZUKU Kiba vs Dosu. Kiba, Naruto shouted. Let's make it a clean sweep. The whole team in the finals. Hell yeah, Kiba yelled and Akamaru barked. No way am I losing to this guy. Kiba, Hinata spoke. Remember what Shino said about his abilities. If he even gets near you with that glove you will be in trouble. He grinned excitedly. Don't worry Hinata, I've got it covered. He leapt down to the floor eager to go. As he did so he fed Akamaru a soldier pill and watched his fur become red. No way am I missing the finals with Naruto and Hinata. We're going all out from the start Akamaru. When the match began he immediately ran through a jutsu Haku had taught everyone on Team 7. Hiding mist technique. Ha, so much better than smoke bombs. With his opponent blinded he performed another jutsu in coordination with Akamaru. Man-beast doppelganger's technique. Two beasts like Kiba's appeared in the thick fog. Kiba called out, Hey you, sound ninja. Any chance you want to surrender? Of course not, an angry voice replied. Your funeral then. With his sense of smell it was child's play for Kiba and his dog to sneak up on Dosu and attack him at will then disappear into the fog. The two of them moved too fast and with too much surprise for Dosu to be able to do anything with his glove. When Dosu finally went down for good Kiba dispelled the mist and was named the winner. Naruto turned to Kakashi. See Nissan we're all going to the final phase. Kakashi smiled and felt an unbelievable pride in this squad. So you are. Dinner is on me tonight. Damn right it is. Kiba yelled happily. Team 7 to the finals. XXXXXXXXXX. Don't keep me waiting, Gaara whispered, hearing that his two siblings inched away from him. Having to stand there and watch all the fighting his bloodlust was on the rise. They knew that when Gaara started talking to himself it was a bad sign. They looked up at the sign above. Hyuga Neji vs Sabukugaara. Finally, he teleported to the arena floor in a swirl of sand. Baki, Tamari, and Kankuro all looked at each other nervously. Neji grinned eager to go. Rock Lee and Mito Guy were also eager. Guy early wanted to match his eternal rival by sending his full squad on to the next round. Tenten was the only one who had doubts. Now she was looking down at the face of Neji's opponent and the doubts were rising. She turned to her teammate, the boy she had feelings for. Neji, maybe you should forfeit. All three males stared at her as if she were insane. You could always take the exam again in 6 months. Neji shook his head. You don't actually expect me to forfeit because of what Naruto said to you. But if what he said was true, how can you get through his sand? It sounds like he has an ultimate defense. Every defense can be defeated. Neji said with certainty. Even if he was strong enough to kill some rain nins, that does not mean I am going to run and hide. Tenten, you cannot expect Neji to just give up, can you? Lee said in shock. Guy shook his head in disappointment. Yash. Tenten, where is your fire of youth? Where is your faith in Neji's abilities? Do not speak of doubts but give him your full support. She knew it was useless to argue with him. So she did the next best thing. She quickly leaned forward and kissed his cheek. For luck, she said quietly. She could feel herself blush. She had never done anything near that forward. Neji looked at her and had a tiny little grin on his lips. Thank you. He leapt down. Naruto frowned. Good luck Neji, he said fervently. He didn't like the look in Gaara's eyes. Do your best big brother Neji. Hinata called out. Is that sand coming out of that gourd? Kakashi asked. Yeah it is, Naruto said. He wondered what Neji would be able to do. The two of them faced off. They both eyed one another in silence until they received the signal to begin. Byakugan, Neji spoke and moved in to strike his enemy's chakra points. But as he tried to strike, the sand rose up to block him. The first time he backed up and took another look at the sand. There was chakra in it. But there was nothing to indicate how he was controlling it. Are you just going to stand there? Gaara called out without interest. He was standing with his arms crossed and in the exact spot he had started in. He had not moved an inch. Neji gritted his teeth and rushed in again. He tried an entire series of strikes, but each one was blocked. Though he did not know it yet, it was hopeless, for his attacks lacked the one element that might have allowed some degree of success: blinding speed. But he was the genius of the Hyuga clan and he was unwilling to simply give up. Not without using his most powerful technique. 8 trigrams 64 palms. He launched himself against Gaara with all the speed and power he could muster. And it did him no good at all. My turn, Gaara said. The sand reached with a frightening swiftness and took hold of Neji by his legs. He was whipped around and slammed hard into the wall. Neji cried out in pain. The sand took hold of him again and again he was thrown against the wall. As this happened, Gaara slowly smiled wider and wider. Neji, give up. Tenten screamed. She rounded on Lee and Guy. What's wrong with you? He can't win. Tell him to give up. Lee and Guy both looked at each other. Guy looked at what was happening. It was not a battle, it was simply a beating. Neji, Guy called out. It is over, admit defeat. Seeing Guy do so, Lee quickly joined in. What is he doing? Hinata screamed. For all his many insults and condescension over the years, he was still her cousin and she still loved him. Stop it. Naruto tightened his grip around the bars. Kakashi-sensei, can you stop this? It's not my place to, he said. Hayate called out. Neji, do you want to forfeit? Neji spat out blood and shook his head. I'm sorry, Neji. Stop, the match is over. Gaara is the winner. Stop. Oh, thank Kami. Tenten shouted in relief. Thank goodness. Hinata spoke. Wait, what he is doing? The sand began to cover Neji entirely from the neck down. Gaara, don't do it. Baki screamed. The match is over, stop. Kankuro and Tamari were both looking on in horror, they knew. Tsunade was leaning forward. What is he doing? It's over. Let him go. You've won the match. Hayate yelled. Gaara licked his lips and began to make a fist. Naruto had a sick feeling in his stomach. I think he's exploding. Sand funeral. There was a deluge of blood on the arena floor. 27. Results. Author's note: this story has received 1,000 reviews. Thank you. Gabriella was humming a happy tune as she was leaving the Uchiha compound. Sasuke spotted her as he was returning from dinner. He smirked. So cousin, what's with the dress and your hair being up? You like it? She primped a bit. Sensei invited me to a celebration at the Namikaze estates. The answer immediately soured Sasuke's mood. You're going to a party there. Seeing that only made Gabriella nod happily. So what are they celebrating? Gabriella smiled. The author received 1,000 reviews. Sasuke chuckled. Don't be a baka. There's no such thing as an author. Gabriella looked at him in panic. Jerk or not, he was still her cousin. Sasuke, do not mock a higher power. Seeing her panic brought a smile to his lips. I repeat, there is no such thing as an author. Gabriella stared at him. Sasuke, if you mock him once more, you will surely suffer a terrible curse for your insolence. There is no such thing as an author. He shouted out. Gabriella took a couple steps away from him and looked about worriedly. Sasuke crossed his arms and grinned at her. See, I didn't get struck by lightning, I don't see a plague of frogs, and I'm not covered in boils. So much for that. Oh, Sasuke-kun. A happy voice called from behind him. Sasuke turned around to see Sakura approaching him. What are you doing here, Sakura? She laughed and held up her left hand to him. Silly. Where else would I be but with my husband? On the ring finger of her left hand was a simple band of gold. Husband. He looked at his own left hand and sure enough he wore a matching ring. Told you. Gabriella sighed and left to go to the party. XXXXXXXXXX. He hadn't thought Gaara would actually do it. Not until the very last second. To blatantly commit murder with the Hokage and over a dozen leaf ninjas watching. It was insane. He honestly hadn't thought Gaara would do it. So Naruto had watched with everyone else as Neji's body began to be crushed. There was a green flash that struck the sand and scattered it into the air as Neji screamed. Then all hell broke loose. Neji! Tenten cried out and launched herself into the air. In a heartbeat she fired off a dozen kunai and other blades all aimed at Gaara's throat or head. His sand rose to block and a stream of it shot into the air to grab her. But before it could reach her, Asuma had thrown himself into it and scattered it. You bastard! Naruto howled and felt rage flaring up. His katana was out and he leapt over the rail. But a hand grabbed him by the collar and hauled him back. Naruto, stop! Kakashi yelled and got both arms around him. Let go of me! He heard Hinata screaming and it killed him inside. Naruto, calm down or the red chakra will appear. In any case, look. Naruto looked down to the arena floor. Gaara was surrounded by a dozen Anbu that no one had known were even there. Guy had caught Neji before he could hit the ground and had carefully laid him down as he screamed for the medics. Tsunade was immediately kneeling over Neji. Tenten was crying and screaming his name, but Guy was now holding her to give the Hokage and the other medics room. He's alive but in critical condition, get him to the emergency room now. Tsunade shouted. The medic team had him on a stretcher and going in a heartbeat. Meanwhile the sand had retreated and was simply surrounding Gaara, who now suddenly seemed calm again. Kakashi leaned towards Naruto's ear and whispered. Let the Hokage and the Anbu handle it. Hinata needs you right now. Naruto looked at her. She was staring at the scene below and crying. She needed him. All right. Kakashi carefully let him go. Naruto nicked his hand and put his sword in its scabbard without bothering to clean it. He took a hold of Hinata and pulled her to him so that she was no longer looking down at the arena floor. Hinata-chan. Hinata gladly accepted his comfort and buried her head into his shoulder. Why? She cried out. Because that Gaara is a psychopath. No rational person would have done that here. Those words would not have comforted her, and so he merely held her and promised he would not let her go. XXXXXXXXXX. One look at the body had told her it was bad. And it was. The arms, legs, ribs had all been crushed, and there was severe internal damage as well. Much of his blood had been lost, and he would need an immediate transfusion to even survive going into surgery. She looked at the blood on her hands. Horrible memories flashed back into her mind, and she felt just a little queasy. She shook her head. She couldn't let it bother her. She would have to be the one to try and save his life. She would leave the proceedings to Hayate and go to the emergency room. But first she looked at the one who had done this. Gaara was standing there with his arms crossed and looking unconcerned, almost bored. He was surrounded by a dozen very anxious Anbu as well as Hayate with his sword drawn and Asuma. Guy and his team were gone. They had all followed the medics. Tsunade ground her teeth. She hated pointless deaths. The deaths that had come during the second phase were awful enough. But this. Why did you try and kill Neji? She demanded. Hayate had declared you the winner. Why did you feel the need to almost murder him? Gaara looked at her without concern. I did it because I felt like it. He answered matter-of-factly. She could see every one of her ninjas stiffen at that. Hayate snarled and Asuma clenched his fists. All she had to do was give the word and they would attack the boy gladly. Hokage-san, the boy's sensei approached her very carefully. He immediately fell to one knee in a pose of abject surrender. His two students followed his example. I beg forgiveness for my student's actions. He has always been one with a strong temper and bloodlust. I assure you that I and his father the Kage shall offer you our sincerest apologies and will gladly offer restitution for this act. I know who his father is. She snapped, and don't insult me by suggesting you can buy us off. This was not an accident and this was not a mistake. This was a deliberate act. If that's how you feel, Gaara spoke calmly. Then just go ahead and attack me. I'll kill you all. Hearing those words, Naruto glared down at the red-haired boy. But there was nothing he could do while Hinata cluing to him. Baki looked at his student. Gaara, in the name of the Kage, be silent. Gaara sent his sensei a hooded look but did not speak further. Baki turned back to the Hokage sweating. Hokage-san, I understand that your anger must be great, as is our sorrow for what has been done. But you cannot punish him for almost killing during the exams. Loss of life is a part of the exams and all the participants are made aware of the fact. Loss of life in the course of these exams is a tragedy. But this was something else entirely. She took a very deep shuddering breath. Your student deserves to be executed on the spot, or the very least arrested for what he has done. But that would violate the agreements made by all the villages who participate in these exams. However, for this callous act, one disqualify him from these exams. Hokage-san, you cannot do that. The Kage. To hell with the Kage. Tsunade screamed at him. You can tell your Kage that his son is not a ninja, he is a murdering animal. Baki stared at her. Such words were enough to incite wars. You may also tell him that he is no longer welcome here. And that specifically includes the upcoming finals. You are barring the Kage from entering Konoha. Baki sounded stunned. That's right, and be very glad I hate war or I would be severely tempted to begin one. As it is, we will not make war on you or end our treaty obligations. But neither will we permit him to enter this village as a friend. She looked at Temari. As Temari has earned a place in the finals, I will not deny her that, and you as her sensei may accompany her. But I want Gaara to leave immediately. That is a severe insult. Baki pointed out. So is trying to murder one of my people in front of me. And just so you know, Gaara is banned from this village under penalty of death. Should he ever step foot in Konoha again, he will be killed on sight. Now I'll give him 1 hour to leave the village. I suggest you help him get packed. She began to walk swiftly away. Now if you'll excuse me, I am needed in surgery. With no real choice, Baki bowed his head and carefully led Gaara and the others out. XXXXXXXXXX. Though no one really wanted it, there were still 2 more preliminaries to be fought. Before that could happen, the blood had to be cleaned up. Guy and his team had camped out in a waiting area near the emergency room. Hinata and Naruto soon joined them. Once the arena was ready again, the final 2 matches took place. Ino managed to defeat Kin, while Shikamaru was able to use his shadow jutsu to capture and defeat a distracted Sakura. Hayate decided to go ahead and draw the names for the final matches out of a hat. They would be Naruto vs. Lee, Shikamaru vs. Temari, Kiba vs. Tenten, and Hinata vs. Ino. But for the time being, most people had other things on their minds. XXXXXXXXXX. A few miles outside of Konoha, Baki signaled for a halt. Temari had been left in the village to continue to train. Baki had felt it to be his duty to escort Gaara and Kankuro back and make a personal report to the Kage. Baki looked at Gaara and reminded himself to keep his anger in check. He was one of the very few people that Gaara had never threatened to kill. That didn't mean he could say anything he wanted. Gaara, do you have any idea what you have done? You have put years of careful preparation into complete chaos. The plan has been ruined. Now the case cage must decide whether to come up with a new battle plan or else abandon this war altogether. And that is to say nothing of the fact that the Leaf Nins will be more alert now. Gaara looked at him calmly. So what? I have never cared what the case cage wanted. Whether we go to war or not, it's all the same to me. Now let's go. He leapt away. Baki swallowed a curse. But what could he do? Not even the case cage could really make Gaara do anything he didn't want to. What a mess, he muttered to himself. XXXXXXXXXX. Sasuke lay in his hospital bed staring up at the ceiling. There were already a number of flowers. His mom, uncle, cousin Gabriella, and a bunch of others had come to see him. They had all assured him, except for Gabriella, that losing in the preliminaries prior to the final round was still excellent for a rookie. Ryuki seemed to have no doubt at all that he would make Chunin next time. His uncle was proud of him. Sasuke shut his eyes. He was certain his uncle's opinion would change if he knew the real truth. He entered the exams confident that he would show everyone his power. Instead, he's had his weakness rubbed into his face. Lee had beaten him before the exams even started. Dosu had caught him by surprise and he'd been in trouble until Lee came to his rescue. And then that girl from Sand had crushed him with one move. All these defeats could only lead to one conclusion: he was weak. How can I save this village? How can I avenge my father when I am so weak? The door to his room opened and a visitor with some flowers entered. Hello Sasuke, I heard you were here and I wanted to come by and give you my best wishes. Sasuke frowned. Thanks for the flowers, but I don't really feel like company. Sakura had been there for over 2 hours until a nurse finally convinced her he was alright and really would be released tomorrow. Kabuto smiled and found a spot for the flowers. Really? I was rather hoping we could finish the chat we were having before. Sasuke shook his head. You couldn't even pass the second phase of the exams. What could you possibly know about acquiring the sort of power I need? Oh come now Sasuke, surely you know that appearances can be deceptive. He thought about Temari and felt a spark of anger. I also know something about talk being cheap. If you really did have a way to get a whole lot of power, you wouldn't be as weak as you are. So you need a demonstration? Kabuto asked. Yeah, if you want me to believe what you're saying, show me something. Kabuto gave him a considering look. All right. He removed his glasses. I don't normally do this, but I'll show you my real face. Huh. And there standing before him, Kabuto let his old blood rise up and showed him what he really was. Sasuke gasped and tried to crawl back from him. What are you? Kabuto ended the transformation just as quickly as he had begun it. He carefully put his glasses back on. Scary, huh? He asked pleasantly. Sasuke stared at him. What are you? He repeated. I'm much more than I appear. If I wanted to, I could have easily completed the second phase and be in the finals. Had I wished it, I could be a Jonin right now. Then why aren't you? Kabuto smiled. My master prefers that I remain hidden. Your master? Sasuke asked, curious. Kabuto nodded happily. Yes, he is a one-of-a-kind genius. A ninja of incredible intellect and power. He could give you what you seek. Kabuto's grin seemed hard. For a price, of course. You have a master, Sasuke said. Does the Hokage know about this master you serve? Kabuto laughed. No, and if you were to go to her with what I've told and shown you, you could get me into serious trouble. But then you would never acquire the power you crave so badly. Don't try to blackmail me, Sasuke. It's rude and completely unnecessary. I want to help you. He gave him a wave of the hand and turned to go. Well, I'm glad we got to talk some more. Wait, you're leaving? Kabuto nodded. That's right. But what about me acquiring more power? And I want to know who this master of yours is. Oh, we'll talk again. But right now the timing isn't right. Be patient for a bit. All good things to those who wait. With that, Kabuto left. Sasuke leaned back into the pillows. What Kabuto had shown him had indeed been scary. It had also been very interesting. The idea of a master ninja who could impart great power to others sounded like something from a story. He knew that there was bound to be a high price for it. But he was ready to pay any price for the power he needed. XXXXXXXXXX. After 6 hours, the doors to the emergency room opened and a tired Tsunade stepped out. Guy, Tenten, Lee, Hinata, and Naruto all jumped to their feet. Hokage-sama, Tenten burst out. How is he? She did not smile, but she did nod her head. He's going to live, she sighed, but he will never be a ninja again. What? Guy cried out. But Lady Tsunade, you are the world's top medical expert. Surely there must be a way. Guy, Tsunade cut him off sharply. If you think I am the world's top medical expert, then don't you think I know what I'm talking about? Do you think I would say such things lightly? She stopped and took a breath. I am sorry I snapped at you, the surgery was extremely difficult. The important thing is that he will live. But he will never regain the mobility or stamina needed to be a ninja. Hokage-sama, I am sorry, but I do not believe you. I believe that if Neji works hard, he can one day fully recover and again be a great ninja. Lee spoke up. Tsunade looked at him sadly. Lee, that is a wonderful attitude to have, but I am afraid that there are limits to what the body can do, no matter how strong your will is. Can we see him? Tenten asked. No, I am afraid not. He will be unconscious for some time. I am having him transferred to Konoha Hospital. You will be able to visit him there once he is out of intensive care. XXXXXXXXXXX. It was well past midnight by the time they were able to get back home. Naruto escorted Hinata home before returning to his. He was not surprised to find his mom there waiting for him despite the hour. You heard about Neji? Naruto asked. Kushina nodded. Hiashi received a message and he told me. It's a terrible thing. Naruto nodded, very tired. It is. Hinata's a wreck. Just be glad that he at least survived. Naruto nodded and headed off to bed. It had started as such a good day too. He went to sleep wondering if he would meet Gaara again one day. He very much hoped that he would. 28. The one who endures. This mission report reads like a damn fairy tale. Tsunade growled. Why are you bothering to protect her? It's obvious who's to blame for this. Tsunade shouted. I agree, Kushina said simply. As I was the mission leader, I alone am responsible for the failure of this mission. I accept whatever punishment you deem correct. For Kushina, facing down the anger of her old friend was a unique experience. But she bore it well enough. To look at her face, no one would ever guess that her supreme leader was upset with her. Tsunade could feel the vein in her forehead about ready to explode. No, Kushina, the fault lies with me for giving that girl another chance. Whatever her potential, Gabriella is a washout. She simply lacks the strength of will to be Kunoichi. I should never have forced her on you. It's a shame, but there it is. You can consider the experiment over. You can keep training Haku as your apprentice until a position on a team opens somewhere. Are you breaking your word then? Kushina asked. Tsunade gave her a sharp look. For ninja, questioning one's honor was a serious insult. Don't give me that crap, Kushina. I made a mistake and now I'm going to fix it. Why are you trying to protect her? Because I am her sensei. I owe her my protection and guidance. I accepted this assignment with the understanding that it would last for 6 months. It has only been 3 weeks. Do you honestly want her for a full 6 months, Kushina? You are her third sensei since she left the academy. The other two couldn't reach her. What makes you think you can? She thought about that. She took a glance at the clock on the wall. It was a little before 11:30 in the morning. You said she did not have the strength of will to be a kunoichi. Let me test that. Give me until 12 noon tomorrow to tell you whether or not I want to keep her for the full 6 months. Tsunade frowned. Why are you so stubborn about this? It's not your fault that she is a poor ninja. Kushina answered in a quiet voice. Minato used to say that there were no poor ninjas, only poor captains. I owe it to her to at least try my very best to help. Fine then, do your test and come see me again tomorrow. XXXXXXXXXX. Outside the Hokage's office, the two other members of Team Kushina waited. Gabriella sat in the uncomfortable wooden chair staring glumly at the doors to the Hokage's office. At one and the same time she wanted those doors to open so she could end this horrible suspense, but she was also dreading the moment. The condemned awaits the judgment. This could really be it. How could I have been so stupid? Are you all right, Gabriella? Haku asked from the seat next to hers. No, I'm really not. She let out a sigh. You know this is probably going to be goodbye, kid. What do you mean? He suddenly looked alert. I mean, I screwed up really, really bad this time and I doubt I'll still be on a team with you. Hell, I'll be lucky if I'm still a ninja by the end of the day. She said morosely. It was a failed mission. Hake agreed. But was it truly so terrible? No one died. The doors opened. Not yet, Gabriella muttered under her breath. Kushina strode out of the office and the two of them came to their feet. Kushina's face was absolutely blank. Gabriella could get no read on her at all. She found that a hell of a lot scarier than just seeing the woman angry like she had been before. Haku, you are dismissed for the day. Gabriella, come with me. Kushina spoke in a normal voice. Kushina-sama, what are you going to do with Gabriella? She's going to punish me for being such a screw-up. Gabriella said quietly. I am going to introduce her to an old custom from Whirlpool Country. Kushina answered, ignoring Gabriella's comment. Huh, Gabriella said. May I come with you? Haku asked. Kushina shook her head. I don't think Gabriella would want you to see this. But I want to support her in her hour of need. He turned to his teammate. Do you want me to come along? Gabriella just looked down at him for a moment. Then she chuckled. Sure, why not? Everyone else gets to see what a mess I am. Why shouldn't you get to enjoy the show too? Kushina frowned a bit and honestly wondered if Tsunade wasn't right. XXXXXXXXXX. She led them out of the tower and towards the training grounds. They walked in silence. Gabriella wondered what her punishment would be. That this was a punishment she had no doubt. She deserved to be punished. Why do I always screw up? Kushina led them out to training ground 39. It was one of the least used training grounds and the furthest from the village but within the walls. She took them to a clearing. It was summer and the sun was beating down hot. Kushina nodded to herself once. Then she turned to Gabriella. Do you know why we were summoned to the Hokage's office? She said pleasantly. Gabriella looked to the ground. We failed our mission, she answered quietly. Look at me when you address me, Kushina said in that same upbeat tone. She waited as Gabriella's eyes slowly came up. What was our mission? Gabriella sighed. Lord Kazumori had brought his prize stallion with him to the village to be entered in some of the races. We were to provide security and make sure the horse was kept safe. That's right, a relatively simple and straightforward C rank. What were my instructions to you? She swallowed. I was to stay in the barn and watch the horse for 8 hours or until I was relieved. If anything suspicious occurred, I was to contact you immediately by radio. Were my instructions clear? Yes, Gabriella answered in a small voice. At the time you received them, did you feel they were beyond your ability to carry out? No. Her eyes lowered again. She instantly felt Kushina's hand on her chin and her face pushed up again. Kushina leaned in until she was almost nose to nose. Her green eyes were angry. Eyes on me. Kushina spat out. Her tone was no longer friendly, though it was not as hot as it had been this morning. Did you carry out my orders? No, the girl said miserably. And why not? She dry swallowed. I was bored and I wanted to watch some of the races. What a weak, pathetic excuse. You were bored and wanted to watch some of the races. It sounded even more pathetic when Kushina said it. You disobeyed a direct order because you were bored. She finally let go of Gabriella's chin and pulled her head back. In a ninja's world, those who violate the rules and fail to follow orders are lower than garbage. Gabriella flinched at the harsh words. Kushina glanced at Haku. While it is true that you are not mindless drones and there are times when orders should be broken, it must be for a much better reason than boredom. You deserted your post for no better reason than that. Kushina gave her no chance to answer. How long were you away watching the races? About 15 minutes. And what did you find when you finally sauntered back to your post? Gabriella hesitated. I asked you a question, Jenin. The horse was dead, Gabriella said in a small voice. Kushina put a hand to her ear. I am sorry, what was that again? She took a deep breath. The horse was dead, she repeated at a normal volume. The horse was dead, Kushina said flatly, though he was just a bit more than a regular plow horse. That horse was Lord Kazumori's pride and joy, a one-of-a-kind thoroughbred racing champion. Lord Kazumori is a wealthy and important man with many business interests. Every year he spends millions on ninjas for all sorts of missions. He has informed the Hokage that he will never hire another Leaf Nin. Because you willfully disobeyed my orders and abandoned your post, this village has suffered a huge financial loss. Kushina let the words hang in the air and simply glared at the kunoichi for a bit. The silence was allowed to stretch out until Gabriella couldn't stand it. Am I being stripped of shinobi status? Gabriella asked. For her that was a fate quite literally worse than death. That was the Hokage's intention. I managed to dissuade her, for right now at least. Gabriella was surprised. You stood up for me with the Hokage. I am your sensei, Gabriella. Even when I am upset with you, you remain my student and I owe you all the help I can give you. Thank you, sensei, Gabriella said humbly. She had expected Kushina to be screaming for her head. Kushina looked her over. Why do you want to be a ninja? Kushina no longer sounded angry, though there was a bit of exasperation to her tone. Whenever someone suggests you give up being shinobi, you dig in your heels. Yet you refuse to give anything near your best effort. Are you a ninja just solely to spite your family? No, I want to be ninja to earn my family's respect. I want my father and everyone else in the clan to look at me and be proud of me. Gabriella spoke with real passion. Then why do you give such a poor effort? Kushina sounded truly frustrated. When you tell me why you want to be a ninja, I believe you. Yet if it is your dream to earn your family's respect, you must work hard to make that dream come true. My son dreams of being Hokage, a ninja named Rock Lee dreams of proving to people that you can be a splendid ninja even without jutsus. Both of them strive every single day and work hard to make their dreams come true. Why don't you? Can you explain it to me, Gabriella? Can you make me understand? She sighed. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm such a screw-up. Kushina took her sword out and she flinched. Sensei, what is that for? Do you have any water or food on you? Kushina asked. What? Do you have any water or food in your possession right now? I have my canteen with me. No food though. Toss me your canteen, please. Not sure what was going on, Gabriella unhooked it from her belt and tossed it to her. Kushina took her katana and put the tip in the soft soil. She began to walk around Gabriella as she watched. Do you know what a ninja is, Gabriella? She watched as her sensei walked around her dragging her sword through the dirt. Someone able to perform jutsus. No, Kushina continued to walk around her. Someone who is well trained in killing. No, killing is merely something we do but not who we are. Kushina had finished drawing a circle with a 5-foot radius around Gabriella. She wiped the dirt from her blade and returned it to its scabbard. A ninja is one who endures. That is what defines us. A true ninja is one who stands firm and endures no matter what. Even in the face of death or the loss of everything, a ninja will endure and go on. For she must have the spirit and guts to never give up. Do you have that inside of you, Gabriella? Because if you do not, there is no point in you continuing this. She performed 3 hand signs, then drove 2 fingers into the circle she had just made. There was a soft golden flash and the light seemed to run along the small gouge in the earth. Seal. What did you just do, sensei? Gabriella asked nervously. I am going to test your endurance. This is an old tradition from my homeland. It was actually part of my academy graduation test. Whirlpool was a small and poor land we did not have resources to waste. Every ninja had to prove they were truly committed before they were granted a Hidayite. I am giving you a test to see if you are really committed to being a ninja. She had a bad feeling about this. What sort of test? It's simple, you must remain in that circle for the next 24 hours. No food, no water, and no leaving the circle. If you leave that circle before, she checked her watch. 11:44 tomorrow morning you are done as a ninja. But Kushina-sama, surprisingly it was Haku who protested. It's the middle of summer and you're not going to give her any water. Kushina shook her head. No, the thirst and hunger are a part of the test. She set down Gabriella's canteen directly in front of her about 15 feet away. She may grow extremely thirsty and hungry but she will not die in just one day. She looked at Gabriella. I will stand up for you and fight for you, but you have to show me you truly want this. Gabriella slowly nodded. I understand, sensei. But Kushina-sama. Haku, Gabriella said quietly. Please don't argue with her on my behalf. I'll accept my punishment without complaint. Kushina shook her head. This isn't punishment, this is a test of your commitment. Of course, sensei. XXXXXXXXXX. She checked her watch. It had been 20 minutes since Kushina and Haku had left her alone. Only 20 minutes. It felt a whole lot longer. She ran her coat sleeve over her forehead, she was already sweating. She was already getting thirsty. She looked over to her canteen. Of course Kushina had left it behind, so near and yet so far. She went ahead and pulled off her dark blue jacket and sat down in the dirt. What an unbelievably miserable day. XXXXXXXXXX. She stood there feeling sick as Kushina did a diagnostic jutsu on the animal. The mocha-colored stallion was lying on its side in its stall unmoving. The horse's eyes had rolled up into this head and there was a tiny trickle of blood from the mouth. Kushina rose to her feet and came over to her, thunderbolts in her eyes. The stallion is dead. Gabriella, what happened? Kushina demanded, angrier than Gabriella had ever seen before. Nothing happened, I swear. I found him like that. Kushina leaned forward and put her face into Gabriella's. What do you mean, found him like that? Was he acting sick? Did he just fall over? Did anyone else enter the barn? She began feeling very nervous and kept trying to calm down without much success. Nothing happened. Kushina's eyes flattened and if it was possible she seemed to get even angrier. You are lying to me. Gabriella, tell me everything right now and if I think you're fudging or leaving anything out I'm sending you to Ibiki for interrogation. She didn't doubt the threat for a second. She swallowed. I, wasn't here when it happened. What do you mean you weren't here? Where were you? Well, I sort of got bored and really didn't think anything would happen so I went over to the track for a little bit just to see a race. But I swear I wasn't gone more than 15 minutes. Kushina pulled her face back and stared at her in disbelief. You disobeyed my orders and abandoned your post because you were bored. Kushina shook her head. Do you have any idea the sort of trouble you are in? I just. Shut up. Kushina screamed and Gabriella wisely clamped down her mouth. If you say anything more I just might have to do something I'm going to regret. Get out of here. Go to the tower lobby and wait for me there. I have to go explain to Lord Kazumori that his prize stallion was poisoned under our watch. XXXXXXXXXXX. I don't blame her for punishing me like this. I deserve it. This isn't like the push-ups. I was stupid and that poor animal died because of it. Why do I always do such stupid things? She looked up at the sun. It was just hanging there in the sky beating down mercilessly on her. She looked at her watch. It was 24 minutes since they had left her. This is going to be a long day. She muttered. XXXXXXXXXX. 3 hours. The sun was still high up in the western sky and she was really thirsty now. She was also very, very bored. She shut her eyes and decided to play a game with herself. She had decided that today was the worst day of her life. She would go through and pick some of the other worst days. XXXXXXXXXX. She stood in her father's study waiting for him. She always hated the waiting. It was a way for him to remind her that she really wasn't that important to him. He would deal with her in his own time whenever that might be. The door opened and her father entered. He gave her one of his cold looks she knew so well. He wasn't a screamer or a shouter. When he was upset he withdrew. He stood behind his desk and looked at her. Your sensei has asked you to be removed from your squad. This is the second time, Gabriella. I know, father, she answered quietly. You are a disgrace to the entire clan and to me. His words were crisp and without feeling. She wasn't even worth getting angry about. I intend to inform the Hokage that I and the clan wash our hands of you. Whether or not you are ever placed on another team will be entirely up to her. And just like that, he began going over the papers on his desk. She was dismissed. I did my best, she said quietly. You always say that. He did not bother to look up from his papers. Leave me now, I have important things to deal with. She left his study and got to her room. I am not going to cry. I am not going to cry. I don't care what he thinks. I don't care what he thinks. She repeated the lies to herself again and again as she slowly cried herself to sleep. XXXXXXXXXX. She had just returned home from the Chunin exams in the grass village. She would be 14 in a few months. She was standing in his study and waiting for her father to come. He entered and quietly sat down. He stared at her with cold disappointment. So you and your team failed to get past the second phase of the exams for a third time. What is even worse, you attacked one of your teammates and your sensei is seriously considering removing you from the squad. She looked at him in shock. Weichel-sensei wouldn't do that. Actually, he would. He is tired of dealing with your insubordination, and attacking your teammate is the final straw. It's his fault we failed. We had an ambush set up and he gave our position away. So, her father said without any sympathy at all. Weaker teammates are a fact of life. They rely on an Uchiha's strength to pull them through. Had you been stronger, his mistake would not have mattered. Her father shook his head. I will see to it that you are placed on a new team. He looked at her with resignation, as if she was a piece of equipment that needed to be replaced. I have decided that I will no longer train with you. What? She gaped at him open-mouthed. Dad, are you giving up on me? Gabriella, my time is too valuable to simply waste. Helping me is a waste. She couldn't keep the hurt out of her voice. Trying to help you achieve what will never be is a waste. He said simply, you will be 14 soon. It is time to accept that you will likely never achieve the Sharingan. People have been older and gotten it. Gutano was 17 when he gained his. That is true, her father admitted. However, while it remains possible you will still achieve Sharingan, it becomes more and more unlikely with every passing day. In any case, I have given you extra training for a year now and it has achieved nothing. But father, I always try my best. On my missions and in training with you and with sensei, I give my best. You give your best, and what do you have to show for it? He asked indifferently. She clenched her fists in bitter frustration. I work and train until I drop. Doesn't it make a difference how hard I work? No, results are all that matter. You may go now. You will not be meeting with your old team again. I will inform you when you have been placed on a new squad. She left the study feeling bitter and angry that both her sensei and her father had given up on her. Damn it. She was the first to admit she wasn't a genius like her cousin Itachi. But she tried. She worked her ass off. And now her father had told her it didn't matter. Why should I even bother then if it doesn't matter? I'm a failure no matter what. She muttered to herself. XXXXXXXXXX. Gabriella. She opened her eyes. She had been trying to sleep. She was relieved to see the sun a little further down in the sky. She was surprised to see Haku standing before her holding a small carton. Kid, what are you doing here? She was still not sure what she thought of Haku. She didn't dislike him, he was much too nice for that. But he was too much Kushina's lapdog for her to think very much of him. He was always going on with that sama nonsense and always eager to make her happy. Haku held out the carton in his hand. I brought you some ice cream. It's a pint of chocolate. That is your favorite, isn't it? From her seat she gawked at him. What are you trying to get me kicked off? No, he said in shock. I knew you would be miserable and I wanted to try and make you feel better. She looked at him and looked at the ice cream in his hands. Her throat was parched. You were here when she started this. She said no food, no water, and no leaving the circle. I recognize the seal she used. Haku explained. It is only tripped if a living being crosses over it. I can toss you the ice cream, you can eat it, and then toss me the empty carton and I will dispose of it. She stared at him and laughed. Kid, I never knew you had such a devious mind. I like it. Haku shrugged. Strategy is strategy whether the mission goal is assassination or delivering ice cream. She eyed him carefully. I'm not taking the ice cream but thanks. I'll do sensei's punishment, besides I think she would know somehow. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina watched the scene in a tree about 70 yards away. She was surprised that Haku had shown up and even more surprised to see what he had brought with him. She was glad that Gabriella had refused his offer. If she'd accepted, Kushina would have failed her on the spot. XXXXXXXXXX. Kid, why are you even here? Despite her dry lips, she smiled. I mean, normally you love following the rules and making Kushina-sama happy. Where does this sudden outlaw streak come from? He gave her a very serious look. You are my teammate and I care about you. I know what it's like to be miserable and hungry and thirsty and I wanted to help. The words were very kind and very unexpected. Thank you, she continued slowly, but you shouldn't worry about me, I'm a screw-up and a failure. I always let everyone down. I'm not someone you should worry about. Haku eyed her sadly. I think everyone deserves to have someone care about them. I know what it's like to be all alone and have no one at all. To live knowing that no one would care or even notice if you died. To be all alone and unwanted is a horrible thing. He spoke so sadly that she couldn't help but feel for him. Geez Haku, what kind of life have you had? He shook his head. That does not matter. Gabriella, you say that I shouldn't worry about you because you think you are a failure. Do you see yourself as a person or as a tool? What? Do you see yourself as a tool or as a person? He asked seriously. As a person, obviously. She shook her head. Why would I think of myself as a tool? Haku shrugged. Until I met Naruto, that is how I saw myself. My father taught me that all ninja are but tools to be used by others. Your father taught you that? Geez Haku, he must have been a real monster. The boy's features immediately darkened. Do not speak of Zabuza-sama that way. He rescued me from loneliness, he gave me a purpose and a reason to live. He was my precious person and I loved him. She held out her hands defensively. Wait, I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to judge. Given what a wreck my life is, I'm in no position to judge. Haku nodded and relaxed again. It is all right. Wait a second. Your father's name was Zabuza. The Zabuza who was a missing nin from the Mist Village. Haku nodded. That is right. My name is Momochi Haku. My adoptive father was Momochi Zabuza. I lived and fought at his side while he was a missing nin until he died in battle against Naruto and his squad. She stared at the polite little boy. The thought he had been living with a Bing Book missing nin completely blew her mind. She had just sort of taken it for granted that he had been raised in Konoha like other leaf nins. Haku, what kind of life have you had? My life is a sad tale and I do not think you would enjoy hearing about it. Actually, I really think that I would, if you don't mind telling me. Haku did not really care for reliving his painful memories. He had told his life story only twice. Once to Naruto and once to Kushina. But if Gabriella wanted to hear it and if it would help her in some way, then he did not mind telling it again. Very well. I was born in a snowy little village in the land of water. I was happy. She listened to the story riveted. He was such a polite and likable kid and seemed so well adjusted, who would have ever thought he'd have been through so much? His father had killed his mother and then tried to kill him. He'd been forced to survive on the streets until taken in by a man who only wanted to use him. Forced to live a life on the run as the partner of a feared missing nin. And why? Because he was special, because he possessed a Kekkei Genkai. Had he been born a perfectly normal boy, he would still be living in that peaceful village with his parents. So I came here and was taken in by Naruto and Kushina-sama. They have become my precious people and I would die to protect either of them. I have also begun to make friends. I consider Kiba, Hinata, and Kakashi to be friends of mine. He paused a bit. I would like to consider you to be my friend as well. She smiled. I would like that. Then she chuckled a bit. That is if you want to screw up like me as a friend. Gabriella, why do you keep referring to yourself that way? Because it's true, I'm a failure. She hesitated for a bit. She hadn't really known him that long and this wasn't something she relished talking about. But he had trusted her, and maybe it would help to talk to someone who might understand. Let me tell you about myself. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina's ears pricked up. This might prove promising. XXXXXXXXXX. I can understand when you say you've suffered because of what's in your blood. I have too, though not to the same extent or for the same reasons. As you may have noticed, unlike the village hidden in mist, here people love Kekkei Genkai. In fact, once you're ready to have a family, you can probably petition the Hokage to establish a new clan in this village. He looked at her in shock. Me establish a clan? Gabriella simply nodded. Of course. Haku Kekkei Genkai are worshipped here in Konoha. If you don't believe me, ask Hinata. She is heir to the Hyuga clan, they are respected and feared for the power of theirs. She sighed. As are the Uchiha. But if your special abilities are respected, then what is the difficulty? The difficulty, Haku, is that in my clan it is not enough to be an average or even a good ninja. To be acknowledged among the Uchiha, you must be a great ninja. She chuckled dryly. And pretty much by definition that means you must have a Sharingan. There are plenty of members of my clan who cannot activate theirs and live as ordinary citizens within the Uchiha compound. We have bakers, cobblers, carpenters, and such, and they are accepted as family. But they are not permitted to wear the family crest outside the compound. She picked up her jacket and showed him the fan symbol on the back. Only ninjas are permitted to wear this out in public. My clan's pride is in the belief that those who wear this symbol are the warrior elite of the Leaf Village. Every Uchiha ninja is expected to be a team leader and a great hero. Every Uchiha ninja must be great. To be great is expected. To be good is disappointing. To be average is frowned upon. To be bad is not permitted. She let out a long breath. I am average, Haku. Once I thought I was good, but I was never great. When I was younger, I would try very, very hard to be the great ninja my father and my clan wanted me to be. I would do my best, and it wouldn't be good enough. I pushed too hard because I was desperate to be great. That caused problems with my first team. I was always demanding everyone work as hard as I did. I was always pushing to try and get our team to do more. I thought I was being a leader the way an Uchiha was supposed to be. But it turns out I was just being a bad teammate. I never listened to the others and couldn't handle any criticism. So I was a screw up and a failure because I tried too hard. But I held on to the hope that once I had my Sharingan everything would change. Every family member with it said the same thing, once they had their Sharingan they found greatness. Well, except for one of my cousins, they all said that. So I lived in the hope that I would get my Sharingan and finally become the great ninja I wanted to be. But I'm 15 now and I've begun to lose hope that it will ever happen. She buried her face in her hands. I worked so hard, but no matter how hard I tried I could never make things work. My original team and sensei turned their backs on me and so did my father. No matter how hard I tried, no matter that I did my best, it was never enough. No matter how hard I struggled, I could never make things work. People turned their backs on me and so at some point, I'm not sure when, I stopped trying so hard. I kind of came to the conclusion that if I was doomed to fail no matter what, there was no reason to work so hard at it. And that's why I left my post Haku. That's why we failed the mission. That's why an innocent animal had to suffer. That's why I'm sitting in this circle right now dying of thirst. I figured I would end up screwing up in some way, so I might as well have some fun. She stopped and looked away. You must think I'm pretty pathetic, huh? But do you understand now why I'm such a screw up? Whether I try hard or don't try at all, I always screw things up. She stopped talking and was surprised to find she felt better about things now. When I was defeated by Naruto, I was ashamed at my weakness. Haku spoke quietly. When he invited me to join him here, I told him I was a weak tool and that he would not get any use from me. He told me he did not want a tool but rather a friend. It seems to me you have the same problem I did. The only difference is that my goal was to be an effective tool. You wish to be a great ninja and despise yourself that you cannot attain this goal. Knowing Naruto and Kushina-sama and the others has taught me a great many things. One of the most important is that you do not have to be the strongest to still be valuable and important to others. I am no match for Naruto or Kushina-sama or Kakashi. But that knowledge does not bother me. I am the best ninja I can be and that is enough. Gabriella sighed. What if it's not enough? I cannot speak for your clan, but I know that for Kushina-sama that would be enough. Gabriella sighed again and looked at the sky. She suddenly laughed. The sun was gone from a darkening sky. She checked her watch. Haku, you kept me talking for 3 hours. Oh, I apologize, I did not mean to take up so much of your time. She shook her head laughing. You silly boy, thank you. You made the time fly by and I appreciate it. I just wish you could stay here until the end of my punishment. If you wish me to stay, then I will stay. She shook her head. No, you've done plenty already. Would my staying help you? Haku asked. Well, yeah, it would. He nodded and got up. Very well then. I will leave to get permission from Kushina-sama and acquire my sleeping bag. Would it be against the rules for me to bring you some blankets? Probably, but I have my jacket and it doesn't really get cold at night during the summer. Haku, why are you going so far out of your way for me? He smiled at her. Kushina-sama spoke part of a quote to you earlier. In a ninja's world, those who violate the rules and fail to follow orders are lower than garbage. However, there is another part. Those who do not care for and support their fellows are lower than that. We are comrades and friends now. I will do whatever I can to support you. I will be back soon, I promise. With that he left. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina had to race home in order to beat Haku back. She'd heard everything the two of them had said and now had a much better understanding of Gabriella. Technically, Haku should not have been there. Part of the test involved dealing with the hardship alone. But Kushina suspected that Gabriella already had plenty of experience with that. So she decided it would be a greater help to let the girl bond a bit with her teammate. Kushina-sama. Yes, Haku. He bowed to her and got a really serious look on his face. I have been talking to Gabriella for the last few hours. I would like permission to go and stay with her until her punishment is complete. I see. Kushina shrugged. So long as you do not give her and food or drink and do not cross the circle, then I have no objection. XXXXXXXXXX. Gabriella was actually surprised and pleased when Haku returned. She was used to people breaking their promises to her. Along with his sleeping bag, he also brought along a small shogi set. She had never learned how to play and so he taught her. As he crushed her in a couple games, he didn't seem to have the concept of letting someone win. They talked some more. For someone a couple years younger than she was, Haku had a lot of life experience. As it got near midnight, they both decided to get some sleep. She put her jacket back on and lay down in the dirt. Her lips were cracked, her throat parched, and she was very hungry. She looked over to where Haku was already in his sleeping bag with his eyes closed. But at least I'm not alone. XXXXXXXXXX. She dreamed. It was her 6th birthday party. And she was so very happy. There were all sorts of family members and other children in the house. There were presents, and cake and ice cream. There were games and laughter. Her favorite cousin Sasuke was there, he was always smiling and happy. Her older cousin Itachi was there too. He had graduated the academy and was a real live ninja. Uncle Fugaku and Aunt Mikoto were both there. She was having a wonderful time. Her cousin Itachi gave her one of his 2 rare smiles. Happy birthday, Gabriella. Thank you, Itachi, she said happily. Are you really ninja like daddy? Yes, I am what they call a genius and needed less time than most. You don't seem happy, she pointed out. He reached down and rubbed her head. Happiness has nothing to do with being a ninja. Itachi walked off and she felt a little sad. Is something wrong, honey? Her daddy came over. She held her arms out to him. Daddy, pick me up. He smiled and did so. She had never known her mommy. Mommy had been a ninja and had died before she'd turned 1. Daddy was everything to her. Daddy was warm and caring and kind. He always made time for her and he always said she was more important to him than anything. Are you having a good birthday, honey? She nodded eagerly. Yes, Daddy. Daddy, will I be a ninja someday like Itachi or like you? Her father smiled happily. Of course, honey. You are an Uchiha and my daughter, you'll get your Sharingan and be a great ninja one day. She had a terrible thought. Daddy, what would happen if I never got my Sharingan? He laughed and gave her a kiss. Oh honey, you will definitely get your Sharingan. And even if you didn't, I know you would still be a great ninja. The most important thing, honey, is that you always do your best. So long as you do that, I will always be proud of you. She put her little arms around his neck and hugged him. I want you to be proud of me, Daddy. I'll always do my best. Her father held her as he laughed. She was loved and happy. So long as Daddy loved her, she would always be happy. XXXXXXXXXX. She opened her eyes. The sky was getting light. She checked her watch. It was 6:08 a.m., about 5.5 hours to go. She just lay there for a bit and looked up. Haku was still asleep and there was no reason to wake him. XXXXXXXXXX. The day was hot and it wasn't long before she was sweating again. Her tongue was sandpaper. She just sat there, played shogi and talked to Haku while she tried not to think about how thirsty she was. Haku truly was a very kind boy. She thought of the other teammates she'd had. She'd thought they'd shared a bond, but none of them had tried to stay in touch with her and were all probably glad when she'd gone. None of them ever cared. Her senseis didn't care, her father, her entire family didn't care. No one ever cared about a screw-up like her. Haku, do you want me to be your teammate? He looked up from the shogi board. Of course I do, he answered in surprise. Why? She asked desperately. Why wouldn't you rather have someone else? Someone better. Because we are friends now and I would never abandon a friend. As he watched, she shuddered a bit and he saw some tears leak out of her eyes. Did I say something wrong? She shook her head. No, Haku, you said something very right. She chuckled. It's funny, I don't have a drop of spit in my mouth, but I managed to make tears. Funny, huh? Haku shook his head. No, Gabriella, I don't think tears are ever funny. She smiled at his concern and quickly wiped away the tears. It's okay, Haku, it really is. She glanced at her watch. Just about 2 hours left to go. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina arrived holding a bento in a thermos. She quickly crossed into the circle to Gabriella's side. Gabriella checked her watch. It's only 11:38, I still have 6 minutes to wait. Kushina gave her the thermos. It's enough, Gabriella, you've proven yourself to me. Gabriella didn't want to argue, she swiftly unscrewed the thermos and brought it to her lips. It wasn't water but sweet tea and ice cold. She greedily drank it down. It actually hurt her throat a little, but she didn't care. She emptied the thermos and looked at Kushina appreciatively. Thank you. It's quite all right. I have a couple canteens with water and this is yours as well. She handed over the bento. Gabriella thought it smelled wonderful, but she decided she could wait just a bit now that her thirst wasn't consuming her anymore. Kushina-sensei, can I ask you something? Kushina nodded. If I never get my Sharingan, if I am never a great ninja, but I always give you my very best, would that be enough? She pleaded. Gabriella, Kushina put her hands on the girl's shoulders. Of course it would. All that I have ever asked from you is that you give me your full effort. You can be a fine ninja without a keke genkai. My husband was considered the greatest ninja this village ever produced and he never felt the lack. Be the best ninja you can be and I promise I will be very happy that. Gabriella nodded. Kushina-sensei, I know I've screwed up terribly. And I know I don't deserve it. But I beg you to give me just one last chance. She took a kunai out and cut her left palm open. I swear on my own blood that if you give me one more chance, then I really will give you my best at all times. I won't make any more of those stupid mistakes and I will try to be a really good ninja and a really good teammate. Kushina took her hand and performed a medical jutsu to heal her cut. She gave Gabriella a gentle smile. My dear, you don't need to ask. You've earned another chance. I'll make you a promise. I'll do everything in my power to help you be the best ninja you can, and I will never hold it against you that you lack the Sharingan. Gabriella nodded gratefully, and believed Kushina would keep her promise. XXXXXXXXXX. So what's the verdict? Tsunade asked. She is staying my student. Kushina said firmly. Tsunade knew it was a mistake but wouldn't argue. You'll be sorry. Kushina shook her head. No, I really don't think I will. 29. Preparations. The month-long interlude until the finals passed quickly. All the various participants were busy and found themselves with much to do. In the week leading up to the finals, Konoha's hotels and inns filled to near overflowing, and everywhere there were strange faces and odd accents. In lands far from Konoha, preparations also went ahead. XXXXXXXXXX. I thank you for your hospitality, Keisuke-sama. He sipped the rice wine. You are most welcome, Otokage-sama. The Keisuke sipped of the wine as well. It is good for allies to sit and share a meal before the start of a great war. Yes, it is. I am most pleased to know that your doubts about our venture have been dispelled. The Keisuke nodded. Yes, I will admit I was prey to some doubts. After all, the idea of having to be seated next to one of Sanin as my forces invade her village was worrying. However, what has now occurred I view as a blessing. With Gaara's fool actions, I shall be at the head of my army as it attacks the Leaf Village. Orochimaru smiled. A bit of a wild one, is he not? Your son. The Keisuke frowned. He has my blood, but he is not my son. He is but a beast. In that, if in nothing else, Tsunade was correct. Oh dear, such loathing and hatred I hear in your voice. It makes me wonder why you did not have the lad killed long ago. The Keisuke frowned but said nothing. In any case, I am truly pleased you did not try to back out of our arrangement. Orochimaru laughed lightly. Otherwise I might have had to kill you and take your place. The Keisuke sent him an annoyed look. I do not find that amusing. My apologies, my humor is often misunderstood. The Keisuke shook his head. In any case, let us have a toast. He lifted his cup. To the humbling of the Leaf Nins and their insufferable pride. Orochimaru lifted his own cup. To the utter destruction of Konoha. The two cages clinked their cups and drank, sealing their bargain. XXXXXXXXXX. You and your squad will be going on an extended mission to Tea Country. It is expected to last at least a week. Iruka stated. I see. Kurenai accepted the mission file from Iruka and glanced at it. Doesn't look too difficult. Iruka frowned. No, it's a rather pedestrian recovery mission for a local lord. But for some odd reason your team was specifically requested. That is a bit odd. Especially considering I've never heard of this lord before. Still, a mission is a mission. Kurenai said. But Kurenai-sensei, Sakura spoke up. We'll miss the finals of the Chunin exams. I had 2 tickets and I was hoping to go with Sasuke-kun. Sasuke sighed. Sakura, we can't refuse a mission just because the timing's inconvenient. But Sasuke is correct, Shino added in his staccato voice. This mission has priority over personal indulgences. Seeing she was defeated, Sakura just nodded and hung her head. Kurenai was pleased that things had been settled without her needing to intervene. XXXXXXXXXX. His mom, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kakashi were all staring at him as he sat in the Hokage's office. They all said that this was just a small examination, but he had the distinct feeling that a talk with Ibiki would feel similar. So how many times have you been able to summon the red chakra? Jiraiya asked. Well, I get extra chakra whenever I get angry. But the red chakra has only actually appeared twice. The first time was when I was attacked by those Jonins back in the academy, and the other time was in Wave Country where Kakashi saw. Are you able to summon it any time you like? Jiraiya questioned. Naruto shook his head. No, it only comes when I'm really angry. And as soon as I stop feeling angry it goes. Any after effects when it leaves you? Naruto shrugged. I just feel weak. I've noticed that the more of it I use the weaker I feel when it goes. I see. Jiraiya said seriously. He was the only one asking questions. The others were just listening to everything that was being said. Kakashi mentioned arms that came out of the red chakra to attack and kill your enemies. How did those work exactly? I don't know, Naruto answered truthfully. When I have the red chakra it feels like a part of me, like another skin. I just think of what I want and it does it. Kakashi said you made 6 at once. Do you think you could have made more? I could have made 10. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. 10. Not 8, not 12, 10. Naruto nodded. You seem very certain of that number. Well, I know that's my limit for making arms. Did you make that many the first time? No, the first time I had no idea I could do it. I just made one sort of on instinct. So you've never made more than 6 then? Jiraiya questioned. Nope. Then how do you know you can make 10 but not 11? Naruto thought about it. I don't know, I just do. Jiraiya shared a look with the others. Jiraiya slowly nodded to himself. Kakashi felt a strong evil taint from that chakra. It was easy to tell it was demonic. When you gain the red chakra, do you sense that? Naruto shook his head. Evil. No, I feel powerful and all my senses are heightened and I can move like lightning. But after a while I start to feel. What? My body starts to ache. It's like if I keep the red chakra too long I start to get used up. Do you feel pain? Tsunade asked. Naruto shook his head. No, I don't feel pain. It's more like I can just tell my body is starting to reach its limits. Alright Naruto, I want you to relax for a bit while I examine you. With that Jiraiya cast a jutsu and placed his hand over Naruto's seal. After about 10 minutes he finally ended the jutsu and withdrew his hand. Well? Kushina asked nervously. The seal is still firmly in place but it has weakened a bit making it easier for Naruto to access the Kyuubi's chakra. Jiraiya stated. Is there any chance of the seal failing? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya shook his head. No, though in a few years it may need to be recast. He paused to consider. I could add a layer to what's there now. That would completely prevent any of the demonic chakra from leaking through. I think that would be a good idea. Kushina said. No, Naruto said flatly and began to rebutton his shirt. The 4 other people in the room looked at him in surprise. Naruto, I don't think you truly understand how dangerous this red chakra is to you. Tsunade said to him. Godmother, I understand that it's dangerous to me. But do you understand that without it I'd be dead now? That had them looking at one another. The first time I would have definitely died without it. The second time I would have been defeated and probably died then as well. If I were to run up against someone like Gaara or a really powerful Jonin, my only hope might be the red chakra. I can't risk losing such a powerful asset. Jiraiya frowned. He has a point. He looked at Tsunade. That red chakra of his really is one hell of an ace in the hole. Tsunade frowned. It is, but the dangers it represents. If there were any danger of me losing control to the Kyuubi, then I would be the first to ask that it be resealed. But when I use the red chakra, it's me that's in control, an angry me but me. Tsunade considered it. The world was not a safe place for any shinobi, but especially not for Naruto. When he said he might need that extra power, he might well be right. She let out a sigh. Very well, for the time being we will leave it as is. But from now on Jiraiya will be examining your seal each year, and should there be any danger at all of the seal failing, then he will reseal it. Naruto nodded. XXXXXXXXXX. Neji at on a bench in the Hyuga courtyard looking out at the sunset. His crutches were leaning against the bench beside him. The Hokage had assured him that in time he would be able to walk with only a slight limp and would be able to have a normal life. He chuckled to himself. Yes, I could be a fine carpenter or mechanic. He shook his head at the irony of it all. He had always known how cruel fate could be. He had been born into the cadet branch of the Hyuga, his father murdered to save his uncle, and he'd had the curse seal placed on him. Yet in spite of that, deep in his heart he had longed to prove to one and all that even if he was in the cadet branch he was the most powerful of the Hyuga. He had dreamed of defying his fate. And fate had punished him in the cruelest way possible. I was given just enough time to glimpse what a great shinobi I might have been. And then it was taken from me in an instant. It seems my birth was no mistake. I was never meant to be great. In the sky he saw a couple birds flying free. He quickly looked away. XXXXXXXXXX. Hey you, a loud voice called out. Shikamaru lifted his head to see a somewhat familiar blonde girl climbing the hill towards him. Who, me? She stopped and glared. Do you see anyone else on this hill? He looked her over lazily. She's kind of hot, but I bet she's really troublesome. She was blonde after all, and the blondes he knew, Ino, Naruto, Tsunade, were all loud, energetic, and troublesome. Still, you're the Sand Kunoichi, Temani, right? It's Temari, she corrected. And you're my upcoming opponent Shikamaru. He nodded. It was true though he hadn't given it much thought. What can I do for you? I had to leave before your match, so I don't know your abilities. He shrugged. I use shadow jutsus to take over control of my opponent's body. Anything else? She just stared at him and began to turn a bit red. What do you think, I'm an idiot? You expect me to believe that just because you say so? He sighed. This girl could give Ino lessons in being abrasive. Fine. He ran through some hand signs, shadow possession technique. His shadow stretched out and before she realized it she was caught. There, believe me now. I don't believe this, I can't move. She looked at the boy who had just taken her with no effort. True, she hadn't actually come here expecting a fight. But for a ninja, being taken by surprise was not an acceptable excuse. Alright, you've convinced me, now let me go. Shikamaru smirked. He knew he'd regret it, but for some reason he wanted to play with her for just a little bit. Mimicking his movements, he stood up and then sat back down again, compelling her to lie down in the grass near him. Since you've come all this way, why don't you join me for a little while? Hey, what do you think you're doing? She panicked as she was helpless and he had her lying down on the grass. Listen, you pervert, I swear if you try anything I'll beat you to death with my fan. He chuckled. Relax, all I want is for you to watch clouds with me for a few minutes and then I'll let you go. Watch clouds, she said mockingly. What kind of brainless idiot would do that? He felt a small spark of anger. And what is wrong with watching clouds? They have a far better existence than we do. The jutsu allowed her to turn her face just a bit. She was able to see the upset look on his. You're serious? You actually spend your time watching clouds? That's right. Why aren't you training, or working on jutsus, or doing something else that would help you in our match? Too troublesome, he answered. Anyway, shouldn't you be glad I'm not doing any of that stuff? I'm just wondering what kind of shinobi would actually spend his time watching clouds. A lazy one. She laughed. He looked up and of course she did as well. What? I just thought you had a nice laugh. She gave him an evil grin. Listen, you idiot, if you think flirting with me will somehow get me to take it easy on you during our match, you can forget it. I'm not flirting with you, and the truth is I really don't care whether or not I win our match. He set his head back down and so did she. You don't care about winning? Nope. Tell me something. How did such a lazy and unmotivated ninja manage to get to the finals? I have no idea, it's a mystery. She laughed again. Damn, she really does have a nice laugh. Not like that braying of a nose. Anybody ever tell you that you should train a lot harder? Only my mother, my teachers, Naruto, Hinata, Kiba, Kushina, my sensei, my teammate Ino, and a few others. Well, feel free to add my name to the list. He chuckled. All right, I've tortured you long enough. He ended his jutsu. You're free now. He'd expected her to stomp off, but she instead remained where she was. I said you were free. I heard you. She sighed. The truth is I'm on my own. My teammates and my sensei left after the preliminaries and no one has come back. I've done nothing but train for the last 3 weeks and I'm bored. She chuckled. I'm so bored, in fact I find looking at clouds to be entertaining. And I still have another week to go. She paused for a bit. Besides, you're not as annoying most guys. Gee, thanks. She laughed again. He lifted his head to look at her. She'll probably say no, but what the hell? Do you know how to play shogi? Yes, my sensei taught me. Want to have dinner with me and my family? Afterwards we can play. She looked at him in surprise. You're actually inviting me to have dinner with your family? Why not? Do you want to come? She considered it for a moment. He's kind of cute in a dorky sort of way. He doesn't compare to that Naruto though. Still, okay. But you have to realize 2 things. First, you have no chance at all with me, and if you try anything I'll snap you in half, got it? He looked at her and lifted an eyebrow. Does that mean you're not going to scrub my back? She put her head back and roared. When she was finally able to talk again, she continued. All right, and second, understand that I won't take it easy on you in our match just because I'm breaking bread with you and your family. He nodded. All right, since we're being so upfront with each other, there are 2 things you should know. First off, I never take it easy on opponents in shogi. Fine, and what's the other thing? You'll be meeting my mother and she is the scariest woman in the world. She laughed as though that were joke. He shrugged. He'd warned her. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kushina was wrapping up a training session with her team. Since passing her test, Gabriella had improved markedly. She had lost her sarcastic attitude, well, mostly, and truly worked hard. Kushina had not failed to notice that she no longer called Haku kid, and the 2 of them seemed to have gotten closer. They had completed 2 C ranks without difficulty. Good training session, you two. The finals of the Chunin exams are in 2 days. I've decided to go ahead and give you the next 2 days off as a little reward for all your hard work. By the way, Gabriella, do you have plans to attend the finals? No, sensei. She gave her mouth a little bit of a twist. I don't rate sitting with my clan in their section. Kushina smiled. Well, it just so happens the Hokage has invited me to sit with her in her private box. So I won't need my ticket. I was going to bring Haku with me so we could cheer on my son and his team. Why don't you and Haku go together? Gabriella smiled and turned to the boy. Well, I'm game. What do you say, Haku? He smiled widely. I would like that very much. Well, that's settled then. She handed Gabriella the tickets. You two have fun. XXXXXXXXXX. You know you don't have to keep walking me back to my hotel each night. Shikamaru shrugged. A gentleman does not let a lady walk home alone. Ow. He rubbed the top of his head. What was that for? That was for thinking I need anyone to watch out for me. Tamari informed. HMPH, well, good night. He turned immediately to leave. She sighed. I had a good time. She called after him. He stopped and looked back at her with a smile. So did I. Again tomorrow. It's the last night before the exams. She nodded. I'd like that. He casually waved to her and left. She stood there outside the hotel and watched him go. As strange as it seemed, she liked him. She liked his family too. His father was lazy but sweet and funny. His mother was indeed a bit scary, but she was loving and protective of her family. She liked all of them, and it had amazed her that they had welcomed her even knowing she would be fighting their son. The Naras were good people. They weren't the enemy, and yet they were. She shook her head and hurried inside. XXXXXXXXXXX. The following afternoon, the day before the finals, Baki finally returned. Where have you been? Tamari asked, upset but also very relieved. I thought you wouldn't even be here for my match. He leaned in close to whisper to her. There will be no match, Tamari. Since Gaara will not be in the arena, there is no reason for you to be either. We are leaving immediately. You'll meet with Gaara about 5 miles from here. She felt the blood drain out of her face. Then, she whispered just as quietly. The operation is still on. She'd hoped it would have been cancelled. Baki nodded once. It is. Adjustments have been made, but it goes forward as planned. Now let's go back to the hotel. She made a decision. Sensei, I will meet you at the hotel in 20 minutes. She leapt away before he could respond. XXXXXXXXXX. Shikamaru. He opened his eyes to see Tamari leaping towards him. Hey Tamari, have you come to watch some clouds with me? She knelt down beside him and shook her head. No, I've come to bring you some really good news. She gave him a smile, though it was not heartfelt. It looks like you're going to win your match tomorrow. What? You mean you're going to let me win? In a way, my government is pulling me out of the exams. What? He was so excited he actually sat up. They let you train here all this time just to have you boycott at the very last minute. That makes no sense. She shrugged. Well, whether it makes sense or not, my orders are to leave the village immediately. Wait a minute, are you not even coming to dinner tonight? She shook her head. Then this is goodbye. He suddenly felt a weird empty feeling in his stomach. This is goodbye. I shouldn't even be here right now. But you and your family have been very kind and I thought I owed you at least this. He looked at her face and suddenly realized he would miss her terribly. When did that happen? I've only known her a week. When will I see you again? She looked at him in surprise and stood back up. You won't, this is goodbye. She turned to leave. I thought you liked me. She stopped. She slowly turned back around. I do like you, Shikamaru, I wouldn't be here now if I didn't. She looked at him and knelt back down beside him. Shikamaru, we are ninjas from two different villages. You knew from the start that when the exams were over I'd be going home. Yeah, I guess, he sighed. I guess I didn't want to think about that. She looked at him sadly. Well, the future has a way of coming whether you want it to or not. She looked at him. Shikamaru, I want you to know something, whatever happens tomorrow and after tomorrow, I truly liked being with you and your family. If you should ever wonder, please know that is the truth. She reached out and hugged him. Stay safe, you lazy baka ninja. He looked at her in surprise. You don't need to worry, I'll get through the finals just fine. She let go and smiled. Of course you will, but just in case. She leaned in too fast for him to do anything and she pressed her lips to his. His lips were very soft. When she pulled back and opened her eyes, she saw the stunned look on his face. For luck, she whispered. Then she got to her feet and leapt away. She moved as fast as her legs would take her. She heard him call her name, but she didn't stop or turn around. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto woke up an hour early. He was way too excited to go back to sleep. He showered, dressed, and got downstairs for breakfast with his mom and Haku. When he got done, he was ready to leave and meet everyone. The two of them wished him luck as he hurried out the door. He hurried over to the Hyuga mansion where he met Hinata. Hand in hand they went to the bridge where they met Kiba and, amazingly, Kakashi right on time. Then together as a unit, Team 7 headed for the arena. Naruto and Hinata were walking hand in hand as they usually did. As they approached the huge structure, he could feel his heart pounding. He looked to his girlfriend and smiled excitedly. This is going to be an amazing day, Hinata-chan. This will be a day we will always remember. He had no idea. 30. Opening act. Gaara was standing off a ways from everyone else, just like always. Baki approached him slowly and carefully. Gaara was staring off into the distance in the direction of the Leaf Village. At least he hadn't started talking to Mother yet. Gaara, Baki called to him. What? Gaara did not bother to turn around. You understand that you are the key to this battle. Everything depends on you. I know, now leave me alone. Gaara said brusquely. Baki nodded and withdrew. He returned to report to his master. Gaara seems relatively calm and under control. Baki reported. The cage frowned, though it was hidden beneath his veil. He was not in his formal cage robes, for one did not go to war in such. He wore a sand-colored vest and pants with many pouches for scrolls and weapons. Everything with Gaara is always relative, except danger, of course. Very well, everything remains on schedule. Go ahead, take your position and be ready. Baki nodded and disappeared in a swirl of wind and sand. XXXXXXXXXX. Kankuro was humming a happy tune as he did a little last-minute maintenance on his puppet. How can you be in a good mood? A sharp tone questioned. He calmly looked up from his work and saw Tamari standing over him, frowning and upset. Why wouldn't I be? We're about to start a war here. Kankuro chuckled. I do realize that, sis, but it's not like this is the first time we've ever been in a fight. This is different, a lot of people are going to die today for us and them. And nothing says we won't be among the dead. Kankuro shrugged. That's true every day when you're a ninja. You become shinobi and you take your chances. I'm as ready as I can be and I'll be careful when we go in. And if that's not enough. He shrugged again. Then being gloomy now won't make a difference. Anyway, I thought you'd be eager to get going. No, she said flatly. I'm not eager for causing so much useless death and destruction. Kankuro eyed her carefully and took a quick look around to make sure no one was listening. Careful what you say. He spoke quietly. That sounded defeatist and you can get into trouble even with who you are. She frowned, knowing Kankuro was right. Of course, she answered in a little more than a whisper. The truth is always dangerous. Before Kankuro could reply, Baki appeared near them. He frowned at Kankuro. Are you still working on your puppet? Kankuro sent him a reassuring smile. No need to worry, I'm just doing a little last-second maintenance. Get done with it quickly. We begin in 30 minutes. Where are our allies? Tamari asked with a frown. Her father had agreed to this as a way to eliminate his main competition and revive the economy of their village. But he would never have done anything on his own without the incessant goading of Orochimaru. It was he that was the mastermind behind this attack and this war. So far as she was concerned, they were all being used to help that damn snake settle some scores. He is with his troops outside the walls. At the signal sound, ninjas will attack from within and from without on the east wall as we attack the gate on the south wall. So far all is going according to the new plan. That'll change, she said with depressing certainty. She had never been eager for this. When Baki had first announced the plan to attack Konoha, she had argued against it. But once the decision was made, she resigned herself to do her duty as well as she could. She looked towards the Leaf Village and thought about Shikamaru and his parents. She hoped they would survive. XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade smiled as Kushina sat next to her in the private box. You know, if things had gone differently, the cage would be sitting there right now. Kushina smiled. Well, I'm sorry that I'm only a clan head. Are you kidding? Do you think I wanted to spend a couple hours with that stuffed shirt? She frowned a bit. Do you know he decided to pull his own daughter out of the finals just yesterday? It's a bad sign, and I'm afraid our relations with Sand may suffer. Are you regretting your decision with Gaara? But Tsunade shook her head. No, given what he did, there was never a chance he would be allowed to compete. I stand by my decision 100%. She smiled, wanting to change the subject. And how was my godson this morning? Kushina laughed, bouncing off the walls. I think he got up about an hour early. He is absolutely eager to get to it. Well, of course he is. Tsunade said happily. Chunin is another step closer to Hokage. I'll tell you the truth, if anyone else but Naruto wins this tournament, I'll be amazed. Kushina looked at her. While I'm sure Naruto would appreciate the support, shouldn't you at least pretend to be a little more impartial? I managed to resist the urge to bet on him. That's as impartial as I can manage. XXXXXXXXXXX. This is where we part ways. Kakashi told them as they approached the arena floor entrance. Do your best. I'll be cheering from the stands. Naruto gave him a smile, bursting with confidence. Hey, you know we will. Kakashi smiled at them. Oh, and do keep in mind that even though only one of you can be the last one standing, you only have to look impressive to those judging you to be promoted. Naruto looked at his teammates. Hinata-chan, Kiba, we're going to have to fight each other at some point. Let's think of it as a really awesome spar and do our best. And no matter how it ends, no hard feelings. Of course not, Naruto-kun. Hinata agreed. Kiba grinned. Just remember, you said that after I kick your butt. With confident smiles, the three of them entered the arena floor. XXXXXXXXXX. They had agreed to meet at the stadium. Haku was already seated when he spotted her. He was so surprised he actually had to stare for a bit to make sure it was really her. Gabriella. She smiled at him. Who else? Wow, you look really beautiful. His simple compliment made her blush a bit and smile wider. Arigato, Haku. Do you like my kimono? She twirled a bit to show it off to him. It was made of finest silk. It was a dark navy blue with light-colored flower imprinted on the lower half. She had also put her hair up and put on some makeup. It is lovely, he said. I have never seen you out of your ninja gear before. She sat down next to him. She didn't fail to notice that she was receiving her share of interested looks from the men in the audience. Every kunoichi is still a woman, and every woman likes to dress up every once in a while. She looked out onto the field below where 7 genins were lined up with their proctor. I take it I haven't missed anything yet. No, they have yet to start. You haven't met Naruto or any of his teammates yet, have you? She shook her head. No, I haven't. I kind of get the feeling Kushina-sensei is a bit nervous about introducing me to him. Haku frowned a little. Well, Naruto has some hard feelings towards the Uchiha clan. Gabriella sent him a mischievous little grin. Well, at least we have that much in common. She looked at him for a moment. Say, Haku, how old are you? 15. Why? Oh, I thought you were around 13 or so. She sighed. It's too bad that you're my age. Why? He asked, confused. With a wicked smile on her lips, she wrapped herself around his arm and leaned into him. She batted her long eyelashes and spoke in a low and husky. Well, I was sort of hoping I could be the older, more experienced woman who teaches you about love. What do you think, Having her so close, he suddenly felt his temperature rise and his heart begin to beat faster. He was looking into her brown eyes and feeling a mounting panic. She giggled and with one finger gently tapped the bridge of his nose. Just kidding. Maybe. She sat back into her seat, but left an arm around his. He looked at her arm nervously. You don't mind, do you? She asked innocently. Teammates and friends should be close after all. Oh, no, I don't mind, Gabriella. He paused a bit. I like being close to you. he said quietly. She smiled and was about to say something when the crowd began to stir. It looked like things were about to begin. XXXXXXXXXX. Kabuto sat back in his seat and relaxed. His henge made him look like a heavy-set man in his late 30s. Just another civilian who had come to see the show. He smirked. Everyone in the crowd thought the battles taking place in front of them would be the day's entertainment. Little did they realize that these matches were nothing more than an opening act. He looked at his watch. In a little less than 20 minutes the real show would begin. XXXXXXXXXX. Forgive me, my lord, but do you truly think this is wise? Kimimaro asked. Orochimaru chuckled. Yes, I am very certain. This is a day I have been working towards for 15 long years. Since the cursed Third Lord forced me to flee, I intend to enjoy my moment of triumph to the utmost. But Lord, why can we not be there to guard you? Orochimaru smiled and activated his red eyes with 3 little black tomo in each. With this body I am invincible. I want to see the terror in their eyes as they realize they cannot even touch me. The Sound 5 will lead the attack, that is your role, Kimimaro. The white-haired ninja sighed but bowed. He wanted to protect his master but could not disobey a direct order. Yes, my lord. XXXXXXXXXX. Hayate coughed. Well now, let's begin the first match. As in the preliminaries, I may stop the match at any point I determine someone is hopelessly beaten. Once again, do not count on my intervention. Should you feel yourself to be outmatched, yield immediately. Ino sent her opponent a big smile. I've been looking forward to this for a whole month. I'm taking you out, Hinata-chan. Byakugan, she dropped into her Juken stance. That's typical of you, Ino. You talk a good game but you never manage to back it up. Shut up. I am so going to kick your ass, Hinata-chan. Hinata sent her a hard look. You know, Ino, I never did thank you for trying to steal Naruto-kun's first kiss. So you know what? I've decided to take something from you that you value greatly. Hayate sighed. The crowd was starting to boo. If it wouldn't be too much cough. Trouble, do you think the two of you could fight now? Hinata needed no further encouragement. As she charged straight after the blonde. From the start, Ino's only chance was to catch her opponent with a mind control jutsu. Unfortunately, Hinata knew that and gave her absolutely no chance to cast one. She closed in and used her gentle fist to shut down Ino's chakra. Once that was done, Hinata dropped down and took her feet out. Ino found herself face down with Hinata kneeling on her back. Ino saw the kunai in Hinata's hand and an evil glint in her pale eyes. All right, Ino. This is for trying to steal Naruto-kun's first kiss and for the way you still flirt with him even though you know he's taken. Hinata, what are you going to do with your kunai? Hinata smiled, and for once in her gentle life, it was an evil smile. XXXXXXXXXX. I think she's going to do it. Kiba cried out. She wouldn't. Not Hinata-chan. Naruto was stunned. Hey, Ino's been asking for something like this for years now. Shikamaru pointed out. He seemed to lack sympathy for his teammate. Naruto had seen many terrible things, but this was too horrible. I can't watch. He shut his eyes. The roar from the crowd told him. And if there was any doubt, Kiba dispelled it. Wow, she actually did it. Kiba cried out. Naruto opened his eyes and looked at the scene below. I can't believe Hinata-chan actually did that. Kiba laughed. We must be rubbing off on her. Naruto looked at him. Is that a good thing? Kiba shrugged. XXXXXXXXXX. Despite her quick defeat, Ino was on her feet and shaking a fist, absolutely furious with Hinata. You tramp. You slut. You stupid ugly girl. She screamed at a calm and smiling Hinata. Ino had just been humiliated and the fact the crowd was still laughing did nothing to soothe her hurt feelings. Hinata held out her right hand. In it she still held a long blonde ponytail. She let go and allowed the hair to scatter in the wind. This was for trying to steal his kiss and for not leaving him alone even though he was taken. Understand it, Ino. I love Naruto-kun and he loves me. I am going to marry that boy one day and I won't let anyone try and take him away from me. She turned and walked away. That was fun. Hayate shook his head. Well, cough, cough. The next contestants Rock Lee and Namikaze Naruto come down. XXXXXXXXXX. Kakashi smiled to hear the excited buzz rising as the two approached Hayate. He would never admit it to his team, but he had bet heavily on each of them to win their opening matches and on Naruto to win the tournament. By the end of the day, he fully expected to have made a small fortune. Kakashi, my eternal rival, an all too familiar and all too upbeat voice called out. He turned around to see him approach. Hello, guy. Kakashi actually liked his weird friend and had tremendous respect for him both as a ninja and as a teacher. He just wished he would be a bit less enthusiastic about things. Yosh. Kakashi, are you ready to see my prize student defeat yours? Oh, I'm sorry, did you say something? Guy frowned. Ha, cool as ever, I see. But the fact remains that my Lee has prepared like never before and he will defeat Naruto. Guy, you do realize that Naruto is favored not only in this match but to win the tournament. That only proves that people do not understand the power of youth. Kakashi smiled beneath the mask. You realize that Naruto is younger than Lee, don't you? Yash, do not mock me, Kakashi. Kakashi eyed him in green leotard and bowl cut. Wouldn't dream of it. So Kakashi, shall we make a wager on which of our students possesses the greater power of youth? All right, but not for money. I have plenty of that coming in. How about we agree that if Naruto wins we call a halt to our contests for 6 months? What? Guy screamed. You want to call a halt to our eternal rivalry? Just for 6 months. What's the problem? You're not suddenly falling prey to doubts about your students' youthful fires, are you? Guy frowned and calmed down. No, I have faith in Lee. Very well, Kakashi, I accept your terms, but when Lee triumphs I expect us to have all-out taijutsu spars every day we are both in the village for 6 months. Every day. Kakashi paled a bit. The way Guy sparred Kakashi would be nothing but a walking bruise. His rival smiled smugly. Now who is prey to doubts? Kakashi sighed. Not me. Deal. He held out his hand. Yash, it is a deal. Guy grabbed his hand and gave it 3 or 4 pumps. Their bargain was set. Kakashi looked back down to the arena floor. You had better not lose, Naruto. Otherwise I'll have to introduce you to an ancient fighting move called Thousand Years of Death. XXXXXXXXXX. So that's Naruto, huh? Gabrielle asked. I guess it would have to be since he has the same outfit as Kushina-sensei. Haku nodded. That is indeed Naruto. So he's the one who defeated you and convinced you to come here. My cousin Sasuke hates him. She gave Haku a big smile. So I have 2 reasons to really like him. Haku smiled and looked excited. This should be very interesting. Lee is a great ninja, but Naruto is truly amazing. Watch closely and you will see a true genius. XXXXXXXXXX. This is it. Kushina leaned forward in her seat. Tsunade leaned forward as well. I really should have put some money on this. Tsunade. Kushina chided. I'm kidding, mostly. XXXXXXXXXX. Lee bowed to him. Naruto, let us have an excellent match and do our very best. Naruto returned the bow. Right back at you, Lee. Before we begin, Naruto-san, there is something you should know. What's that, Lee? I have removed my weights. Huh. Hayate dropped his arm. Begin. Lee was standing there and seemed to disappear. The very next instant Naruto felt a fist smash into his jaw and send him flying. When he landed, Lee was standing before him in a ready pose. He flipped his hand in a come on gesture. Lee, was that a jutsu? Lee smiled and shook his head. No, Naruto-san, I simply removed the weights I always have on. Without them I am a good bit faster. Good bit faster. He's at least as fast as me when I have the red chakra. He quickly ran through some hand signs. Shadow clone technique. 50 clones appeared surrounding Lee. As one they charged in from every angle. What worried Naruto was the fact Lee looked happy. Once again Lee seemed to vanish. There was a long series of pops as the clones swiftly disappeared one on top of the other. The real Naruto was again slammed in the jaw and sent flying. Naruto quickly got back up on his feet. Well, that was a waste. He began making hand signs. Let's try an area attack this time. Wall of wind technique. The entire area in front of Naruto was suddenly filled with a gale force wind. Lee was caught and thrown back a ways. But when he landed he was unhurt and still smiling, eager for more. Naruto quickly went through the dozens of jutsus he knew. A genjutsu would definitely work on Lee. But unfortunately he didn't know any. He had a powerful area wind attack jutsu that Lee wouldn't be able to avoid. But if he used it Lee would die, so that was out. Damn it, I need something fast or I'm going to end up on the receiving end of a lotus. Naruto could see Lee starting to loosen the bandages on his arms. He knew Lee exceptionally well and knew all his strengths and weaknesses. He was familiar with one glaring weakness in particular. And as soon as he recognized the chink in Lee's armor he knew how he could win their match without resorting to lethal force. I'm very sorry, Lee, but with that insane speed of yours you're just too dangerous. I'm ending our match right now. He made a couple simple hand signs and worked a henge. With a puff of smoke he turned into a certain pink-haired girl wearing a 2-piece swimsuit. Sakura-chan. Lee was frozen in place. He worked some more hand signs and 50 clones appeared. All of them exact copies of Sakura in her 2-piece. They closed in on him and began a mass cuddle while telling him how strong and manly he was. The poor bastard never had a chance. In short order Lee was passed out on the ground with a stream of blood coming from his nose and a huge smile on his face. Naruto headed back towards the balcony a little embarrassed but triumphant. XXXXXXXXXX. What do you call that? Guy shouted in outrage. Kakashi grinned. I'd call it no challenges for 6 months. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina had her head buried in her hands. Tsunade was patting her shoulder comfortingly. It's all right, the important thing is he won his match. Tsunade said. Kushina lifted her head just enough to give her friend a very flat look. He's received training from me, Kakashi, you, and Jiraiya. He knows almost 100 jutsus and has unbelievable chakra capacity. He is a jonin in everything but title, and that's how he wins a match. Tsunade chuckled. Look at the bright side, think what a great story this will make for the grandchildren. XXXXXXXXXX. Gabriella turned to Haku with a grin. The entire crowd was roaring with laughter. Genius, huh? Haku shrugged. Genius can take all forms. She laughed and grabbed his hand. Come on, let's get some snacks before the next match. She didn't fail to notice the blush that covered his face as she led them towards the concessions. XXXXXXXXXX. In one of the upper sections of the stadium seats, Jiraiya jumped to his feet and cried out. That kid's a freaking genius. XXXXXXXXXX. Kabuto stepped away from his seat and went to the back wall. While everyone's eyes were focused on the arena floor, he began a complex series of hand signs. XXXXXXXXXX. The sand ninjas were all a healthy distance from the sphere of sand. Kankura wasn't smiling now, no one was. They were more frightened of what was about to appear than they were of all the ninjas in Konoha. Within the sphere, a demented and lonely voice whispered, I'm a good boy, aren't I, mommy? All for you, mother, all for you. Yes, yes, I will. Am I good, mommy? Say it again, mommy. Tell me you love me. He let out a contented sigh. Say you love me again, mommy, and I'll give you all the blood you want. XXXXXXXXXX. So what do you call that? Kiba asked with a grin. A win, Naruto said simply. Shikamaru smirked. Congratulations on creating your very first original jutsu. What are you going to name it? Naruto thought about it for a second and grinned. I think I'll call it the Ninja Harem. As he spoke, he noticed something strange. Feathers. Hinata was the first one to understand. Genjutsu. She brought her hands together to dispel. Kai. The others on the balcony quickly followed her example. Kai. Naruto. Kai. Kiba. Kai. Shikamaru. Kai. Tenten. Naruto looked about confused. Why are they casting a genjutsu on us? Is this some kind of test? Byakugan, Hinata activated her bloodline. She looked about. Naruto-kun, it's not just us. This genjutsu is being cast over the entire audience. Naruto got to the railing and looked towards the nearest stands. He could see people who had been walking suddenly collapse on the stairs. Guys, I have a very bad feeling about this. XXXXXXXXXX. Guy stiffened. Kakashi, this is. Yeah, genjutsu. Kakashi agreed. The two elite Jonins quickly dispelled the effects. What do you think? Guy asked and looked about at the other leaf ninjas who were also dispelling the genjutsu. A sneak attack. It has to be. He pulled out a kunai but waited to release his Sharingan. XXXXXXXXXX. They were in a long line to get some rice balls when people in front of them began to slump to the ground. Gabriella saw feathers and wondered what was happening. She was getting very sleepy. Kai. Haku dispelled and quickly touched Gabriella, freeing her as well. Huh. Gabriella suddenly snapped out of it. What's going on? Everyone around them was lying on the floor. I think we're about to be attacked. Haku had senbons in both hands. Someone cast a very powerful genjutsu to put everyone to sleep. I can't think of a reason to do that unless it were the opening to a sneak attack. I'm glad Kushina taught me to always have my gear on me. Gabriella slapped her forehead. Of course. The one time I decide to dress up. XXXXXXXXXX. Jiraiya dispelled the genjutsu and had memories of sneak attacks during the Third Great Ninja War. Oh no, this can't be. XXXXXXXXXX. Orochimaru smiled. Well then, shall we begin? Kimimaro lifted a flare gun and sent a single flare high into the air. It lit high above Konoha and was clearly visible to friend and foe alike. XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade saw the flare. The genjutsu's effects did not reach the Hokage's private box. What is that? And then without warning in the stadium and outside the village walls it began. Operation Destroy Konoha was underway. 31. Orders of the Hokage. Orochimaru ran a kunai over the tattoo on his arm. With the blood on it he slammed his hand down upon the ground. Summoning technique. In a massive puff of smoke a gigantic gold and black snake appeared. Leaping onto its head he laughed and ordered it to approach the walls of his old home. Behind him were the forces of the Sound Village, those that were not already within Konoha. XXXXXXXXXX. They heard the first crack and many of them could feel their hearts stopping. The sphere was breaking open. With a sudden explosion and monstrous howl a massive figure made of sand began to take shape. Shukaku the one-tailed demon walked the earth again. Looking up at this horror the Cage wondered to himself for the 1000th time if he had done the right thing all those years ago. No, there was no point in idle speculation now. The dice were out of his hand. You know the plan. Follow in Gaara's wake and destroy whatever he leaves behind. He tried to cheer himself with images of a crushed and beaten leaf village and of his own village once more prosperous. He would make it happen. Gaara began to move and they all fell in behind him. XXXXXXXXXX. Throughout the crowd at the stadium unconscious, civilians, shed their disguises and stood revealed as Sound Ninja. Their mission was to try and eliminate as many enemy forces right from the start as possible and thus make the battle that much easier. They rushed in to engage those leaf nins who were still conscious. There would be no prisoners today. Their lord's orders were quite clear on that. They had come to destroy the leaf village, not merely conquer it. And so they set out to kill. XXXXXXXXXX. As Tsunade watched, a dozen sound ninjas leapt from the stands towards them. What the hell? Tsunade shouted. Kushina was on her feet with a sword out. We're under attack. The Chunin who had been assigned guard duty had a kunai out and was at the Hokage's side. Hokage-sama, please flee. Like hell I will. Tsunade concentrated chakra into her right hand. If these fools want a war, they've got one. There were Anbu stationed throughout the stadium, but nothing like this had been expected. They had been caught completely by surprise. The Anbu would get there to reinforce them, but not before the enemy were on top of them. XXXXXXXXXXX. As Naruto and the others watched, they saw fighting erupt throughout the stands. Hey look, Kiba pointed at a group of enemy ninjas. They're going after the Hokage. Naruto and the others had been taken completely by surprise. But Kiba's words made his decision of what to do easy. His katana was out and he looked at them. All of you follow me. He leapt away and made a beeline for the Hokage's box. It said something about him that everyone in that balcony obeyed him without a second's hesitation. Not only his teammates but Tenten and Shikamaru as well. XXXXXXXXXX. The first two to reach the box were immediately cut down by Kushina's blade. The third was crushed by Tsunade chakra-enhanced fist. A sudden spray of needles forced them to duck behind the stone railing and let the rest of their enemies reach the box. The Chunin who had been with them was quickly dispatched, though he did take one enemy ninja with him. Tsunade and Kushina found themselves back-to-back surrounded by 8 enemy ninja. Given their skill levels, it might be interesting. But before they could make a rush, 2 of them had Kune Blossom in their throats. One turned just in time to have his head sliced off by Naruto's katana. A shadow leapt out and caught the 5 remaining ninja. Kushina, Naruto, and Tenten quickly dispatched 4 of them. I want a prisoner, Tsunade ordered. Her words came just as Kushina's blade neared his throat. She was just able to stop. Mom, Godmother, are you all right? Naruto wanted to know. We're fine, honey, how are all of you? Kushina asked. We're all fine, Naruto replied. Mom, what the hell is going on? That is an excellent question, Tsunade said as she grabbed the sole surviving sound nin by the throat. How about an explanation? I'll tell you nothing, the prisoner gasped. That's the wrong answer, Tsunade replied. She put her other hand on the man's shoulder and used some chakra. The man howled in pain. Let me explain something to you, tough guy. I'm a medic nin and I know where all the body's pain receptors are and just how to make them work full force. I need to know what's going on and I need to know right now, and I don't care how much I have to hurt you to get that information. She worked some more chakra and the man was again screaming. For the genin present, even Naruto, this was a sudden and brutal introduction to one of the ugly necessities of shinobi life. It took less than a minute to have the man talking, and as they all listened they realized just how serious things were. In that minute a squad of Anbu arrived as well as Jiraiya. As if on schedule, they heard a loud explosion and felt the earth shake. From the box being so high up, they had a clear view of the outer walls. Through the east wall a gigantic snake had just smashed through. Simultaneously on the south wall at the gate a massive raccoon of sand was tearing things up. Damn it, Tsunade screamed. XXXXXXXXXX. They had no sooner guessed what was going on than 2 ninjas wearing foreign Hittites appeared. Spotting them, Haku threw his senbons at them. One went down with them in his throat. The other was fast enough to block them with a kunai. That one rushed forward and Haku went forward as well to meet him. The enemy ninja was bigger and stronger than Haku and managed to get a hold of him and they grappled. Gabriella was about to join in when she spotted a third ninja pop up behind them in the hall. Seeing what was going on, that one pulled out a kunai and sent it flying right for Haku's back. No, not Haku. On sheer instinct she leapt. She had to stop the knife. And as she leapt, time seemed to slow down. The kunai came into sharp focus and she could see exactly where it was headed. And as it neared Haku's back she reached out her hand and caught it. The enemy ninja was stunned. He was even more stunned at the speed with which the girl in the kimono snapped her wrist back and sent it flying straight into his throat. Even without weapons she had no trouble helping Haku. She simply drove her fist into the enemy ninja's face. Once he was off Haku, the 2 of them quickly defeated him. Are you all right, Haku? Gabriella asked. She was relieved to see him nod. She quickly knelt down by the defeated ninja and checked his pouches. Kunai, shuriken, explosive notes, wire, gauze, hey, she smiled up at Haku. These bastards are well prepared at least. Haku stared down at her in surprise. She quickly removed the ninja's belt and pouches to put them around her kimono. Gabriella, you're. I know I'm stripping the dead, but it can't be helped. You don't expect me to fight without any equipment, do you? Haku shook his head. No, it's not that. Your eyes. She tied the belt on and made sure the pouches were all secure. Well, that's better. Now what about my eyes? They're red. She froze. She was kneeling in front of the concession stand. She looked at her reflection in the polished stainless steel. She could see herself clearly. Her eyes were indeed red, and in each pupil there swam two tomo. She honestly couldn't believe it. After all the time, effort, and suffering. Sharingan, she whispered. XXXXXXXXXX. We've been caught completely by surprise. Tsunade ground out. Hokage-sama, what are your orders? The lead Anbu asked. She looked down into the stands. There was a desperate battle going on right in front of her. Her instinct was to join in. Then she looked to where the sand demon and giant snake were tearing into the village. Damn it, she muttered. I have no choice. I need to get in control of my forces and set up a counterattack. She looked at the Anbu. I need to get to the tower and get in touch with all my ninja. The Anbu nodded. We will escort you there, Hokage-sama. Tsunade turned to Kushina. We have a lot of good people who are stuck fighting here. Kushina, stay here and help and pass on the word. When this stadium is secured and every enemy ninja is dead or prisoner, bring every last available leaf nin to the tower. You'll be part of the counterattack. Hi, Hokage-sama. She turned to Jiraiya. She hated what she was about to ask. Things are in chaos. I need time to pull everything together. Jiraiya nodded. You need me to buy you time. I do. She hated it. She was going to put him in extreme danger. But she had no choice. He understood and simply grinned. Don't worry, I'll take care of the snake. No, not the snake. He will have to wait. Taking out the one-tailed demon. That's the priority. He's doing a lot more damage and has to be stopped immediately, or there won't be anything left of the village. Looking out, he could see how true that was. All right then, I'll take out the one tail. He moved one hand to cast a shunshin. Please be careful, Tsunade pleaded. He smiled and gave her a little wink. Always. With that, Jiraiya body flickered away. Finally, Tsunade turned to the 5 applicants who had come rushing in to help her and Kushina. Looking at their young faces, she was faced with another decision she hated. All right, you 5, I hate doing this, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Until the fighting in this village is over, I am transferring all of you into a special squadron. As of right now, you are all part of Team Naruto, and Naruto, you are captain. He gasped and stood straight. Thank you, Hokage-sama. She shook her head. Don't thank me now. Thank me later by bringing everyone on your squad through alive and well. As captain, they are your responsibility, Naruto. Do you understand? I do. He nodded seriously. I won't let you down. I believe you, Naruto. I am assigning you in a rank mission. In cases of surprise attack, there are standing orders to evacuate all students and civilians to the cliff shelters. I want you to get to the academy and assist the teachers there with the evacuation. Then I want you to stay with the students and help guard them until this battle is over. The academy? Naruto questioned. He sent a look to his mother. Couldn't we stay here in Naruto? Tsunade said sharply. That got his attention. This is not busy work. I have no idea how bad the penetration is, and those students are a high priority targets. Get to the academy and protect them. That is your mission, and I expect you to carry it out like the leaf shinobi you are. She looked at all the genin. I expect every one of you to fight for and defend this village. Hearing that, they all proudly nodded. We will protect the students no matter what. He turned to his team. All right, we're going in a 5-man diamond formation. I'll take point. Kiba opened his mouth, but Naruto sent him a glare and he closed it again. Hinata, with your bloodline, you're best suited for rear guard. She nodded. Tenten, Shikamaru, and Kiba in the middle, and keep a sharp eye out. Kiba, keep a sharp nose out. Tenten, with your weapons skill, you can be a major help. Do you have plenty of weapons? She nodded eagerly. I'm loaded for bear. All right then, let's move out, Team Naruto. With that, the 5 of them leapt away. Kushina watched them go and whispered a silent prayer for Kami to watch out for them. I'm sorry, Kushina, Tsunade said. But I have to use everyone I have to save the village. Kushina gave her a sad smile and bowed. Please do not apologize for behaving like a Hokage. She then leapt away and into the stands below to join the fight. Tsunade frowned. No wonder the old man wanted out of this job. She had just sent people she loved into danger. If anything happened to them, it would be her fault. But the really horrible thing was that if it saved the village, she would do it again. Damn it, let's go. She and her Anbu escort headed for the tower. XXXXXXXXXX. The sound nin came straight in at her. He didn't bother with feints or deception. It was just a straight-on attack. She could see the smile on his face and could guess what he was thinking. Some stupid girl in a kimono had somehow not gone to sleep and had picked up a kunai. Why did men always underestimate women? Especially beautiful ones. Gabriella realized she shouldn't be annoyed, as it gave her an advantage. His attack was easy to avoid and she got inside of his reach. At the very last second, she saw fear in his eyes. Maybe he had recognized her skill level. Maybe he had spotted her eyes. Either way, it was too late for him. She rammed her kunai through the bottom of his jaw into the base of his skull. His blood sprayed in her face as she stepped aside and let him topple over onto a fat woman who was peacefully sleeping. She's going to wake up with a dead man lying on top of her. Another sound nin came at her. This time she worked some signs. Spitfire technique. Out of her mouth she spat out a small stream of fire that struck him square in the chest. He was quickly turned into a living torch and screamed, but not for long. She looked around for someone else to fight. She saw a sound nin with a couple senbons in his neck drop. Looking around she saw there were no other enemies nearby. There was still fighting going on in the stadium, but the section they were in was clear. Along with Haku there were 4 other leaf nins there. With a temporary halt to the fighting she took the chance to catch her breath. She also took a quick look at herself. Her beautiful kimono was stained with dirt and blood. Damn it. Haku was at her side immediately. What's wrong? This kimono cost 5,000 ryu. It's 100% silk. This is the first time I've ever worn it and now it's ruined. Haku looked at her, not sure how to reply. Well, though it was very pretty. Emphasis on was. Haku's radio crackled to life. Haku, Gabriella, do you copy? Haku hit his send button. Kushina-sama, this is Haku, Gabriella is here with me. What is your status? Are you both alright? Kushina's voice spoke. Kushina-sama, we are both fine. We have been fighting but currently are having a respite. Haku said. Glad to hear it. I'm still fighting. Where are you? We are in Stadium Section A12. Haku reported. I am in A1. I want you and Gabriella to try and get to me, but don't take any foolish chances. Understood. Haku looked at Gabriella and pointed. Section A1 should be right there. They would have to circumnavigate about a quarter of the stadium and there was still plenty of fighting going on in the intervening sections. This will be difficult. He obviously was ready to do whatever it took to reach Kushina. Gabriella took a look to where Section A1 was and smiled. Maybe not. She looked to the 4 other leaf nins. We just got orders from our sensei to join up with her. You can come with us if you like. The other 4 were all older than she was, though none of them seemed to be of higher rank than Genin. One by one they all nodded, more or less thinking it was better to stay together as a unit. All right, she turned to Haku. Do you want to do this the easy or hard way? He looked at her a little surprised. So long as we still reach Kushina-sama, the easier way would be better. She smiled. Right then, follow me. With that she leapt out of the stands and down onto the arena floor. Surprised Haku and the others nevertheless followed her out onto the arena floor where they ran at top speed. Kushina-sama said not to take any foolish chances. Haku pointed out. Our chances are a lot better running straight to her rather than trying to fight our way through 11 sections. Gabriella replied. But everyone can see us. Haku said. So what? Gabriella replied. I'm betting that they're all too busy to bother with us. Besides, she said happily. We're here. Sure enough, they leapt up into section A1. Upon arriving they noticed there were a lot more dead bodies in this section than there had been in A12. They immediately spotted Kushina facing off with a sound nin. This was the first time they had seen her in live combat. As they watched her sword cut the sound nin's head of as neat as you'd please. The 2 of them hurried over and each flanked her. Gabriella was stunned to see her sensei's face completely soaked in blood and her sword was coated red. And at her feet were about 8 bodies. All of them with their heads cut off. She gave each of her students a happy smile. I am very glad to see both of you all right. She looked at Gabriella a bit. Oh, I'm sorry you ruined your kimono, dear. Gabriella sighed. It's all right. Before she could say anything more, a sound nin charged at her. She had a kunai up and ready, but before she could move, Kushina had leapt in. With one expert slice of her sword, a 9th headless corpse joined the pile in front of them. Gabriella's eyes expanded a bit. Kushina had made it look ridiculously easy. All right, Kushina called out. We're just about done here. We'll press on to the next section and help clear that one out. And to the next one and the next one until we've cleared this stadium of enemies. Once that's done, we'll rally to the tower and help clear the village. Gabriella noticed that though many of the ninjas fighting here were Jonins, they accepted her orders without question. One of the Jonins with some crazy silver hair and his hit-eyed over one eye came over towards her. Kushina, is this Gabriella? Kushina smiled. Yes. Well, I'm pleased to meet you. Your sensei has told me quite a bit about you. I am Hitaki Kakashi. Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye, she said in surprise. He nodded. I hope you won't hold that against me the way some of the Uchiha do. She shook her head. No, it's fine with me. Kakashi smiled. Glad to hear it. He paused. Kushina, I thought you said your student didn't have the Sharingan. She doesn't. Kushina confirmed. Actually, she does. What? Kushina looked at Gabriella. Gabriella smiled proudly. Surprise. Kushina smiled and shook her head. Well, today is definitely the day for them. Come on, let's clear out section A2. 32. True strength. He had not been in Konoha on that terrible night when the Kyuubi attacked. He'd been doing a little research in a remote spa in grass country. The first he'd heard that the Kyuubi was threatening his home was on October 11th. He'd raced back to Konoha in just a day and a half. Just in time to attend Minato's funeral service. He'd heard many of the survivors talk about the raw power of the Kyuubi and how hopeless it had seemed to face it. Now looking at the Shukaku joyfully flattening entire blocks with a single paw, he had a real understanding of what Minato and the others had faced that day. This was even worse than the Kyuubi's attack had been. Hundreds of brave ninja had died that night, but the Yondaim's heroic sacrifice had stopped the Kyuubi short of the village. Standing on a rooftop, he could see and hear the mass of civilians running through the streets. There was an evacuation plan in place, but the people were in an utter panic. He doubted if 1 in 10 among them knew where they were headed. They just knew survival required they get away from that. And as the civilians ran, brave leaf ninjas were trying to fight it. They had to know it was hopeless. That their stand was nothing more than suicide. Yet they were determined to sell their lives to try and give the people of Konoha at least a chance to get away. He leapt forward toward the battle zone. He'd noted that none of the sand ninja had put in an appearance yet. Why should they? He thought bitterly. They probably planned to let the Shukaku flatten everything and then pick through the rubble. He landed in an empty street near where the fighting was taking place. Lord Jiraiya, a ninja with a scarred face, landed beside him. It took him a second to recognize him. Is that you, Ibiki? Yes, sir. Have you come to help? I've come to take over. Pull everyone back, I'll handle things from here. But Lord Jiraiya, how can you stand alone against that? He smiled. Because I am Jiraiya, the legendary Toad Sage and Sanin. Now pull them back and thank the heavens I'm here. Ibiki nodded and disappeared. In swift order, the leaf ninja began to retreat past him. He smiled up at the monster as he bit down on his thumb. Sorry, you Suna bastards, but it's not gonna be that easy. Even if I have to die, I'm stopping you. He flashed through the hand signs and slammed him hand down on the street. Summoning technique. With a massive puff of smoke, he found himself riding atop Gamabunta's head. XXXXXXXXXXX. His radio came to life with Hinata's panicked voice. Naruto-kun, 4 ninjas about to ambush us. Naruto stopped on a roof and held up a fist, bringing his new team to a halt on the same rooftop. He was about to ask Hinata where the enemy were when they attacked. The enemy obviously thought Naruto and his team were simply a bunch of kids running about in a panic. Their first clue that wasn't the case was when one of them died with a kunai through his throat. Another came straight at Naruto with a pair of kunai. Naruto performed some of the steps for the dance of the lilies and drove his sword through his chest. The other 2 were quickly caught by Shikamaru's shadow. Great job, team. He walked over to the 2 prisoners. We're going to the Ninja Academy, can you tell us anything about your plans for it? Both ninjas said they didn't know. He didn't think they were lying. But just to make sure. Hinata-chan. Their heartbeats didn't change, Naruto-kun. They are telling the truth. Hinata-chan, we're within 2 miles of the academy, can you take a look? She nodded and did just that. What she found was very bad. Naruto-kun, the academy is surrounded by about 40 enemy ninjas. And, there are dead bodies in the courtyard, a couple teachers but mostly students. What? Kiba said. You murderous bastards. Why are you going after the kids? They're not even ninjas yet. The first prisoner shook his head a bit, which was all that the jutsu would allow. We weren't part of that operation. Our squad was sent in to pick off any targets of opportunity. But it doesn't matter, you're all dead. Lord Orochimaru has ordered that this village be left an empty ruin and every last living soul in it killed. I guess the brats in the academy were just high on the list. Kiba snarled. That's pretty brave considering where you are right now. You're going to kill both of us anyway, so it doesn't matter. We wouldn't do that, Hinata said. We don't kill helpless prisoners. The sound nin actually smiled. I can see the look in this one's eyes. He nodded to Naruto. He's going to kill us. Naruto-kun, Hinata asked worriedly. This is war, Hinata-chan, and the rules are different. He looked at her. How are we supposed to take them prisoner? We've got a mission to complete and I'm not going to waste the time taking them to the police or Anbu headquarters if those places are even still secure. We sure as hell are not taking them with us, and if we leave them tied up, one of their friends may come along and let them go. I'm not taking the chance of letting them go free to kill others. Naruto-kun, if we do this, how is it different from what Gaara did in the forest? The difference is that Gaara could have let those ninjas live and it wouldn't have done him or his team any harm at all. If I let these 2 live and they get away, other people might die because of it, and I won't let that happen. Naruto-kun, it would still be murder. The sound nin actually laughed. And you call yourself a ninja? Ninjas kill, and believe me, to the person you're killing it's always murder. We're wasting time here. Tenten ended the debate by throwing a kunai into each of their throats. Hinata, she looked at the other girl. Naruto is right. This is war. You heard it from their own mouths, they've come here to kill everyone. We have to stop them no matter what. We have to kill Hinata, this is war and we have to kill. Hinata saw Kiba and Shikamaru both nod and she slowly nodded as well. Hinata-chan, Naruto said quietly. There are bodies on the courtyard, are there people still inside? Hinata nodded. I'd say there are 12 instructors and maybe 200 students. Do you think there's any way we can get into the academy? Hinata took another look. They only have a couple ninjas in the back, most of them are lined up in front. Makes sense, Shikamaru said. They must figure there's no way to get all those kids moving fast. If they try getting everyone out the back way, they'd still be all over them. But the 5 of us should be able to move fast enough to get in. Naruto nodded to himself. All right, let's get to the academy. XXXXXXXXXXX. Jiraiya, what is this about? Gamabunta demanded. Hey Bunta, we need to take that ugly raccoon out. Gamabunta flattened his eyes. Shukaku the sand demon, why should I go to the trouble of fighting him? I'll buy you some sake. Try again. Because we're lifelong pals. Ha. All right, Jiraiya said seriously. How about because Minato gave his life to save this village? If we don't stop that ugly beach ornament, this village is going to be destroyed and he'll have died for nothing. Gamabunta was silent for a moment and then rumbled a short laugh as he pulled out his sword. Now that is a reason to fight. Keep in mind the priority is not just to stop him but to protect the village. We need to lure him away from Konoha if we can. Got it. Now hang on. Jiraiya focused chakra into his feet as Gamabunta leapt. Gaara has actually been enjoying himself so much he had failed to notice the new arrival. He had lifted his right arm to smash another city block to rubble when a gigantic sword swept in and cut his arm off at the shoulder. Both the arm and the sword went flying. Gamabunta landed behind Gaara in a part of the village already flattened. Damn, I lost my sword. His sand body is too dense. The Shukaku form swung about and faced the giant frog. Who are you? He demanded. I am the legendary Toad Sage Jiraiya and this is Gamabunta the boss Toad summon. And we're here to put an end to you. Bunta, give me oil. Right. Gamabunta's belly expanded and a river of black oil spewed from his wide mouth. Using a jutsu, Jiraiya spat out a steady stream of fire, turning the oil into an inferno that engulfed Gaara. Gaara howled, not in pain but in frustration and anger. Jiraiya watched the massive blaze and actually hoped it might be enough. Do you think? Another deafening roar gave him an answer. The fire died away and left a massive pall of grimy black smoke. Out of the smoke stumbled the 3-legged Shukaku form. Gaara moved stiffly as his entire body seemed to shine brightly in the sun. The intense fire had turned the Shukaku's upper layer to glass. With a loud crack, the glass broke and began to fall in great chunks. Gaara turned his snout towards the giant frog. He was absolutely furious now that someone had attacked him and actually done a small amount of harm. I'm going to kill you. Time to lead him away, I think. Jiraiya suggested. Right. Gamabunta leapt southwards out of the village. The bigger and slower Shukaku form gave chase. Come back here and fight me. XXXXXXXXXX. Before the fight had begun, Temari had confidently predicted that things would not long go according to plan. But she had not imagined this. She and all the other Suna nins stared in shock as Gaara, their ace in the hole, their secret weapon, and the center of their battle plan, abandoned them to go chase after a giant frog summon. All the sand nins began to look at one another in a panic and soon all eyes turned to the cage. He wanted to scream and to curse Gaara to the deepest, dankest pit in hell. He couldn't do that though. His people needed their supreme leader to exude confidence and self-control. He very quickly assessed the situation. Whatever his other faults, he had a sharp mind and a good grasp of strategy and tactics. With Gaara's unexpected departure, the battle plan was worthless. In essence, the plan had been to let Gaara do most of the fighting and break enemy resistance. Suna had always had a smaller population than Konoha. That was why they'd always had to rely on quality over quantity. He had brought a grand total of 500 shinobi, and these included damn near every Jonin and Chunin the Sand Village had, along with the most talented and experienced genin. Konoha had roughly about 2,000 shinobi of all ranks. The Otokage had promised to bring 1,000 ninja. He did not know just how far he could trust Orochimaru. Even if he really had brought that many, the quality of his ninja varied wildly. Sound was a new village after all, and too many of their ninja were not experienced enough. The cage looked over his people carefully. He was well aware that this was a crucial moment in the history of Suna. His ninja were all still outside the now flattened walls. He not yet committed them to battle. Gaara had done quite a bit of damage and killed a number of enemy ninja. But there was no way to ascertain how many. Likewise, his allies were clearly doing damage and killing enemies. But there was no way to guess how many. Unlike Orochimaru, the cage was not out to destroy Konoha. He would be satisfied with leaving it weakened and no longer a competitor for contracts. For him, this was about restoring the economic health of his village. Clearly, Konoha had already suffered from this day's events. But had they suffered enough? What sort of reserves did the Leaf Nins still possess? He had two choices. He could simply leave. Now that Gaara was off on some wild frog chase, his plans were ruined. His forces had not stepped foot into the Leaf Village yet and had suffered no casualties at all. He could turn away from battle and return home with his entire force completely intact. He had no doubt that the Sound Nins would fight on even if he abandoned them. He could achieve his dream of weakening Konoha without suffering any casualties. He sighed. But if he did that, the alliance with Sound would be destroyed. Orochimaru was a dangerous enemy to have, as Tsunade was learning right now. And if Konoha somehow survived with much of her strength intact, they would come looking for revenge. But there was one more critical factor to consider. He had led them here to fight. His people had come here in accordance to his will. What would they think of him if he told them to retreat now without even stepping foot into the Konoha? They would think him weak and afraid. There was no real choice. Damn Gaara. I hope he finally dies, then all this really would have been worth it. Gaara has done enough. He spoke loudly and with voice ringing with confidence. The Leaf Ninjas are in confusion and fighting on two fronts. We will go in and finish this. Follow me and let us fight for the greater glory of Suna. With that he led the way. Tamari followed in his wake along with the others. Her fan was out and she was ready, though not eager. XXXXXXXXXX. The five of them were able to get in through the rear entrance without a fight. But the moment they entered, Iruka and another Chunin were there about to attack. Naruto held up his hands, one of them had a bloody katana in it. Wait, Iruka-sensei, it's us. Iruka and the other Chunin held up for just a second. Can you prove it? Iruka asked suspiciously. Naruto thought quickly. Sasuke's a jerk. Iruka lowered his kunai. Naruto, good to see you again. But what are you and the others doing here? The Hokage sent us here to help you get the students to the shelters. The other Chunin looked horribly disappointed. Are things that bad? She couldn't spare one real squad. Before Naruto could answer that, Iruka did. Don't underestimate them, especially not Naruto. I think I'd rather have him here than almost anyone else. Naruto smiled. Come with us. In short order they were in the large hall right outside the main door. Everyone else was already gathered there. The Chunin instructors looked grim but determined. All the students were there too. Some of them were crying and he could hear soft pleas from others. A handful of the fourth-year students looked determined and almost ready. Naruto noted that among those few were a Hyuga cadet branch member and an Uchiha. Naruto also did not fail to notice that everyone had been issued weapons. Their fear smell is off the charts. These kids are terrified. Kiba whispered to him. Can you blame them? They're just kids. Naruto whispered back. It was a little odd saying that as the two of them had been here less than 6 months ago. But in the time since graduation they had grown up. Naruto. One of the kids jumped up and ran over to him. Have you come to save us? Naruto smiled down. Yes, we have, Konohamaru. We're getting all of you out of here. Konohamaru smiled. I knew it. You'll definitely rescue us. Don't be stupid. An annoyed voice called out. He's not much older than we are. He can't do anything against real ninja. The fourth-year Uchiha declared. If you think that, what do you think you're going to do? Kiba said with a grin. The Uchiha turned a bit red and shut his mouth. Konohamaru turned to glare at the same kid. Shut up. He saved me before and I've seen Naruto in action. He's the best. If he says he can save us, then he can. He put a hand on the young boy's shoulder. Konohamaru, he said quietly. Me, my team, and your teachers will get you all to safety. I promise. Konohamaru immediately nodded, certain everything would be all right now. Then went back to sit with his two friends. Iruka spoke quietly. That was a very large promise, Naruto. He slowly nodded. I know it was Iruka-sensei and I never go back on my word. I think they're getting ready to rush us. One of the Chunin called. He sounded calm and resolute. Naruto calmly wiped down his blade, there was a lot of blood on it. He holstered it. He knew what he had to do. He looked at the kids and at his teammates. All of you listen to me. I am going to show you a special power I have. It may seem very frightening, but don't be afraid. He stuck his thumb to his highlight. I'm a leaf ninja and I will give my life to protect all of you. Whatever you see or sense, don't be afraid of me. What special power are you talking about, Naruto? Shikamaru asked. Kiba and Hinata were both sending him worried looks. Naruto took a very deep breath. I'm what they call a Jinchuriki. Inside me I have the Kyuubi. Tenten, Shikamaru, and the students all gasped. Kiba, Hinata, and the teachers eyed him with worry. Naruto-kun. Hinata spoke upset. Why are you telling everyone that? Because I'm about to show them and everyone else. He said quietly. I'm going to have to use all my power to keep my promise. He gave Hinata a little smile. And you know I can't break my promise no matter what. Naruto-kun. I think I'd rather take my chances against the ninja. One of the teachers muttered. Quiet. Iruka snapped. You're lying. One of the students jumped up and pointed. Everyone knows the Yondaime Hokage killed the Kyuubi to save the village. No, Naruto said. Biju cannot be killed by mortals. My father placed the Kyuubi inside of me. And I am going to use its power to protect all of you. But how? Your teachers will explain everything later. He really didn't want to discuss it. He walked towards the door. Naruto, are you sure about this? Iruka asked nervously. It's the only way. Besides, he flashed Iruka a confident grin. I've used the power twice now. It'll be okay. From the doorway he carefully looked out to the courtyard. He had a nice clear view of a dozen tiny bodies with kunai and shuriken sticking out of them. Big brave ninja ambushing some unarmed children. The sight was plenty to spark his anger. And from deep within him he felt something dark and terrible come to life. XXXXXXXXXXX. We're 20 miles from the village, this should be far enough. Jiraiya called. All right. Gamabunta landed and turned about in some thick forest. It took a short while for the Shukaku form to catch up to them. Are you finally tired of running? Gaara screamed. He was furious, no one was supposed to be able to keep away from him like that. You are my prey, have you any idea how angry you have made me? You're angry, Jiraiya shouted. You can stuff it down the rabbit hole. 'Cause whatever you're feeling, I guarantee you it's not a shadow of the anger I'm feeling. You traitorous bastards broke out alliance and betrayed us with Orochimaru. Our two villages had been friends since the end of the Third Great Ninja War. Friends? Are you serious, old man? There are no friends in this world. Everyone cares only about themselves. I love and care about only myself. Everyone else can burn, and that includes my so-called family. If that is how you truly feel, then I pity you. I'd rather be dead than not care about anyone else. You can have all the power in the world, but if you have no one you want to protect, then you are still weak. A ninja only finds real strength when he is fighting to protect those dear to him. You're calling me weak? Gaara screamed at him. All right, I'll show you my full power then. On the Shukaku's forehead, Gaara's body seemed to half emerge. He remained planted in the sand up to his hips. He cast a jutsu, playing possum technique. Oh no, this is bad, Gamabunta announced. What? Jiraiya asked. The host just forced himself to sleep. So, Jiraiya asked. Suddenly Shukaku laughed. I'm free. Oh, unlucky me. I see someone I want to slaughter right off the bat. He slammed his curled paw into his belly and disgorged a massive bubble of air. Air bullet. Gamabunta leapt just in time to avoid the explosion as the air bullet struck the forest. His belly expanded and he spat out a huge bubble of water. Water bullet. Shukaku jumped away laughing as the water bullet missed. He's faster than before, Jiraiya said. That's because with the host asleep the demon comes awake. He's much more powerful than he was being controlled by the host. Shukaku fired off a pair of air bullets. Gamabunta got off one water bullet. He took out one of the air bullets but the other struck him. Ah. Bunta, Jiraiya shouted. I'm alright, but a couple more of those and I'm done. He's just too powerful for me. What can we do? He's got one weakness, the exposed host. If I can hold Shukaku in place for a few seconds, can you reach him? Yes, a few seconds will be all I need. Alright, since I don't have any claws or fangs to hold on with, I'll need help to transform. I'm not very good at it, so I'll need you to provide me the image of something to transform into. Not a problem. Here we go then. Remember, you'll have one chance to reach the host and wake him. Wake him. Jiraiya held out his palm and began concentrating chakra. Forget waking him. I'm gonna kill him. That works too. Gamabunta dodged and just avoided another air bullet as he rushed in. Here we go. Joint transformation technique. Gamabunta was shrouded by a screen of smoke. Out of the smoke burst the form of a gigantic wolf. The wolf landed and clamped down his jaws while taking hold with both paws. Jiraiya had his opening and leapt for the sleeping kid. Rasengan. XXXXXXXXXX. More than 200 eyes witnessed the red chakra leak out and cover his body. They saw him change and fangs and red eyes come out. He's a monster. One of his children wailed. No, he's not. Hinata shouted at the boy. He is Namikaze Naruto. He's a leaf ninja and a hero. What he's doing is to keep us safe. Don't you dare call him that. Konohamaru jumped up and faced his classmates. That's right. Naruto would never hurt us. He's a hero and he's going to kill those bad ninjas. That's right, a deep voice said. He turned a little bit and gave them all a good view of his features. They could feel the immense chakra with its evil taint just seemed to fill the hall. Except for Kiba and Hinata, they all eyed him with at least a little bit of fear, even Shikamaru and Iruka. I'm going to kill those bad ninjas. You are all precious to me and I'll kill anyone who threatens any of you. With that he rushed out the doors and into the courtyard. XXXXXXXXXX. Seta turned to his teammate. What the hell, can you feel that? Karu nodded. Of course I can. I've never felt a chakra like that. Seta took a nervous look at the academy doors. They'd been about to rush in but the sudden feeling of that chakra stopped them. Seta wasn't all that eager with the assignment. He didn't particularly relish killing children. But Konoha had it coming. The whole village had it made itself Lord Orochimaru's enemy and so they all had to die. Look, Karu shouted. Out of the doors had come one ninja. He was surrounded by a weird visible red chakra. The chakra reminded him almost of an animal's outline. There was even a tail. Seta and the other sound nins immediately launched a flurry of kunai and shuriken. They struck and bounced off. 3 or 4 explosions followed quickly as kunai and with explosive notes were thrown. When the smoke from the explosions cleared, the ninja was still standing there. He seemed to be laughing. Is that all you've got? The leaf nin mocked with a deep and cruel sounding voice. You're not fighting children now. A Jonin to Seta's right ran through some hand signs. He suddenly stood and held out his right hand. A bolt of lightning jumped from his fingers and covered the 30 yards to where the leaf nin was. The lightning struck home and exploded into a shower of sparks. The leaf ninja didn't even seem to take notice. He's toying with us, Karu said. He doesn't think we can hurt him. Seta spoke nervously. Maybe we should retreat. They heard a deep laugh echo from the courtyard. The leaf ninja suddenly dropped to all fours, making him seem even more like an animal. I can smell your fear, he called out. Let me give you something to really fear. He leapt and seemed to cover the 30 yards between them in less than a second. Just that quickly he was in among them. Seta and Karu both tried to run. His chakra seemed to come to life and arms reached out from it. Seed and Karu were both caught. He wanted to try and surrender. Before he could even take a breath, he felt his ribs being crushed and blood filling his mouth. XXXXXXXXXX. There were 38 sound nins posted in front of the academy and 2 to its rear. Of the ones in front, some tried to fight but most tried to run. None of them got away. The 2 in back witnessed the slaughter and came to the conclusion that their best course of action would be to report this to their superiors. They left in haste and got away from the academy as fast as they could. Inside the academy, the Chunin instructors had a partially obstructed view of the battle. In glimpses and flashes and in screams, they pieced together what was happening. He's tearing them apart. He's literally tearing them apart. One Chunin whispered. It's unbelievable, terrifying. A second whispered back. He is that, but right now I'm very glad that we have him. The other Chunin thought about it and slowly nodded. So am I. After only 5 minutes it was all over. Naruto, his team, Iruka, and a couple other instructors assembled on the courtyard. Naruto was still surrounded by red chakra. I don't see any more enemy ninjas between us and the cliff, Hinata announced. I think if we move quickly we can get everyone there. All right then, Iruka decided. We'll get them moving. Your team can help us guard them, Naruto. Naruto nodded and performed some hand signs. 50 shadow clones came to life. These were exact copies and had red eyes, claws, and his other temporary features. All they lacked was the red chakra. Each one pulled out a katana and wakizashi and swiftly took up positions to help escort and protect the students. My clones will protect you and so will the rest of my team. I have to go though. What, Naruto-kun, you have an order from the Hokage? Hinata said. I haven't forgotten, Hinata-chan. My clones will help and I promise that if something starts destroying a bunch of them I'll get back to you in a flash. But with them the teachers, and the rest of the squad, that should be plenty to keep everyone safe. With my power I need to do more. I'm going to go help anywhere some of our people are in real trouble. But Naruto-kun. You're in charge of the squad, Hinata-chan. Naruto leapt away. Naruto-kun, don't go, Hinata shouted, but he was already gone. XXXXXXXXXX. Jiraiya plunged his Rasengan into the boy's chest. The red-haired boy's eyes shot open. He saw shock and fear there. And then to Jiraiya's surprise, he thought he saw relief. The eyes glazed over. No, Shukaku howled. He stopped moving and the gigantic form began to dissolve and crumble into sand. Jiraiya grabbed the boy and leapt away. Landing, he put the boy down and gently shut his eyes. I'm sorry, kid. I know you didn't have a choice in this any more than Naruto did. And I guess you never had someone like Kushina there for you. Jiraiya didn't even know the boy's name but felt sympathy for him. Only someone who had never known love could have said the things he had. For a Jinchuriki, Naruto's upbringing had been the exception. Whatever this poor boy had gone through was more likely the norm. When the fighting was done he would come back here and give the poor kid a proper burial. Great job, Bunta, he said tiredly. Now we have to get back to the village and squash some snakes. Gamabunta slowly shook his head. I'm sorry, Jiraiya, but I'm about out of chakra. I wish I could stay and help you fight. That's all right, you've done more than enough today. Thank you, Bunta. The next time we meet I'll buy you a round. Gamabunta chuckled. That you will. With a puff of smoke he was gone. Jiraiya wasted no time and began leaping back to the village. It would take him 20 minutes to get there. He had deliberately had Bunta lead their enemies so far away so that even if they did fail to beat the one-tail Tsunade would at least have the time to come up with something else. But having gone so far it would take him 20 minutes to get back. He hurried in the hopes he would get back in time to help decide the battle. He wouldn't. Within those 20 minutes the battle and the fate of Konoha would be decided. 33. The Divine Wind. Author's note, I want to thank Sulamike23 for coming up with the wind jutsu Naruto uses at the end of this chapter. XXXXXXXXXX. From her office window she saw Gamabunta leaping away and the one-tailed demon chasing him. He had done it. Jiraiya had given her the time she needed to try and organize things. You had better come back, all right, you damn pervert. Lady Tsunade, Shizune spoke up. I have Ibiki on the line. His forces are currently not engaged. He wants to know if you want him to shift eastward and help fight the incursion there. Tsunade shook her head. No, the Shukaku may be gone but we have to expect a conventional attack from Suna in that area. Tell Ibiki to hold in place. How is Danzo doing? She didn't like or even trust him. But she was the first to admit that he was a tough old bastard and loved Konoha. She had no doubts that he would fight like to hell to defend the village. He has retreated another half-mile. He says he estimates the enemy force to be about 600. He has only about 80 men. He says the best he can do is slow them down. Shizune reported. Just slowing them down would be enough for now. Tell him to do the best he can until I can send him reinforcements. Any word from the academy? Shizune nodded. All the phone lines are still cut, but we just got a radio report from an Anbu squad sent to check. They report a large number of dead sound nins along with a couple academy teachers and 14 students. The rest of the academy population is gone. To the shelters, Tsunade asked. That's the presumption, but they don't know for sure, Shizune said. Tell them to go and make certain. Of course, she knew that Naruto and his team carried radio communicators. What she didn't know was which frequency they were using, and it hadn't occurred to her to ask him earlier. I never thought the enemy would have so many units already inside the village and that they would cut our phone lines. I should at least have thought of the possibility. How many ninja do we have at hand right now? Shizune quickly scanned her notes. About 300, all of different ranks and not really organized. Tsunade ground her teeth. It was like trying to get a herd of cats to move in the same direction. No one knew where anyone else was. Squads were split up. Many ninja had hurried to the fighting on their own initiative, some were heading here to the tower, a good many would still be fighting in the stadium including some of her top jonins, some had been ambushed by the enemy squads that were running wild, and some were probably running about like chickens with their heads cut off. She was sure she still had the forces to deal with this, especially now that the one tail was gone, but creating order out of chaos was proving frustratingly slow. Find someone to start organizing the troops we have and then send 200 of them to help Danzo. Until she had more of her forces ready, she had to be careful how many she sent where. Who do you want in charge of that? Shizune asked. Kushina, Kakashi, or Asuma, but since none of them are here, who do I have on hand? Perhaps I can be of assistance. A comforting voice spoke. She saw a very welcome figure enter her office dressed in black ninja clothing and helmet. Old man, you have no idea how happy I am to see you right now. He nodded. I can only imagine. I am here to offer my assistance in any way possible. Just how can I help? Go to the plaza and start getting our troops in order. Then pick out 200, assign a commander, and send them to support Danzo. She saw him smile. Not you though. I want you to stay right here until I'm ready to lead the counterattack. Sarutobi chuckled that his old student had been able to read him so easily. All right, I'll begin immediately. He left her office. Finally, a good piece of luck. What about the clans? Have we heard back from them? Tsunade asked. Shizune shook her head. Nothing new. We have not been able to reach Hyuga. Makoto has sent us 8 members of her clan, but another dozen were at the stadium. Inuzuka and Aburame are sending some members while some have already gone into battle. As for Nara, Yumenka, and Akamichi, they are also sending some members, but the clan heads have already gone to fight. Well, I hope they have their usual good luck. XXXXXXXXXX. Orochimaru chuckled and then laughed. He couldn't remember the last time he'd had so much fun. Well, I must admit your team's reputation was well deserved. Even with my Sharingan, you kept me entertained for a full 5 minutes. How did you get the Sharingan? Nara Shikaku choked out. They had taken on Orochimaru and lost. Looking to his right, he saw the bodies of his 2 comrades and best friends. I am a genius and have found a jutsu that allows me to possess the bodies of others. Orochimaru said happily. Shikaku chuckled. Well, I suppose you really are a genius then. Too bad you're also such a complete cold-hearted bastard. Orochimaru laughed and added just a little bit of pressure to the sword that was resting against his neck. You really have no fear of death, do you? Shikaku took a last look up into the sky. It was beautiful and filled with clouds. I love you, Yoshino. Please forgive me for making you a widow. I love you, son. Please forgive for making you grow up so soon. I am ninja. So you are. Any last words? Shikaku smiled. Last words would be troublesome. Orochimaru laughed and drove the sword into the man's throat. He'd honestly forgotten just how entertaining his fellow leaf nins could be. He swallowed the sword again and climbed back onto his snake. It was proving to be a wonderful day. XXXXXXXXXXX. The girl was pleading. Please no, don't. Her back was against a brick alley wall and the ninja had a grip on both her arms. His face and arms were covered with strange black tattoos. Please don't do this. Sakin smiled. He did like playing with them first. Oh sweetheart, you should be thanking me. You and everyone else in this stinking rat's nest are going to die today. But at least you get to have a little bit of fun first. The girl was crying and desperately trying to push him away. You know you really are a piece of dog s and hash tea. Tayuya shouted at him. Sakin sent her a smug little smile. What? She's going to die no matter what. This way she gets to live an extra 5 minutes and I'll even make it clean. 5 minutes. More like 30 and hashtag king seconds. Kidomaru laughed. You talking from experience. F and hash KU. Jirobo sighed. Please watch your language. She sent him a dirty look. Sakin, what if Kimimaro or Lord Orochimaru find out about this? Lord Orochimaru wouldn't care and Kimimaro isn't here right now. Tayuya looked at her teammate with real hatred. You F and hashtag king is and hashtag ol. We have to kill her, you don't have to do this. Sakin laughed as he gently touched her cheek and saw her whimper. I don't need orders for this. He smiled at the girl. Don't struggle, it'll all be over soon. He was leaning in when he suddenly froze. What's that? He and the other members all felt it, an unbelievable chakra brimming with a sense of evil. And a killer intent that impressed even them. A gigantic arm that seemed to be made of red chakra reached down and grabbed Sakin. Hey, he screamed. He struggled but couldn't move an inch. He was quickly lifted from the ground up to the edge of the roof. There he was brought face to face with a boy surrounded by red chakra. He had red eyes that burned with hate. Naruto was as ready to kill an enemy kunoichi as he was any male ninja. But there were two women in his life who he loved and adored. Seeing what was about to happen, he had imagined something similar happening to one of them. The result was a killer intent that made Sakin want to wed himself. Naruto gave the older boy a savage and feral grin. Don't struggle, a second red chakra arm took hold of him. It'll all be over soon. With that he tore the would-be rapist in half. Holy S&T. He killed Sakin. Tayuya and the other members immediately activated their second-level curse seals. Naruto noted the changes as he tossed the body aside like a sack of garbage. I guess I'm not the only special one here. He leapt down to the street. We're the Sound 4. We're the elite warriors of Lord Orochimaru. Kidomaru told him. Naruto smiled. You know, I was thinking how elite your friend was as I tore him apart. Naruto was enjoying himself. He wanted to kill now. Not simply out of duty or a desire to protect. He was feeling a simple bloodlust. In the middle of battle he did not stop to consider that this feeling was not normal for him. Normally he had to shut his heart off to be able to kill. But now he was relishing it. This was the longest he had worn the red chakra. Kidomaru opened his mouth and spat out a thick stream of webbing. In short order Naruto was in a cocoon. Die. He chewed again and this time he spat out a long gold-colored rock-hard mucus. It struck the cocoon and simply broke off. 4 chakra arms tore the webbing aside. Then 2 came together in a clap and crushed Kidomaru. Jirobo was feeling real terror for the first time in his life. He was a pretty strong and close fighter but he wasn't getting anywhere near that monster. He cast a jutsu and slammed both hands into the ground. Out of the street a dome of earth rose and surrounded Naruto. Jirobo let out a sigh of relief. All right, we're safe now. You sure? Tayuya eyed the dome nervously, she could still feel his chakra and his killer intent. Jirobo nodded. No one has ever. The dome exploded and they were both forced to duck. If you're going to fight me, can't you at least come up with an original jutsu? A red arm shot out and caught Jirobo's head. It snapped back until there was a nice audible crack. Tayuya leapt back and began playing her flute feverishly. She was the last surviving member of the Sound 4 and she wasn't loving her odds of living much longer. Who the hell is this bastard? We were warned about Jiraiya, Tsunade and Sarutobi, why didn't we get a warning about him? She cast her most powerful jutsu and summoned her 3 doki. 3 large deformed demons stood before her. Naruto laughed. Well, that at least is original. Arrogant prick. She altered her tune a bit. Her doki opened their mouths and 3 ethereal snakes with multiple mouths began to drift towards him. Naruto made no effort to avoid them. And when each one latched on and bit he gasped to see the red chakra dissipate and fade where they bit him. Ha, so you can be hurt. Tayuya shouted. I guess I can. Okay. Valuable lesson, some things can get through the red chakra. I'm not invulnerable. But don't get happy. He sent a red fist crashing into the chest of each demon's summons and knocked them over. The ethereal snakes let go and he rushed forward with all his speed. Before her doki could get back up he had her. He put his own right hand around her throat. With his left he snatched away the flute and then snapped it in half. The doki vanished in puffs of smoke. Tayuya clawed at his right arm with all her strength. It was like a small child trying to pull up an oak tree. She tried to curse him but couldn't even breathe. This is #King it. Naruto felt the urge to kill her. But he was in control. He loosened his grip a bit to let her breathe. You want to live. Her first impulse was to scream, yeah, I want to live. But didn't think that would be a good idea when her life was literally in the palm of his hand. Yes. Then get out of this village and don't come back. If I see your face again you're dead. And then he let her go. Tayuya quickly backed away from him as she rubbed her bruised neck. Why? Is it because I'm a woman? No, it's because you tried to stop what was about to happen. For that I'll show you just a little bit of mercy. Now get out of my sight. She nodded and fled as fast as she could. She knew there would be no going home to Sound. Her lord would not forgive her abandoning the battle no matter her reasons. K it. I'd rather be a missing nin than dead. Naruto took a quick look to see if the girl in the alley was still there, but she was long gone. He hoped she would have enough sense to head for the cliff shelters. He leapt up to the roof of the nearest building. As he got there he took a look at his left hand, it was starting to feel a little numb. It didn't hurt at all and he could still use it, but he could tell something was off. I'm starting to reach my limit. Damn it, I have to do more to help while I still have this power. On top of the roof he looked about. He could hear and see explosions and fighting coming from 2 directions. To the south where the gate used to be and to the east where he could see a gigantic golden and black snake leveling buildings. The fight to the east looked a lot more serious, especially with that monster. But the fighting to the south was a lot closer to him. He looked at his left hand again. I'll do as much as I can. I don't know how much longer I can hold on to it. His decision made, he moved south towards the sound of the fighting. XXXXXXXXXX. Shizune ran into her office. It was a madhouse. His aides and Anbu rushed in and out to carry out her orders. Lady Tsunade, 8 members of the Hyuga clan have just arrived. Tsunade smiled. They would be a major help. Did Hiashi bring them here? Shizune smiled. No, not Hiashi. Neji walked in without his crutches but with a noticeable limp. He offered the Hokage a respectful bow. Hokage-sama, please forgive me. When the phone lines were all cut and it became clear we were under attack, I thought it likely that you would be using the Tower Plaza as a staging point. I was able to convince some of the cadet branch members to come here. Neji, you have no idea how much you've just helped me in the village. Thank you. He bowed again. I am glad to have helped. He let out a sigh. I realize I can no longer fight, but is there something I can do? Tsunade nodded immediately. You have a sharp mind and I can use that. Go down to the plaza and report to the third Hokage. You can assist him in organizing our forces. Hi Hokage-sama. And Neji, when this is all over I want you to come see me. I have something I want to discuss with you later. He nodded and limped out of her office. An Anbu captain entered with a radio communicator. Hokage-sama, Patrol Squad 5 has confirmed that the academy students are now safely at the cliff shelters. As per your instructions, I have Team Naruto's leader available on the general Anbu frequency. Good. She took the radio communicator. She was relieved to know they had made it safely to the shelters. She just wanted to talk to Naruto for a minute to be satisfied he and the others were safe. Well, safe is possible in a war zone. Naruto, are you and your team all right? There was a short pause. Oh Hinata, are you and the others all right? She nodded. Let me talk to Naruto for a minute. Well, the original obviously, why would I want to talk to a clone? Her lips came down in a frown. What do you mean he's not there? Where is he exactly? As she listened, her face darkened dangerously. He did what? Hinata, what radio frequency is he using? Yes, oh yes, he is in trouble. You and the rest of your squad stay where you are and carry out my order and protect those students. Out. She flicked off the radio and reset the frequency. Damn it, Naruto, I don't have time to babysit you now. Is something wrong, Lady Tsunade? Shizune asked worriedly. You might say that. After doing an incredible job of defeating an enemy force that was attacking the academy, he felt the need to go off on his own and play hero. Shizune gasped. He's running through the village alone. Tsunade nodded. But not for long. She turned the radio communicator back onto the new frequency. Naruto, this is the Hokage report in right now. She switched to the receive setting and waited a moment. There was nothing but static. Damn it, Naruto, I know you're running around the battle zone all alone, now answer me. And this time when she switched her radio to receive, she got a reply, though not one she wanted to hear. XXXXXXXXXX. They had just cleared section C15. Kushina estimated it wouldn't take much longer to finish securing the stadium. As they cleared each section, she added more leaf nins to her force. She had about 150 now and they were clearing the last quarter of the stadium. As they headed towards D1, she noticed Gabriella had picked up a sword. Before she could comment on that, she saw her take on a sound nin with it. She performed a perfect thrust and killed him. Kushina was stunned at the obvious skill and ease. Gabriella, Kushina called. Why didn't you tell me you'd had sword training? She grinned a bit embarrassed. Well, actually sensei, this is the first time I've ever even picked up a sword. What? But your attack was perfectly executed. Well, I've been watching you this whole time with my Sharingan active and I've been able to copy all the moves I've seen. Kushina shook her head. I can't believe I didn't think of that. But I don't want you to fight with a sword anymore, rely on kunai and jutsus. But why not, sensei? After seeing what you can do with one, I want to use a sword too. Kushina smiled. Well, that's very flattering. But for the time being, while we're in real combat, you should rely on the fighting style you're used to. There is a lot more to sword fighting than just the moves. You don't know anything about creating combinations or in working the proper forms. The middle of a battle is not the place to start experimenting with a whole new fighting style. Gabriella nodded. It made sense, but she had discovered that she liked the feel of a sword in her hand. She also wanted to fight like Kushina did. Sensei, when the fighting is done, will you teach me how to use a sword? Kushina smiled and nodded. I'd be happy to, but we're not quite done here yet. Kakashi was standing nearby when his radio sparked to life. Naruto, this is the Hokage report in right now. Kakashi chuckled. It sounds like Naruto is in trouble with the Hokage. Kushina sighed. Just so long as he is not in trouble with the enemy. The Hokage's voice came through again. Damn it, Naruto, I know you're running around the battle zone all alone, now answer me. What? He's alone. Kakashi, what frequency are you on? Kushina demanded. 1550. He replied. Kushina switched to the proper frequency. Tsunade. What do you mean Naruto is all alone? What happened? Back in the tower, Tsunade slapped her forehead. Of course Kakashi's radio would be set to the same frequency as his students, and I'll bet Kushina was standing right next to him. All right Kushina, here is what I know. Tsunade quickly related the information she had. So right now I am trying to get in touch with him to order him back to the shelters and his original mission. I see, Kushina said. Naruto, if you can hear me, reply immediately or I swear I will ground you for a month. She shouted. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto grimaced and shut his radio off. Even heading into more life or death combat, he found himself more worried about his mom being mad at him. XXXXXXXXXX. Alright, either he's turned his radio off or he's deliberately not answering. Tsunade finally said, Kushina, what is your status? Kushina let out a breath and hoped her son would not take too many risks. I expect the stadium to be completely secured within the next 10 minutes. I should have at least 150 ninja available, many of them of Jonin and Chunin rank. Alright, get done there as soon as you can and then get here. XXXXXXXXXX. As they stormed into the next section of the stadium, Gabriella got a quick word in with her teammate. Naruto ignored a direct order from the Hokage and went out to fight alone. So is he that brave or that stupid? Hiku gave her a serious look. Naruto always does what he thinks is right. He will do anything to protect people who are precious to him, including disobeying the Hokage and going to fight alone. So it would seem, though if he saw it as necessary, I am not surprised. You know, the more I hear about him, the more I like him. She sent Hiku a mischievous grin. You better be careful or he just may steal me away from you. He looked worried. Laughing, she dived into the fight. XXXXXXXXXX. The fighting in the stadium was soon over as they met another force of about 40 leaf nins being led by Ryuki. What are you doing here? Kushina asked. This is where my clan's seats were. We have been fighting this entire time. Of the 40 ninjas he led, a dozen were of the Uchiha clan. Ryuki noted his daughter was there as well. Gabriella actually saw his eyes leave her and suddenly come back to her. Gabriella, have you achieved the Sharingan? She nodded once. I have, father. And there it suddenly was, like the sun coming out from behind dark clouds. Her father smiled at her. Her father noticed her. All the Uchihas were smiling at her, they were all noticing her. Now, my daughter, I am so proud of you. I knew you could do it. She stared at him. Liar. You gave up on me a long time ago. Thank you, father. She ground out. It didn't seem right to have a family argument in the midst of so many dead. When this is over, dear, we will have a celebration in your honor. Ryuki declared, and every single Uchiha with him nodded enthusiastically. Gabriella knew there'd be a celebration. The Uchihas celebrated the acquiring of the Sharingan more than they did a birth or a wedding. So far as the clan was concerned, it was a source of greater joy and pride. Her only reply was a weak smile. I don't believe this. I finally get my dream and it doesn't mean anything to me. They don't care about me, not really. They just care about my acquiring the Sharingan. Gabriella compared her father's treatment of her to her sensei's. Her father had given up on her, washed his hands of her once he thought she was too old to acquire it. Who she was and what she did meant nothing to him. Kushina, on the other hand, had stood up to the Hokage for her sake. Kushina had given her a severe test, but once it was passed, she had promised to help her regardless of getting her Sharingan. Her sensei had actually seen her as a person and a kunoichi, rather than as a failure who could not achieve Sharingan. And as Gabriella played these thoughts in her mind, she realized that she cared far more about Kushina's opinion of her than her father's. We have orders from the Hokage to assemble at the tower as soon as the stadium is secure. Kushina said, let's go. Ryuki did not like taking orders from that woman, but given the circumstances he simply nodded and followed. XXXXXXXXXX. Back. Pull back. Ibiki shouted. Ninjas began to fall back behind him as he and two squads tossed out kunai to provide cover. He had lost 2 more men, so he thought he was down to 55. As the Hokage had predicted, the Sand Nins had indeed launched a strong conventional attack. Ibiki knew he didn't have the forces to stop them. He could only slow them a bit and make them pay a price. It was still a lot better than fighting the One Tail. This at least was just a desperate situation rather than mass suicide. That was when he felt a tremendous chakra approaching from behind. Have they gotten behind us? One of his men yelled. Hold your positions. Ibiki yelled. Let's see who or what this is. And as he watched, he saw a figure surrounded by red chakra running towards them on all fours. The outline of the visible chakra looked like an animal's. He saw that there were even 2 distinct tails. As the figure approached, someone threw a kunai at him. Hold it. I think I know who this is. Who? Namikaze Naruto, the Yondaime son. Ibiki said quietly. That answer did not relieve the men of their fears. And sure enough, when the figure came to a halt, Ibiki could see that it was Naruto. Even with his demonic eyes and fangs, there could be no mistake. The boy was still on all fours and seemed to be breathing heavy. Naruto knew he was coming to his limit. His back ached and both hands felt numb. He was huffing air and felt tired. He'd never felt any of those things with the red chakra before. He knew he didn't have much more time with the power. He was determined to use it before it ran out. He looked up. I remember you from the exams. You're Ibiki. Ibiki nodded. And you are Namikaze Naruto. Did the Hokage send you to support us? Not really, Naruto replied. I sent myself. He looked tiredly at the street in front of them. There were a few dead bodies lying out there and he could see some movement about half a block away. Are there a lot of enemy ninja right in front of us? Ibiki nodded. At least a few hundred and they all seem to be very skilled. Good, Naruto said with relief. Good. Ibiki looked at him. Yeah, I would hate to waste it. Before Ibiki could ask what he meant, Naruto leapt away from the cover and out into the open street. Has he got a death wish? One of the other ninja asked. With that sort of chakra? I doubt it, Ibiki said. XXXXXXXXXX. Temari was part of a 30-man unit pushing down a side street about 5 blocks away from the main effort. This was a flank attack that would hopefully catch the Leaf Nins by surprise. The attack was going well so far even though the Leaf Nins were resisting as hard as they could. Maybe they could make this all work out in the end. Do you feel that? A sand nin near her froze. Everyone could feel it. What kind of chakra is that? Temari asked. What do we do? Baki was in command and gave them all a harsh look. We continue the mission. The way he said it, there was no other possible course of action. Despite wondering about the strange chakra, they pressed on. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto got right in the middle of the street and then just stopped, deliberately making himself a target. A rain of kunai and shuriken came down on him, quickly followed by kunai with explosive notes. In the middle of this, he actually sat down and closed his eyes. Why am I so tired? I had plenty of energy just a couple minutes ago. With his eyes closed, he pictured himself in a grass field filled with plump rabbits. He imagined chasing them and devouring them, but their flesh was sweet. He heard a weird clicking sound and opened his eyes. There was a ridiculous-looking puppet flying towards him, spitting out kunai and needles. He frowned. Without even bothering to stand, he sent out one red hand to grab and crush it. Are you going to fight me with toys? He called out, mocking. In response, a ninja with a veil over his face jumped out and cast a jutsu. Wind side technique. Immediately the air about him lashed out towards Naruto. Naruto was mildly impressed. He knew this jutsu. It was an rank wind attack jutsu designed for a single opponent. He could sense the wind buffet around him, but the wind blades could not penetrate the red chakra. It was time. Naruto stood up. With his enhanced sense, he guessed there were maybe 300 ninja packed in the blocks just ahead of him. Perfect. That was a pretty good attack. I happen to be a wind type too. Let me show you one of mine. He began casting. XXXXXXXXXX. The Case Cage was the most powerful ninja in his village and knew just about every wind jutsu there was. He immediately recognized the hand signs. Take cover, he shouted. But it was already too late. Naruto formed the final sign. Kamikaze no Jutsu. Divine Wind. The air before Naruto seemed to darken and grow heavy. Then it exploded forward with hurricane force, ripping and slicing everything before it. Brick, stone, wood, and flesh were cut apart. The buildings in front of him were flattened as whole chunks of masonry were torn out and turned into lethal projectiles. Those who tried to run were caught by the hurricane winds and killed as they were either torn apart or crushed by the flying debris. Those who took cover were killed as their cover was ripped away, leaving them exposed to the killing wind. Those who tried to cast a defensive wind jutsu were killed as their jutsu was simply overwhelmed by the sheer force of Naruto's. In short, when the winds finally died down, everything and everyone for 500 yards in front of Naruto was gone, including the Case Cage, Sabaku no Konkuro, and about 300 sand ninjas. 34. Decision. Hinata was outside the cliff shelters with the rest of Team Naruto. There was a steady stream of refugees flowing into the shelters, along with the academy instructors and a couple dozen other shinobi who had been assigned to assist and guard the shelters. So far there had been no attacks on the shelters themselves, but people were telling horrible stories about sound nins slaughtering helpless civilians. If even half, if even a tenth of what she was hearing was true, then she was glad Naruto had decided to kill those 2 sound nins. She kept a sharp eye out for more refugees, for any sign of the enemy, and for any sign of Naruto. Actually, there were plenty of signs of Naruto. His clones were all around guarding and helping people reach the shelters. Many people were nervous at the first sight of him and his fierce appearance. But the majority soon seemed grateful to know so many ferocious-looking clones were there to protect them. She let out a sigh. It's all right, Hinata-chan. Kiba assured her. Kiba-kun, what do you mean? Hinata asked. He smiled at her knowingly. You're worried about Naruto, aren't you? She nodded. Don't worry about him, it's Naruto after all. I don't think the ninja's been born that can stop him. Hinata looked out at the village again. There were fires and smoke and the crash of buildings. As she listened, she heard the sounds of a storm and some buildings falling near the south end of the village. I'm sure he's all right, but I can't help but worry, she said quietly. Why did he do it? Kiba shook his head. Because he's Naruto. Hinata nodded. Please be safe, Naruto-kun. XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade nodded to the ninja assembled before her. She had sent 200 ninja under Asuma to help Ibiki. Now she would lead the remaining 700 to deal with her old friend. By her side were Sarutobi, Kushina, and Kakashi. Hiashi had finally arrived and would be leading the contingent from his house. Shizune would remain in charge of things at the tower while she led her forces. All right, she called out to them. These bastards have hurt us, but now we return the favor. We're freeing our village of these murderous bastards. Leaf ninjas, follow me. She leapt and her soldiers leapt after her, eager to fight. XXXXXXXXXXX. Tamari got to her feet quickly. She and the rest of the force had been 5 blocks west of where that jutsu had been aimed, and just the fringe of it had knocked them all down. Standing up, she could see that entire buildings that had been standing just a minute ago were completely gone. What was that? She screamed. Baki looked around. All right, change of plans, follow me. He headed for the large chakra signature, determined to find out what had just happened. XXXXXXXXXX. Pain. He howled and dropped to his knees. Every muscle in his body seemed to be cramping at once. Naruto thrust his hands into the concrete and tore into it. Oh, it hurt. He sucked in air trying to breathe. He'd reached it, his limit. Looking up, he saw some more sand ninjas. They immediately took cover as Ibiki and the others behind him let loose with some kunai. They still wanted to fight. Despite the pain, he shut his eyes and tried to concentrate. There was still fighting going on here and at the other end of the village. In spite of the cramps biting down into him, he thought there was just one more thing he could do. One more, just one more, and I'm done. He could sense the red chakra was trying to slip away, but he held onto it through sheer force of will. He had to hold onto it for just one more jutsu. His hands didn't want to work, the fingers didn't want to bend to form the signs. But slowly and carefully he finally managed to form them. He put all the chakra he could and cast his last jutsu. He felt the chakra throb and fight like a living thing against him. But it worked, and with that he fell face forward into the street and the red chakra left him. His eyes closed immediately and he became unconscious. The last thing he heard was a deeper version of his own voice. It's okay. We'll take care of everything. XXXXXXXXXX. She rode atop Katsuya, the queen slug summon, with Sarutobi, Kushina, and Kakashi. As the individual ninjas behind her fanned out to take on individual sound ninjas, Katsuya went for the large snake being ridden by Orochimaru. Use your acid, Katsuya. Tsunade spoke. Yes, my lady. Katsuya spat a stream of acid. Orochimaru leapt away even as the snake was struck and dispelled. He landed on a nearby roof where he was quickly joined by Tsunade and her compatriots. He smiled at them. Well now, this does feel like a reunion. So good to see you again, Sarutobi-sensei, Tsunade, Kakashi. He looked at the woman with the extremely long red hair and sword. I don't believe we have met. I am the legendary Orochimaru. I am Namikaze Kushina, she said tightly. Orochimaru laughed. Minato's wife. Well, I can see why he fell in love with you. Shut up, Kushina ground out. Tsunade focused chakra into her fist. Orochimaru, why did you do this? He laughed and shut his eyes. Because I wanted revenge on all those who betrayed me. Betrayed you? Sarutobi shouted. You were murdering and experimenting on your own fellow villagers. Yes, he opened his eyes to reveal the Sharingan. And see what it has gained me. You have the Sharingan, Tsunade exclaimed. That's right. With my genius and through experimentation I have found the key to immortal life. I can take possession of the bodies of others and gain their abilities. I will never grow old and I will never die. I will learn every single jutsu that exists and be the greatest genius this world has ever known. I will live forever. How can you live forever when you're going to die right here and now? Tsunade rushed at him. Kakashi formed a lighting blade and charged in, as did Kushina. Sarutobi hung back. Laughing, he avoided her punches with ease, his body able to bend and twist with unnatural ease and grace. He struck her viciously in the stomach and then knocked her down. With a single hand he caught Kakashi by the wrist and held him there, before throwing him off the roof. Kushina performed the dance of the rose and aimed for the bastard's head. He dodged and moved, avoiding her blade with ease. He snapped a punch that caught her square in the face and sent her flying. He laughed. I have adapted this body to give it great speed, strength, and agility. With the Sharingan to read your movements, you have no hope against me. He opened up his mouth and pulled out a sword. I will enjoy this. Sarutobi completed a last hand sign. Dome of Fate technique. A large dome formed around the two of them, leaving Tsunade and a recently returned Kakashi looking in at them. Orochimaru experimentally pressed against the dome and found it quite solid. He turned to Sarutobi with a grin. What are you up to, old man? Sarutobi spoke grimly as he worked through hand signs. The dome will not hold long, but it will be enough. You are my responsibility and my shame, Orochimaru. I will not allow you to cause any more deaths. He completed the last hand sign. Shikifujin. Reaper Death Seal, I could have ended your evil long ago, but in my moment of weakness I failed. All the evil you have done since that day falls upon me. Now I shall atone for my failure by ending all of your ambitions. Orochimaru could feel the air grow colder around him, and his Sharingan showed him something standing behind his old teacher. Old fool, no one can end my ambitions. What sort of jutsu is this? Sarutobi hesitated for just a moment until he could feel the Shinigami reach into him and the seal form on his belly. He smiled sadly at Orochimaru, who had once been his pride and joy. This is the jutsu that defeated the Kyuubi. It put an end to the Nine Tails' destruction, and it will end yours as well. Fool, I don't know what you think is going to happen here, but I'm not the one who is going to die. He rushed at him with his sword. He dove with the sword straight out, ready to adjust depending on how Sarutobi dodged. To his own surprise, though, Sarutobi never moved and he was able to put his sword into his chest. But even as he did so, he felt his body turn to ice. He felt his superb and powerful body grow suddenly weak. Why didn't you dodge? Sarutobi coughed up some blood. To work this seal, the caster must give up his own life. I didn't bother to dodge because there's no point. I am going to die anyway. What have you done to me? He gasped. What is this weakness? Sarutobi coughed up some more blood. What you feel is your soul being pulled from your body. Make your final peace if you can, my foolish student. For rest assured you are dying this day. Never. He gritted his teeth and tried to drive the sword even further into Sarutobi's chest. XXXXXXXXXXX. What the hell? Ibiki whispered. XXXXXXXXXX. What the hell? Baki gasped. All through the street in front of him 500 clones had appeared. They had slit red eyes and fangs, but far more troubling, they had swords drawn. 2 of the clones immediately grabbed hold of the original Naruto and pulled him out of the danger zone. 20 clones stayed with the original to guard him. The others shouted and rushed forward, performing the dance of the cherry blossoms, the dance of the Sakura. They're just shadow clones, we can deal with them easily. Baki leapt backwards to gain some room and tossed some kunai. His statement was both right and wrong. These were shadow clones, but they would not be easy to deal with. What neither Baki nor Naruto nor anyone else knew was that by creating them with the Kyuubi's chakra, they had one tiny but oh so important difference. In the future, Naruto would call these his red chakra clones, and they would be a special weapon because of their difference. A sand nin swiftly threw 3 shurikens at 3 clones that were closing on him. All 3 struck home, but the clones kept right on coming. The ninja died screaming as 3 swords stabbed into him. Baki also struck 3 clones with kunai only to see them keep coming. Temari leapt beside him and swung her fan, Great Wind Dance. The winds caught the clones and sent them spiraling away. But there were more coming. Temari thought about calling her summon, but the clones were in among her own people, she would have to slaughter them too to use it. What's going on? Shouldn't they be dispelled when they're hit? Baki nodded. According to what I know about shadow clones. As he watched the 3 clones he'd hit landed roughly but got back up, all still with kunai in their chests. As they began coming back at him, they finally dispelled in puffs of smoke. That's it. Baki turned to his student. These shadow clones can still be dispelled, but they have a delay of perhaps 30 seconds. He and Temari both paled at that. What that tiny little delay meant was that even if they were hit multiple times, they would keep coming for another 30 seconds, which was plenty of time for them to reach you with those swords. As Baki watched, he saw his men being cut down by clones riddled with shuriken and kunai. These clones would be too much for them. We're done, Baki said to himself. What was that, sensei? Temari asked as she launched another wind attack to keep some more of the clones at bay. He turned to her. I said we were done. I'm calling a retreat. Baki, you can't. The cage will have your head for that. Temari said. Temari, the cage is dead, along with most of our forces. You can't be sure of that. He might. He is dead, Temari. If he were alive, he would be right here trying to rally his forces. He is gone, and it looks like I am senior on the field now. He took a deep breath. Retreat. Fall back. Retreat. Temari was stunned, but she did her part using her wind jutsus to try and cover others as they pulled back. XXXXXXXXXXX. Ibiki shouted. Naruto, stop. Let them go. Naruto had been going after the retreating sand nins. Most of the clones stopped momentarily but stared at Ibiki. Are you crazy? Several said at once. Why should I let them get away? They've fled the battlefield and are no longer a threat. Ibiki pointed eastward. But we're still needed there. Let them go for now. We can always deal with them another day if we have to. But the village needs us over there to deal with Orochimaru's forces. That is our priority. The Narutos frowned and one spoke up, expressing what they were all thinking. I really don't want to let them get away, but I guess you're right. With that, they began moving to the east end of the village. XXXXXXXXXXX. Old man, what the hell are you doing? Tsunade smashed her chakra-enhanced fist into the dome to no effect. Drop the jutsu and let us help you. There's something going on in there, Kakashi said. He had his Sharingan exposed. I know, Tsunade shouted in frustration. That bastard has a sword through his chest. No, Kakashi said. There is some sort of sealing going on, but I can't tell exactly what. Maybe this is some sort of plan on Sarutobi's part. Kushina offered. What sort of plan includes letting your enemy stab you through the chest? She began to pound on the dome with renewed vigor. Sarutobi. XXXXXXXXXX. Orochimaru struggled to hold on to his life force. Tsunade wants to help you, old man. He gasped. Why don't you drop the jutsu and let her? Sarutobi coughed up some more blood. It would make no difference, and I will not put the Hokage in danger needlessly. He smiled weakly. It seems I am at the end of my strength. In that case, will you please die and let me get on with destroying this wretched village? No, Orochimaru. Though it seems I am not strong enough to pull your soul completely from your body, I can still put an end to your ambitions. Suddenly, what had been a fuzzy image cleared, and Orochimaru could see a terrifying figure standing behind Sarutobi wielding a blade. What is that? Orochimaru called out in fear. What you see is the Shinigami that I summoned here. Now you will face your punishment. As Sarutobi spoke, the arm holding the blade fell. No, Orochimaru howled. The blade cut into his life force, and the part representing his arms was drawn into Sarutobi's belly. Seal. With that, the jutsu was completed and the Shinigami began to devour the old man's soul. My arms. Both his arms fell limp to his side. With horror, he watched the skin turn black. What have you done? Sarutobi smiled victoriously. He was at peace. At long last, he had atoned for his terrible mistake so long ago. I have ended your ambitions, Orochimaru. Your hands and arms are now useless to you. You can no longer make hand signs and so can no longer work ninjutsu. Your plan to destroy the Leaf Village has failed. Orochimaru could only glower at him. Sarutobi felt the last of his life slipping away. I regret only that I could not take you with me, but let us meet again one day in the afterlife. Those were the last words of the man who had been the third Hokage of Konohagakure. And as he fell over, Orochimaru stared hatefully at his peaceful expression. Damn you, old man. Orochimaru cursed. With Sarutobi's death, the dome was immediately released. Tsunade and the others rushed in. Get away from him, Tsunade screamed. Gladly. He leapt away. You're welcome to his rotting corpse, you old witch. Orochimaru fled. Sensei. Tsunade knelt down beside him and tried desperately to do the impossible. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sarutobi was dead. Tsunade could do nothing but weep. Kushina and Kakashi stayed with her and tried to console as best they could. All around them the battle still raged. Orochimaru had fled but did not bother to call a general retreat. He wanted as much of Konoha to burn as possible. Determined Leaf Nins were trying to dig them out and slowly pushing them back. To aid them, reinforcements arrived led by Asuma and Ibiki. Asuma's force of 200 had actually arrived on the scene just as Ibiki was heading to the other battle site. Along with the forces they led were over 300 shadow clones still eager to fight. Kushina spotted some of them and ran to the roof's edge. Naruto. One of the clones heard her and detoured to the roof. Seeing his appearance, both Kushina and Tsunade were taken aback. Naruto was a little disappointed by the reaction but understood. Mom, godmother, it's okay. When I use the red chakra, it changes how I look. Kushina got over it and held out her arms. Naruto gladly ran to her and hugged her. Naruto-kun, why did you disobey the Hokage and go out all alone without anyone to watch your back? Kushina asked as she held her son. Well, Mom, I didn't think I was breaking her orders. I made a bunch of shadow clones to help my team keep the students safe. I just decided that with my red chakra I could be a bigger help fighting. Tsunade got up and looked at him unhappily. That was not your decision to make, Naruto. I expect my ninjas to carry out my orders, especially during an emergency. And don't give me any nonsense about shadow clones. We both know you should have stayed with your team. But godmother, I'm a shadow clone. I know that, but since the real Naruto isn't here for me to yell at, he'll do. Besides, he'll get the memory when you dispel. Tsunade said. Where is the real Naruto? Kushina asked. He's alright, Mom. Naruto assured. He's suffering from chakra exhaustion, so 20 clones brought him back to the house. They'll guard him. Tsunade frowned to hear that. You see, you ended up unconscious. You should have obeyed my orders. Actually, I am very glad he did not. Ibiki landed on the roof. Ibiki, what are you doing here? Who is fighting the sand ninjas? Hokage-sama, the sand ninjas have been routed, entirely thanks to Naruto. He single-handedly not only drove them back but killed most of them. If he had not been there, we would still be trying to hold them back instead of being here to reinforce. Tsunade, Kushina, and Kakashi were all looking at him. You single-handedly broke an invading army? Kakashi asked. That sounds like the sort of thing your father did during the Third Great Ninja War. Kushina said seriously. Tsunade let out a sigh. Well, Naruto, if you really did shut down one of the fronts by yourself, then I suppose I can't get upset with you, especially since the academy students were kept safe. Naruto looked to Kushina. You're not mad either, are you, Mom? Kushina smiled. No, son, I'm very proud of you. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. Good, so you're not really going to ground me for a month. Kakashi groaned. Kushina and Tsunade suddenly darkened their expressions. Did I say something wrong? You were listening, Tsunade declared. I ordered you to report in and you deliberately chose not to. I asked you to answer and you didn't. Do you have any idea how worried I was about you? Kushina said. Kakashi just shook his head silently. You need to work on being a little more deceptive, Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. The enemy sound ninjas were quickly routed when Naruto's red chakra clones arrived. The sight of Naruto coming at them even with kunai sticking out of his chest began to sap their will. Eventually the surviving sound ninjas fled just as the sand nins had done. And as they fled they talked to each other about a certain red-eyed, sword-wielding, demonic-looking ninja. They didn't know his name so they called him the Red-Eyed Demon, the Leaf Demon, or the Killing Demon. Among the citizens and ninja of Konoha stories also spread quickly about the one who had killed hundreds of sand ninjas with a single jutsu. Stories were spread about the ninja whose incredible power had turned the tide. They knew who he was of course, and where his awesome power came from. Some still feared him but most saw him as a hero, like his father. But even those who saw him as a hero began to call him by a new name. Before long he would be best known by this name by both friend and foe. Just as Namikaze Minato became the Yellow Flash of Konoha, Namikaze Naruto would also become the Demon of Konoha. 35. From the Ashes. Author's note: first let me just thank everyone for the amazing response to this story. It is really great to know so many people enjoy it. Now I just need to make an announcement. As most of you have probably noticed, I have been updating a chapter a day since releasing this story, 35 chapters in 35 days. More than a few of you have asked if I had all this pre-written or was actually writing a chapter a day. Well, scary as this may sound, I have been writing every day and usually stayed about 2 chapters ahead. At first I was chained to my computer because I had a ton of great ideas for the very beginning of the story. Then seeing the awesome response I was getting, I decided to try and see if I could keep writing and uploading a chapter a day. I sort of saw it as a cool little personal challenge of my writing skills, fortitude, and lack of need for sleep. And of course the more compliments I got on the speed of my updates, the more determined I was to keep going. Now there are 2 things I really dislike from people who write and post stories here. 1. I dislike it when people use polls to decide plot, or couples, or whatever else. I happen to think that if you're going to the trouble of writing something and posting it, then it should be because you want people to read your story. Honestly, if you don't even have a strong enough sense of the plot to be able to decide if it should be Hinata, Sakura, or Ino who is the girlfriend, why even bother to write? Tell your story the way you like it best. Otherwise, what's the point? Second, I hate people who start a decent story and then just let it die unfinished. There is nothing more annoying than reading a good story, getting into it, and then realizing it hasn't been updated in a year and a half. I believe in finishing the things I start. I currently have 3 other stories I am working on. They sort of got put on the back burner when I saw the monstrous response this story received. I want to go back and work on those now and see about finishing them. Now there's no need to worry as I am not putting this on hiatus. I am not planning to forget about updating it. However, I will not be updating daily anymore. Spring semester at college is about to begin. With school and trying to work on other stories, weekly updates will be the goal. Sorry if I've spoiled you. But I do promise to keep working on this story. And I never break my word. For that is my author's way. XXXXXXXXXXX. He opened his eyes beneath a glorious blue sky. He sat up in a grass field full of flowers and felt no pain. And there not too far away was what looked like an old ruined fortress. He stood and felt no pain at all. He sighed and began to jog towards the gate that he knew was there. He stood before the closed gate with the single seal upon it. Well, I'm here, he called out. 2 gigantic red eyes and a long row of teeth appeared behind the iron gate. Kneel before me. No. You dare. Unlike last time, I'm not a scared kid with no idea who you are. Who do you think I am, mortal worm? You're the 9-tailed fox that my father defeated. The Kyuubi roared in fury. Howl all you want, you bastard fox. The fact remains. Show me respect or I will make you regret it. No, Naruto repeated. You're the prisoner and I'm the jailer. I'll show you no respect. You took away my father and because of you a lot of people hate me. You've already done me all the harm you can. He saw the teeth form a fax grin. If you believe that, you are a fool. Oh really? He deliberately stood within arm's length of the gate. He spread his arms out to either side, exposing himself to attack. Then why don't you punish me right here and now? The Kyuubi's roar made his ears hurt, but he smiled nonetheless. Just as I thought. I've read up on seals over the last 4 years and talked to Granddad about it. You can't control me or cause me any direct harm, not unless I allow it. The red eyes flattened a bit, and though he couldn't see it, Naruto had a mental image of fox ears being pinned back. I can deny you my chakra. Naruto shrugged. Yes, you can, but if you do that, it becomes more likely that I die sooner rather than later. Is that what you want? After all, when I die, you die. The fox growled. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune. I will never die. Oh yes you will, Naruto declared. When my time finally comes I'll take you into death with me. It will be the final service I perform for my village. The Kyuubi growled at him and Naruto let out a sigh. But I'm not looking to hurry that day along. Instead of threatening me, why don't you help me? The demon eyed him for a time. Then chuckled. Let me guess. You want more power. Naruto frowned. He didn't like to think the Kyuubi could read him so easy. Yes I do. The Kyuubi laughed. Tear away my seal and I will give you more power than you ever dreamed of. No thanks. Naruto eyed him. How about instead you give me just a little more and let me use it without feeling like I'm about to die? The Kyuubi eyed him once more. I'll give you a little more power. As for the pain you feel, there is no avoiding that. Your human body is simply too frail to stand the strain for long. As you grow older and use the power more often, you will build greater endurance and be able to hold the power longer. But you will always have a limit. Isn't there anything I can do about that? You can tear off my seal. No. Then accept your limits, mortal. Now leave me. Wait, I need to ask, but everything around him faded away. XXXXXXXXXX. He opened his eyes and saw he was in his own bed. Damn rude Baka Fox. Naruto muttered. Naruto-kun, you're awake. A happy voice called. Hinata jumped into the bed and immediately began to hug him and kiss him. She caught him by surprise. Whoa, hard to believe Hinata-chan used to be so shy. But he soon had his arms around her and was eagerly returning her kisses. Naruto-kun, she pulled back a bit to catch her breath. Why did you leave me? I wanted to keep you safe. He leaned forward to kiss her, but she pulled out of his arms to sit back on the edge of his bed. What's wrong? You're a baka, she said. What? No way. Did my sweet little Hinata-chan just call me a baka? She yelled at him. Baka, baka, baka. I called you a baka, Naruto-kun. Why are you calling me that? Upset, he sat up in the bed. He was a bit embarrassed to see his mom had put him in his bunny pajamas. Because you are one. You don't need to protect me, Naruto-kun. I'm a strong kunoichi and I'm ready to face any danger to stand by your side. But I don't want you to face danger, Hinata-chan. When I think of you getting hurt or worse, I die inside. I couldn't bear to see you hurt. She relented a bit and leaned forward against him and let his arms wrap lovingly around her. I know, Naruto-kun, that's how I feel when I think about you in danger. But as long as we're shinobi, there's no avoiding the danger. And I want to face it with you so I can at least be there when you need me. She gave him a firm look. I am kunoichi of the leaf, you don't need to shelter me. Instead, fight with me and watch my back, and I will always do the same for you, Naruto-kun. Now promise me you won't ever try and shield me from danger again. I can't promise you that, Hinata-chan. She pulled out of his arms again. Fine, then no more kisses or hugs until you do. He gawked at her. You wouldn't. She crossed her arms. I don't want to, but I would. He frowned at her. You told me once that all your kisses were for me. They are all for you. I'm not going to start kissing anyone else. But until I get your promise, I just won't kiss anyone. He sighed. He knew he could live without her kisses and hugs. But who would want to? All right, Hinata-chan, I promise to never try and shelter you from danger. She gave him a happy smile. Good. She was back in his arms and kissing again. Oh, Naruto-kun, the Hokage asked you to come see her once you felt all right. She checked on you last night to make sure it was just chakra exhaustion. Why don't you get dressed and we'll both go to the tower? Sure. Oh, I'll probably need to check with Kasen first. Why? He looked a bit embarrassed. Well, she sort of told one of my clones I was grounded for 2 months. I'm not allowed out of the estates except for missions and team training. So I need to check. Hey, are you laughing at me? Hinata had both hands over her mouth trying to suppress her giggles. No. You're laughing at me. He began to pout and Hinata couldn't help it, she burst out laughing. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina actually decided to accompany both of them to the tower. As the three of them walked, they noticed something. The fact that the crowds parted to give them space was not unusual. The sight of people bowing or cheering was also not strange, a few had always done that. What was surprising was that most of the people on the street were showing him this respect. Rather than the 1 in 10 he was used to, 9 in 10 bowed or cheered him. As they walked, he heard again and again people call blessings on him. Is this a dream? Naruto asked. Am I in a hospital bed in a coma or something? It's no dream, Naruto-kun. Hinata said and gave his hand a squeeze. They all know what you did yesterday and they finally see you as a hero. Kushina put a hand on his shoulder and have him a proud smile. This is how it should have always been. And as they walked, he also heard a few people call him demon. Naruto frowned and sighed. Well, I guess not everyone sees me as a hero. He wasn't really disappointed though. This was still a lot better than it had been. Kushina looked thoughtful. She noted that the people who were calling him that were still bowing or cheering. And the tone was not hostile at all. Actually, Naruto-kun, I don't think they're using it as an insult. I think it's your new nickname. Huh. Kushina smiled. Think of it as a family curse. We all get nicknames: Yellow Flash, Red Death, and Demon. Naruto frowned. I don't think I like it. Kushina shrugged. Well, Naruto-kun, I've never really liked mine, but I've learned that once a name takes, it's impossible to get rid of. Try and do what I have and make your new name one people respect and maybe fear. He thought about that and slowly nodded. The demon, or maybe the demon of the Leaf Village. It does have a powerful ring to it. He smiled. I kind of liked Demon of the Mist. I think Demon of the Leaf might be pretty good. He had a small smile. It should look really cool in all the bingo books. XXXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade welcomed the three of them into her office. How are you feeling, Naruto? I feel just fine, Naruto said. Tsunade nodded. Well, that's good to hear. It's a refreshing change to hear some good news this morning. We lost a lot of people yesterday. We still only have estimates, but our losses include about 600 shinobi and perhaps 10,000 civilians, not to mention that about a quarter of the village was destroyed in the fighting. She let out a deep sigh. We will hold a memorial tomorrow to honor our dead. But there is too much to be done for us to waste any time. One thing we have to do is start to replace all the Jonin and Chunin that have been lost. So I've decided to promote Hinata, Kiba, Skikamaru, Ino, Lee, and Tenten to Chunin rank. Reaching behind her desk, she produced a green vest and handed it to Hinata. Congratulations, Hinata. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I promise to work very hard to be worthy of my new rank. Hinata said proudly. Naruto was staring up at her with an open mouth. Tsunade smiled sweetly at him in feigned ignorance. Is something wrong, Naruto? What about me? You promoted everyone else who made the finals, even Shikamaru and Ino. How can you leave me out? She gave him a frosty look. Oh, and do you think someone who deliberately goes against orders deserves to be Chunin? But I was doing it to help the village. And I stopped the sand nins. Ibiki even said so. Tsunade crossed her arms over her chest. Every ninja who fought yesterday or performed some other assignment was trying to help the village. And they didn't have to break orders. But are you really going to punish me for wanting to do more? Naruto pleaded. Tsunade lifts an eyebrow. And you consider being made Jonin a punishment? Of course I do. It's not fair that, huh? Tsunade and Kushina both began to laugh while Hinata and Naruto both looked confused. Tsunade smiled and rubbed the top of his head, messing up his hair. I'm sorry, Naruto, you have to let me get a little bit of fun where I can. From behind her desk she produced another vest. Naruto, we have reports that the Cage was killed. Most likely by you along with between 200 and 300 sand ninjas. And your shadow clones helped bring the battle to its conclusion. You are clearly one of, if not the most powerful ninja in this village, and I am most pleased to promote you to the rank of Jonin. Naruto-kun, I am so happy for you. Hinata hugged him. Thanks, Hinata-chan, and I am really happy for you. You deserve it. Naruto turned back to Tsunade. Thank you, godmother. She smiled at him, then slowly shook her head and lost some of her good cheer. You're welcome, Naruto, but you should know being Jonin only means your life will get that much harder and more dangerous. When word about yesterday's battle gets out, it will become clear to everyone that you are a Jinchuriki and possess the Kyuubi. Given the level of power you displayed, there's no way to keep it secret. Naruto nodded solemnly. I kind of figured that. Is that why you told everyone at the academy, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Yes, Hinata-chan. I knew too many people were going to see me with the red chakra. I knew it would be impossible to keep it secret any longer. Well, now that the secret is out, you are going to draw a lot of attention. I expect you to be listed in every bingo book by the end of the month. Really? He said excitedly. Tsunade frowned at his enthusiasm. Naruto, that is not a good thing. For a ninja, surprise is a weapon that you will no longer have. Naruto grinned, and despite his normal features, there was something just a bit animalistic in it. It's all right, Hokage-sama, I have enough weapons. XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade was busy that morning. Neji, thank you for coming to see me. He bowed to her. I am happy to be of service, Hokage-sama. And just how can I be of service? Tsunade looked at him with complete seriousness. We have lost a lot of people, Neji. The village needs every person in it to pull together and help in order for us to get through this difficult time. There is a way you could be a very great value to Konoha. How, Hokage-sama? She smiled. How would you like to be a medic nin? He looked at her in complete surprise. I must admit the thought had never occurred to me. The lady Hinata has a great interest in healing, but mine has always been in fighting. Just think about it for a moment, Neji. Your wounds have not affected your ability to draw or use chakra, and like most members of your clan, you have excellent chakra control. You would make an outstanding medical nin. I suppose that is true. He answered carefully. However, my lack of mobility and physical stamina would still seem to limit my usefulness in the field. Tsunade nodded. I am glad you understand that. That is why you would not be assigned to a team, rather you would be working in Konoha Hospital. You would not have missions, but you would be a true ninja, and I would also promote you to Chunin once you had progressed far enough. I am about to start teaching a new class, and I would like you to be among my students. You could be a very great help in saving the lives of our wounded. What do you think? He thought about it. Being a medic nin had never once crossed his mind. His pride came from proving himself in combat. However, that dream was gone now. He no longer had the mobility or stamina to go on missions. But if he were medic nin, he would still be a ninja, he would even have a purpose. He would be a healer instead of a fighter. He wondered if that meant Hinata would suddenly want to become a fighter rather than a healer. He tried to imagine her deliberately instigating fights with Lee. He chuckled. Something funny? Tsunade asked. No, Hokage-sama, if you believe I can best serve the Leaf Village by becoming a medic nin, then I shall do so. Wonderful. XXXXXXXXXX. Thank you for seeing me, Hokage-sama. Tsunade smiled and tried to appear gracious. Whether she liked the man or not, he needed to be treated with respect. I always have time for the heads or our clans. How can I help you, Ryuki? You are, I trust, aware of the recent change in my daughter's status. If you mean her recent acquiring of the Sharingan, yes, I am aware of it. He smiled. Obviously things have now changed. She is now of great concern to my clan and to myself. We would like her to be placed on a new team. Tsunade frowned. This was about what she had expected. On what grounds? It is unusual for a ninja to be removed from her team. It is extremely rare without the request of her sensei. And I must tell you, her sensei was here earlier today and told me quite specifically that she was happy with your daughter's performance. He frowned. Of that I have no doubt. However, what her current sensei wants is beside the point. Then what is the point? My clan and I wish her to be on a different team where she may have a more beneficial role. Tsunade shook her head. She fought very well with her current team during yesterday's battle. I would say the role she is serving now is beneficial to the village. She would do better with a different sensei and a different team. Ryuki put just a little bit of heat in his words. Perhaps, she was willing to allow. But that alone is not enough reason to transfer her. She pushed on before Ryuki could object. Most especially as you declared you were disinterested in her only a month ago. The situation has changed. Obviously, but you did not put in a disclaimer at the time. You washed your hands of her without condition. She is serving well where she is and I see no valid reason to move her yet again. She will stay with her current team. I see. He bowed to her and quietly left. She sighed. What a pleasant fellow, she muttered. XXXXXXXXXX. The next meeting was a relief as this person had an open and friendly demeanor and was just plain likable. Thank you for coming today. He smiled at her. Of course, I would never think to refuse a meeting with the Hokage. She nodded. I'll come right to the point. You have some excellent untapped potential and a number of recommendations, including your father's, of course. I am about to start teaching a new class and I want you to be in it. How would you like to become a true medic nin? The boy gave her a deep, heartfelt smile. Hokage-sama, thank you. It has always been my dream to learn at the hands of the legendary Sannin Lady Tsunade. I eagerly accept. Good. I'm glad this was so easy. Now, I'd like to ask you what you did during the battle. He looked a bit embarrassed and pushed his glasses back up. I am ashamed to admit this, but I was at the stadium and fell asleep when the genjutsu took effect. I woke to a scene of slaughter with the battle already over. Kabuto confessed shamefully. Tsunade nodded in sympathy. Don't feel bad, the same happened to many of our genin. I am sure I can expect great things from you in the future. He bowed deeply to her. Hokage-sama, I truly hope to astound you. Kabuto said. XXXXXXXXXX. The next day the bells tolled. All of Konoha turned out to honor all those who had died to preserve the Leaf Village. Sarutobi, Shikaku, Inoichi, Choza, and so many others who had made the ultimate sacrifice. The entire village turned out in their mourning clothes to honor them. One by one they laid down a white flower before the images of their fallen comrades. Naruto and his mother comforted Tsunade for the loss of someone who had been like a second father to her. Naruto went to his former classmates to offer what comfort he could. Ino hugged him and for once he did not object and returned her hug and shared with her words of comfort. Of the three of them, Ino seemed the most deeply hurt. Her father would never call her princess again. Choji was deeply saddened and did not want to talk. Shikamaru wept as he looked at the smiling image of his father. A light rain began to fall and Shika rubbed his eyes. Damn rain, it gets in my eyes. I know it does, Naruto said quietly. Shikamaru looked at his friend. You never knew your father, so I guess I should be glad I got so much time with mine. Naruto nodded. All I ever had were stories. You should be glad you got to know him. Being ninja, there are no guarantees. You know, it's funny, Shikamaru said softly. He would always tell these stories about how he and his team would get in these unbelievable situations and how somehow they would always survive them. Shikamaru laughed a bit. Dad would always tell me he didn't like to gamble because he wanted to save his luck for the battlefield. He always told those stories and you know, after a while I stopped listening to them. They got boring. I mean, they were all the same, they'd get in trouble and somehow they would find a way out of it. I always thought that was how it would be for them. I never ever thought. He didn't say anything else for a while. Naruto just remained there at his side patient. Is that how it was for you with your mom? Naruto shook his head. No, I was the opposite. Every time my mom left, I was terrified I would never see her again. I remember all my nightmares when I was little were about her being hurt or going away and never coming back. Shikamaru was quiet for a while. I'm going to miss him a lot. I know. Shikamaru paused for a bit. I need to go and take care of my mom. He hesitated. Naruto, can I ask you something about the battle? Sure, what? You did most of your fighting against the sand ninjas, right? That's right. By any chance do you remember seeing a blonde kunoichi with 4 ponytails and a giant fan? Naruto looked at his friend oddly. The question wasn't one he'd expected. You mean the girl who kicked Sasuke's ass in the preliminaries? Shikamaru nodded nervously. Yeah, I remember her. Shikamaru swallowed, afraid to ask. Did you kill her? To his immense relief, Naruto shook his head. Nope, she kept blasting my clones with wind jutsus out of her damn fan. I never got close to her. He looked at his friend. Why do you care? No reason, I'll see you later, Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. Walking home with his mother, he suddenly stopped and hugged her with all his might. Kushina was taken by surprise. Is something wrong, son? He shook his head. I love you, Mom. He choked the words out. She out her arms around her baby and hugged him back. I love you too, Naruto-kun. I love you too. After a bit, he let go and wiped his eyes. Rain get in my eyes. He complained. Kushina nodded. It gets in mine too. She put an arm around his shoulders. Come on, let's go home and I'll make you some ramen. 36. Terms of surrender. It had only been 7 days. 7 days since the Battle of Konoha. 7 days ago the forces of Suna had made her one of the 5 great shinobi villages. 7 days ago the Kage had led a superb army consisting of 500 elite Suna ninja and their secret weapon, Gaara. They had gone into battle with the strongest of the 5 villages with the hope of defeating them and securing Suna's future. Even with allies, even with Gaara's power, and even with surprise, they had all understood that war with Konoha was a risk. But the Kage had judged it a risk with taking. 500 ninja had gone north with their Kage and with Gaara. 39 had returned, the Kage and Gaara not among them. Perhaps the best possible evidence of their situation was to be seen in the meeting of the Council of Wind. There had been 15 members, now 3 remained. The leader of the council was an old man named Suleiman. He was both respected and feared as the head of the Department of Internal Security as well as the Kazekage's chief advisor. He had been the Kazekage's strongest supporter and had been left in charge of the village. Suleiman was also the clan head of Osama, one of the 6 founding clans of Suna. He was a strong man who was used to making hard decisions. Now he found himself responsible for his village's survival. What are we supposed to do? Polito asked desperately. We have to fight. What else can we do? Sugaya said with conviction. Fight with what? Suleiman said calmly. Both of them turned to him. We no longer have an army. Including the 3 of us, Suna has a total of 7 Jonins and 20 Chunins, all the rest are Genin. How are we supposed to fight with any hope of victory or even survival? Sugaya clenched his fists. We still have ninja. We can make a stand at the valley entrance and hold them there. And when their Jinchuriki casts his S-rank wind jutsu against us. What will happen then? Suleiman lit a pipe and began to smoke peacefully. He gave them both a minute but neither of them wanted to answer, so he answered his own question. Our troops will be annihilated. After which the army of Konoha will enter Suna and take their revenge on us. There was complete silence in the council room as Suleiman puffed on his pipe. How could we not have known they had a Biju at their disposal? Polito asked. Suleiman frowned at him. The Department of Internal Security ran Suna's intelligence networks. Is that a condemnation of my department? Suleiman asked quietly. No, not at all. Polito fell over himself apologizing. Suleiman continued to puff on his pipe. All indications are they did not suspect the existence of Gaara as our secret weapon. We in turn did not suspect this Naruto to be theirs. Suleiman let out a stream of smoke. It seems we were equally good at keeping important secrets. Unfortunately, their Jinchuriki proved the stronger weapon. Then what are we to do now? Polito asked. We have no choice, we must accept the surrender terms. Sugaya slammed both fists on the table. Never. To accept these terms would be to disgrace ourselves and our descendants. To refuse them would be to destroy ourselves and our descendants. Sugaya, I understand your anger, but to resist, while brave, would be suicidal. It is our duty to save and protect Suna, not deliberately cause its demise. Sugaya took a deep breath. Is there no other way? None. Suleiman shook his head. Let us make this official. As head of the council, I call the question. Shall we accept the terms of surrender sent to us by the Hokage of the Leaf Village? Let all those who agree to do so raise a hand. Suleiman, Polito, and finally Sugaya raised a hand. It is done. Suleiman announced it as though it were a sentence of death, and in a way it was. We will meet with the new clan heads this afternoon and share the terms with them before we announce it to the village. There will be rioting when they hear of it. Polito said morosely. I do not think so. Suleiman stood up from the table. Take a look at something with me. He walked over to a glass door and stepped out onto a small balcony. Polito and Sagaya joined him. Down in the village they could see a dozen or more fires lit. They were burning at various cross streets and a crowd was gathered around each. What are they doing? Have they started to riot already? Polito asked. No, Sagaya said sadly. He, like Suleiman and unlike the younger Polito, was a veteran of the Third Great Ninja War. Those are bonfires. The crowds are throwing their most precious possessions into them. But why? Polito wondered. Sagaya quietly explained. They are making offerings to Kami. Near the end of the last war, when we stood bankrupt and exhausted, the people did the very same thing. It is a sign that they realize how dire the situation is. They are giving up their most valued treasures in the hope that Kami will spare them in the village. It means the people will not riot, they will accept the surrender. It is a funeral pyre. Suleiman spoke with a melancholy certainty. This marks the end of Suna as a great power. We will never again rise to what we were. He took a deep breath and set himself to walk a hard road. But we will save what we can. XXXXXXXXXXX. Are you sure you want me to do this, Tamari? Her maid Tanya asked. Yes, Tamari answered in a dead voice. I can't do much, but I can at least mourn them properly. Maybe Kankuro and Gara will know somehow and be just a little comforted to know I miss them. And your father as well. No, Tamari said with just a little heat. He can rot in hell unmourned and forgotten. You never called me daughter. You never let me call you father. Even though we lived in the same house, you were a stranger to me and I do not miss you. Tanya gulped. As you wish. She began cutting Tamari's beautiful locks. Will you wear it short for the full year? Of course. Tamari always tried to carry out the traditions. She thought it showed respect for all those who had come before. She sat there quietly in her bedroom and looked into the mirror as Tanya cut off her hair. He was a sad little boy, she said quietly. Tanya stopped cutting and looked at her questioningly. Who? Gara. I remember when he was very little, before he became so cold. He was very sad. All he wanted was love, for someone to care about him. She looked down in shame. I never gave him that. At first it was because I resented him for taking mother away. I blamed him for that. Then later on I was scared of him like everyone else. The only person who ever showed him any affection was my uncle Yashimaru. After he died was when Gara started to withdraw and become cold and uncaring. She was quiet for a bit. I was relieved, she whispered. Tanya hadn't really heard. What was that? Tamari kept looking down. When Baki told me Gara was dead, the very first thing I felt was relief. I was relieved to know my baby brother was dead. Tamari-san, who could blame you for that? I heard him threaten to kill you and Kankuro more than once. And I know you were afraid of him as we all were. Even if you were his sister, no one could blame you for feeling that. Tamari nodded but said nothing. No, no one would blame her. There was not a single person in the whole village who would not feel relief knowing Gara was gone. And that was the tragedy of Gara's lonely existence. That not one person who had known him would truly regret that he was gone. Not even his own sister. Tamari sat there in silence as Tanya finished cutting her hair short. When Tanya was done, her mistress waved a simple dismissal and she was left alone in her bedroom. Now that she was alone, she let the tears spill out. She knew the 25th rule of shinobi conduct and she would never cry in front of others. But now alone she gave into her grief. She cried for Gara and Kankuro and for all the chances that were now gone forever. XXXXXXXXXXX. The four of them were having dinner in a small restaurant in some little fire country village. Sasuke picked at his food completely uninterested. Kurenai-sensei, why are we here? It's only about 300 miles to Konoha. We could be there in 5 hours. Kurenai sighed and ate some rice. Sasuke, I am as anxious as any of you to get home and find out what happened. But we've been moving all day and need to rest. We'll be back home by early afternoon tomorrow. It's not as though it makes a difference now. Sasuke grunted. Well, that was true. They had completed their C rank without any trouble, and just as they were leaving they heard the news. Konoha had been attacked by the Sound and Sand villages. After some vicious and bloody fighting they had won and repelled the invaders. And that was all they knew. They had been moving at top speed the last 2 days to get back home. They knew their village had won. But the fate of friends, family, and homes remained unknown. He wished he could pick up a phone or even a high-powered radio communicator and call the Leaf Village. But such things didn't exist, of course. Doesn't it bother you that while we were having an easy time in Tea Country our village was fighting off an attack? Sasuke asked. I mean, we missed a war. Kurenai frowned but continued to eat her dinner. Of course it bothers me, Sasuke. If the fighting were still going on I would have us moving until we reached Konoha. But since the battle is over there would be no point in exhausting ourselves just to get home a day earlier. Everything is decided and whether we arrive today or tomorrow will not change anything. Kurenai-sensei is correct, Shino droned. It is only logical that as there is no longer an emergency that we arrive there in good condition. Sakura reached out and put a hand gently over his. I'm sure when we reach home everything will be fine, Sasuke-kun. He pulled his hand away. He really wasn't in the mood to try and deal with her. He got up from the table and put down some Ryu notes. I'm not hungry. I'm going for a walk. With that, he walked out. Sakura was quickly on her feet. Let him go, Sakura, Kurenai advised. I think he wants to be alone right now. But I just want to help. Sakura objected. He won't appreciate it, Kurenai said with a glum certainty. Give him some room for now. Sakura let out a sigh but sat back down. XXXXXXXXXX. Sasuke walked dejectedly through the little village's streets. He was worried about his mom and the rest of his clan. He was also bitterly frustrated that he had missed a golden chance to prove himself. Konoha had been attacked and he hadn't even been there. He'd been more than 1,000 miles away safe. He wanted to be great. He needed to be great. Yet everything seemed to conspire against him. He couldn't even manage to find his way into a war for Kami's sake. Sasuke. He stopped to look at an unfamiliar face. The person who had called to him was obviously a ninja. He had white hair and 2 little red dots in the middle of his brow. Whoever he was not a leaf nin. He pulled out a pair of kunai. Who are you? My name is Kimimaro and I serve a powerful master who wishes to meet you. I believe we have an acquaintance in common. Sasuke's interest was immediately piqued. Who might that be? Like you, he hides his true face. Sasuke smiled. If you seek power and are ready to bargain for it, come with me. Kimimaro leapt away. Sasuke hesitated only an instant before following. XXXXXXXXXX. There were 6 great houses of Suna. These were the 6 clans who originally founded Suna and they had always wielded the greatest power in the village. As clan head of Osama, Suleiman was the only clan head to have survived the battle by not going to it. The other 5 had all died in Konoha. The new clan heads were all younger and inexperienced. Suleiman nodded. I thank you all for coming here. To begin with, the council PF Wind has decided to yield to the demands received by us from the Hokage. That decision is made. I have not asked you here to decide what course we shall follow. I have asked you here to assist me in our village in carrying out the harsh demands we are now faced with. Have no doubt the terms are harsh. But also do not doubt that we are faced with only 2 choices, accepting them or destruction. We cannot hope to withstand an attack by Konoha and their Jinchuriki. Therefore, to preserve our village and the lives of our people, the council and I have made the decision to surrender. He puffed on his pipe a bit to give them the chance to speak. He was very relieved to see none of them willing to challenge him. They simply nodded. That was good. Clan heads could sometimes get very stubborn at the worst of times. Very well, let me read to you the terms. He held the document and began to go over the main points. To begin with, Suna surrenders unconditionally to the village within the leaves and accepts all moral responsibility for this conflict and for the breaching of our alliance. We agree to pay war reparations to the amount of 300 million Ryu. What? More than one of them screeched. That will ruin us. One of them said. I believe that is the point. Suleiman said dryly. That sum is ridiculous, there is no way we could raise it. Only 100 million is due immediately. We shall have to pay 20 million each year for the next 10 years. Suleiman stated. Even so, how can we raise 100 million Ryu so quickly? Simple, Suleiman said. Each of the 6 great houses will have to contribute 15 million Ryu. The remaining 10 million we shall raise through loans and tapping our reserves. We of the founding houses are the only ones with enough ready cash. Before they could begin screaming, he continued. I have already given the 15 million from Osama. Tamari jumped in. Since Sabaku is the richest, and is the leader of our clan, was the Kazekage who led us into this situation, we will commit 25 million so you will not need to empty the treasury. Suleiman nodded to her appreciatively. He doubted anyone else present would have made such a gesture. I warmly thank you for your generosity and willingness to sacrifice in this desperate hour. I am certain the rest of us shall follow your example. Some of the 4 did not like it. But with the 2 strongest houses willing, they would seem unforgivably selfish and small-minded if they did not. So the 4 of them all agreed. Now then, the next point, Suna ninjas will not be permitted to accept missions in any land save that of Wind. They are also permanently forbidden to attend any future Chunin exams or tournaments. Suna is forbidden to sign any treaties with foreign powers or make war without the permission of the Leaf Village. These terms are impossible. The objection came. To accept them would destroy us. To refuse them would destroy us. Suleiman said, I told you the terms were harsh. Please remember that had we crushed them instead, our conditions would have been no more merciful. He took a deep breath. These terms are designed to ruin us as one of the 5 great powers. From this time forward, we shall be a local power like grass or waterfall. How can we do that? The objector looked about, hoping for support. We cannot accept these terms when we know the disgrace it will bring. It would be better to resist and to die fighting. Say that only if you truly mean it. For if we resist, we will die fighting. Suleiman answered. Tamari turned to the objector. He was only a few years older than she was. Tell me, were you actually there in Konoha? Did you see the actual fighting? She spoke derisively. The man looked embarrassed and she knew the answer before he spoke. No. Well, I was. She looked around at everyone. Of all the people in this room, I was the only one who was there. And let me tell you something, I saw and felt Naruto's, their Jinchuriki's, power firsthand. If he comes here, we will all die. All the ninja we have left would last maybe 5 minutes against him. It's all well and good to talk about avoiding disgrace and making a last stand, it sounds very heroic. Maybe someday someone will make an epic poem about the fall of Suna. Is that what you want though? Do you really want everyone to die and our village to be destroyed? Do you want us to be condemned to never be more than a small weak village? He shot back. No, but that choice is gone. We lost that choice in less than an hour's fighting in the Leaf Village. Tamari declared. Even if we fight, our glory is lost. We can no more restore it than we can restore our war dead. Forget about our greatness. Now it is only a question of survival or death. Sabaku no Tamari speaks the truth. Suleiman said. What was lost in Konoha cannot be restored no matter what we do. We must act to preserve our village. The objector seemed to shrink in his seat as the others all nodded. Could we not at least try and negotiate to lessen some of these terms? Suleiman shook his head. The terms are not negotiable. And we must accept or reject them within 6 days, or the Hokage promises continued war. He paused and was relieved that there were no more objections. There is one more major condition. To ensure we abide by this surrender, each of the noble houses must give up a member to be hostage and to live in Konoha. For how long? Suleiman shrugged. For as long as they wish, perhaps permanently. Surprisingly, there were no objections over that. Taking hostages was an ancient custom that almost always involved the noble class. Once they accepted the idea of surrender, the idea of hostages came easily. The meeting lasted for another 20 minutes as details were worked out. As the clan heads began to leave, he asked Tamari to remain. Once they were alone, he spoke to her. Tamari, I thank you for your support. You made them see the truth of the situation. She shrugged. You were in the right. Our choices are to surrender or fight. We can't fight, so we have to surrender. Suleiman nodded. There is something I need to discuss with you. She grinned. It's about me becoming a hostage, isn't it? He slowly nodded. The terms require one hostage from each of the 6 great houses, and you are the last member of Sabaku. I understand, she said simply. I was ready to fight and die for Suna. If it helps the village, I can be a hostage for Suna. I can do nothing right now, but perhaps in a year or two the Hokage might be open to an exchange to allow you to return. Tamari shook her head. Don't bother. With my brothers gone, I have nothing left to bind me here. But this is your home. Don't you want to return? She shook her head. No, I have never had friends and I have no family now. Wherever I am, I will be alone. But what about the Sabaku name? He asked. She thought of all the pain and suffering that name had brought to Gaara and the village. What about it? With a slight bow she left, she would have to pack. XXXXXXXXXX. Kimimaro brought him to a clearing just outside the village. To say Sasuke was disappointed would have been an understatement. There was a pale, sweaty, sickly-looking ninja leaning against a tree. He was wearing a bulky black robe that completely covered him from the neck down. His first impression was one of frailty and weakness. This was hardly the sort of ninja he'd had in mind. You're Kabuto's master? He asked questioningly. Kimimaro sent him a cold glare. Show Lord Orochimaru respect. Orochimaru. Sasuke jumped back and drew his kunai. You led the attack on Konoha. Orochimaru smiled and laughed. Yes, and my only regret is that I failed to destroy it. He chuckled. Though I did take a little satisfaction in killing the third lord. You killed the third Hokage. That's right. Before you do something stupid like attack me, let us discuss the reason Kabuto told me of you. You should feel honored. I have gone to a great deal of trouble to meet with you here today and even put myself in a small amount of danger. Now, you want power. I can provide you with power, but in exchange you will become my servant. No, he said flatly. I'm doing this to save my village. I won't betray it. Orochimaru grinned. Ah, an Uchiha with principles. You truly are his brother, aren't you? Sasuke stiffened. What do you know about Itachi? Quite a bit. We were in the Sum organization for a time. However, I found the experience constraining and decided to go out on my own. Now Itachi really is powerful. If you want to try and match him, I can understand why you are looking for help. I don't want to match him, I want to kill him and one other person. Who? Sasuke frowned. What does that matter to you? Show respect. Kimimaro warned. Orochimaru laughed. Oh, that is all right, Sasuke-kun, keep your little grudge a secret. I don't mind, but you'll never be anywhere near Itachi's level without a great deal of help. I can give you that help. I won't betray my village. Sasuke said. Well, how about this? You send me a few reports about anything interesting that you run across and occasionally take care of a few things for me outside the village. How does that sound to you? Sasuke considered. He knew he was making a deal with the devil. Damn it, I'm too weak. I need more power to save the village and avenge my father. You won't expect me to kill anyone in the village then? No, but you may need to do some killing elsewhere. That doesn't bother me, I'm a ninja. He slowly nodded. He knew what he was doing was treason. Even worse, it was the basest sort of evil. But it was for a greater good. He focused in on that. The ends justify the means. I accept. Orochimaru smiled wickedly. Then kneel before me and call me master. His spine stiffened at that. But he slowly went down to his knees. As you wish, master. Orochimaru nodded. Now a few things you must know. This power I will give you will greatly increase your chakra and your physical strength and stamina as well. When you use the power, there will be a physical manifestation in the form of black marks upon your skin. The power will come from a seal I will place on you. No doubt when you return, your leaders will be frightened of your new power and will try to seal it. I suggest you not let them. You would still be able to draw upon it, but things will be easier for you if you are not required to hide its use. The mark takes quite a bit of getting used to. You will be unconscious for anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. And I recommend you tell your teammates that you followed a suspicious ninja out of the village and were ambushed. Do you understand, Sasuke-kun? Yes. Yes, what? Sasuke swallowed. Yes, master. Orochimaru laughed. Then his neck extended out from his body. Orochimaru's head came to Sasuke's neck where he bit down. Almost immediately Sasuke was screaming out in pain. Let's go, I am done here. Orochimaru spoke and the two of them got going. Lord, Kimimaro asked as they leapt through the trees. You did not mention to him that his odds of survival are only 1 in 10. Orochimaru smiled. Why would I? If he dies it does not matter. If he lives it does not matter. And had he refused because he feared the odds, I would have simply killed him. Feeling in a better mood, the two of them began the long journey back to the Sound Village. XXXXXXXXXX. She was the oldest among the 6 hostages. The rest were all children. It was generally considered easier for a child to adjust to a possible lifelong change than someone older. A couple squads of sand nins would escort them to the edge of Wind Country, and from there they would meet a leaf escort. A small crowd had gathered at the gate to wish them well. To the village they were all heroes sacrificing themselves. The irony was that if they eventually returned in say 10 to 15 years, they would be viewed with suspicion as foreigners. The families were all saying goodbye. Suleiman was hugging his little granddaughter and saying farewell. No one came over to her to try and wish her luck or say goodbye. It seemed somehow fitting that despite her name and wealth that she should be alone. All of the other hostages would have wagons follow them to Konoha filled with possessions. Hostages were treated very well, and usually permitted to live comfortably with whatever they brought with them. She had filled one backpack. She had a few personal items and some clothes. She would buy whatever else she needed in Konoha. As they left, she took one last long look around the village of Suna. She was sad to be leaving but not heartbroken. As she went out the gate, there were 2 things on her mind. She felt certain that she would never come back to Suna. Somehow she just knew as she left that she would never return. And she wondered if Shikamaru was alive and well and if he would hate her now.